In my dream, I flirted with a woman, laughing and playing on a small bed, and I spent nearly half a year with her in such a shameless way. But later, she came to me through the void while pregnant, put a long sword against my neck and said to me, "Lecher, do you know the consequences of betraying this emperor?" It was at this time that I learned that she was actually the Ice Lotus Empress, the ruler of the demon race of the Tianjuan continent during immortal training that sealed her memory. She actually did that kind of thing with a human. No wonder she always felt like something was missing after the training, and she got pregnant inexplicably in the end. She was able to peek into everything through the sacred object Tiantong mirror. The scenes in the mirror made her feel ashamed and angry. The domineering aura of the Ice Lotus Queen instantly soared to the sky, but she stared at the man in the image and could not muster the slightest killing intent. At this moment, the Tiantong mirror, which was supposed to end with her earthly experience, showed a marriage proposal scene on the screen. This really scared the Ice Lotus Queen. She was completely unable to control her emotions and stepped directly into the void. "Zhu Hui, you treacherous and heartless man. I must find you and make you pay the price for flirting with me." At this time, I had been looking for the woman in my dreams in vain, so I accepted my mother's blind date arrangement. I walked into Starbucks after work at noon. After waiting for a while, a gorgeous urban beauty sat in front of me. At this moment, Zhu Hui clearly felt that there were several strange gazes coming towards him around Starbucks. Most are from men. After all, the girl in front of him was not as beautiful as Liu Zuqing in his dream, but she is also considered a beauty. "Are you Zhu Hui? Hello, Aunt Wang introduced you, right?" Zhu Hui stretched out his hand, but noticed that the other party had no intention of shaking hands with him at all. He obediently retracted his hand again. The girl opposite sat down on the chair and raised her long beautiful legs. Balenciaga attracted countless eyes. "My name is Wang Ying. You should know my conditions. I will just get straight to the point. I graduated from a 985 university. I currently live stream and sell goods at home. My monthly income is stable at over 10,000 yuan. I don't have high requirements, I just want a house and a car." Hearing this, Zhu Hui breathed a sigh of relief. "This is not difficult. I will go home and discuss it with my parents." "Asshole, you're actually planning to marry another woman?" At this moment, a cold voice sounded in my mind again. Zhu Hui was stunned. "Damn, am I hallucinating again? Why is the frequency so high today?" The next moment, Huang Yingying noticed that Zhu Hui's attention was somewhat distracted, and she knocked on the table again. "I haven't finished yet. The car and house must be transferred to my name, and the house cannot be less than 150 square meters. And the car cannot be less than 300,000 yuan. As soon as these words came out, Zhu Hui's expression changed slightly. Noticing Zhu Hui's strange expression, Wang Yingying took a sip of her coffee. "Also, if you want to date me, you can't look at my phone. You can't ask about my whereabouts, and don't ask about my past. If you can do this, I can try to get along with you." "What's that expression on your face? A beauty of my level can get plenty of men to lick my ass with just a wave of my hand. I know your family's financial situation. If it weren't for your parents' clean background and the fact that you're a conservative person, I wouldn't have agreed to meet you. If you can find a girlfriend of my level, you'll be marrying up." Hearing this, Zhu Hui's mouth twitched violently. Because the eyes around who were constantly staring at Wang Yingying's beautiful legs in black stockings were enough to explain everything. We are not living on the internet, and there are not so many beautiful women in reality. Of the current imbalance in the ratio of men to women, it is indeed difficult to find a beautiful wife. But Zhu Hui would not spend all his family wealth. His parents had spent half their lives just to marry a woman. For Wang Yingying's level, the number of suitors must definitely not be less than 3 digits. What's more, she is also a female anchor. Zhu Hui had no competitiveness at all, and of course he had no interest in pursuing her. The next moment, Zhu Hui slowly stood up. "Let's split the bill for this coffee. We don't need to add each other on WeChat. Just transfer the money to my Alipay account. The account number is my phone number. Do you want to pay for your coffee as well?" "Down." Wang Yingying frowned in displeasure. "He's just a poor loser. I don't know why Aunt Wang is still praising him like crazy." Just then, there was a sudden noise outside the door. "Damn, this is amazing. Isn't that woman so beautiful? She looks like she walked out of a painting. Is she a cosplayer? She's wearing ancient costumes, looking so fairy-like and elegant. Isn't this the campus beauty of some nearby university? Campus belle, I think she's more than qualified to be the most beautiful girl in the entire university town. Forget it, people like us definitely don't stand a chance." The crowd blocked Zhu Hui and Wang Yingying's view. Many eyes that were originally focused on Wang Yingying also looked towards the gate. "Isn't it just a beautiful woman passing by? Why are these people so serious?" Zhu Hui shook his head helplessly. The world is really going downhill. But he was also a little curious. What kind of girl could make these white-collar workers sitting in Starbucks so excited? As soon as he looked up, Zhu Hui was completely stunned. I saw a beautiful figure in an ice blue dress standing in front of Zhu Hua. She has an oval face, willow-shaped eyebrows, and two shallow dimples next to her red lips. She must look very beautiful when she smiles. But at this moment, that delicate and pretty face that was enough to charm countless men was filled with a hint of deep resentment. At this moment, Zhu Hua was struck by lightning. Liu Zuking? How could Liu Zuking in the dream appear here? Do you know each other? When Wang Yingying saw Liu Zuking, she, as a woman, felt inexplicably ashamed of herself. She was so beautiful. This woman was truly so beautiful. It seems not an exaggeration to describe it as a banished immortal descending to the mortal world. How can a poor loser like Zhu Hua meet a girl of this level? Wang Yingying shook her head to reject her own guess. Snap! But the next moment, something happened that was beyond Wang Yingying's expectations. The Ice Lotus Queen raised her hand and slapped Zhu Hua in the face. Scumbag, didn't you say you would be responsible for me? Starbucks is so quiet that you can hear a pin drop. And all the noisy sounds had disappeared. Instead, there were countless people staring in astonishment. Everyone was staring at a man and a woman standing in the corner of Starbucks. The man opened his mouth and eyes wide, looking stunned. The woman's eyes were red, as if she had just cried. If it happened at an ordinary time, this would probably be an unscrupulous man deceiving a little girl and then being irresponsible. It's a pity that woman is so beautiful. As soon as she appeared, she attracted the attention of everyone in the audience. Liu Zuking? Is it really you? How did you find this place? Wow! As soon as these words were spoken, many people in the crowd imagined the entire plot in their minds. It seems that the unscrupulous scum who didn't want to take responsibility left without saying goodbye, and was followed by the affectionate girl for thousands of miles. But, why should he do that? Apart from being a little handsome, he didn't have any branded items on him. Almost indistinguishable from an ordinary person. How could a guy like this, who is just a loser in real life, be able to pick up such a top-notch girl? Countless onlookers were filled with indignation. Liu Zuking stared at Zhu Hua, the man who had given her everything for her earthly experience. You don't want to see me? Hearing this, Zhu Hua rubbed his eyes again. He felt like he was dreaming now. While he was unconscious, the goddess in his dream came to reality and slapped him if this wasn't a dream. What the hell was this? No, I thought you were. You two really know each other? Just then, Wang Yingying next to her suddenly spoke, staring at the two people in front of her with an awkward atmosphere. She felt her cheeks burning. As now I said that Zhu Hua was a loser and not worthy of a beauty of my level. As a result, the girlfriend's appearance caused an uproar among countless male colleagues in Starbucks. This was undoubtedly a big slap in Wang Yingying's face. She couldn't understand how a loser like Zhu Hua could attract the beautiful woman in the blue dress. Could it be sweet talk? But Liu Zuking doesn't look like she's in love. At the same time, Wang Yingying was still a little annoyed. Why do you want to go out on a blind date when you already have a girlfriend? At this moment, she even felt like she was caught cheating. At this moment, Liu Zuking suddenly glanced at Wang Yingying coldly, and that glance was filled with violence and murderous intent. Wang Yingying quickly picked up her handbag and ran to the side, patting her chest with a guilty look on her face. If she was prettier than Liu Zuking, she would probably look down on this kind of situation. You can't control your man, and your man can't control his legs. What does it have to do with me? This actually proves that this fair, rich and beautiful woman has enough personal charm. She is not the one who knows the truth, so how could she feel guilty? But Liu Zuking's appearance was far better than hers, so this sense of superiority naturally did not exist. Instead, I feel ashamed of myself and even have a feeling that I might have made a mistake. Could it be that the Zhu Hua in front of him is the son of some big boss? Or is it that Aunt Wang also doesn't understand many things and is hiding them from me? Beautiful lady, it doesn't matter if you've been hurt by a scumbag. The most important thing is to know how to turn back. You're still young, and you still have a wonderful life and an endlessly bright future. I can give you everything you want. I'm 41 years old, in the prime of my life, and unmarried. Do you want to consider it? Just then, a middle-aged man jumped out of Starbucks and handed over his business card with a smile. My name is Chen Wanjin, and I am currently the CEO of Hyundai Times, a listed company. I drive the Mavic outside the door. I have been receiving dividends for my annual income. I don't know the exact figure for this year, but it's at least 8 figures. If you don't mind, we can get to know each other briefly. Oh shit! Are you trying to steal my girl right in front of me? Upon hearing this, Zhu Hua became furious and wanted to hit someone. Liu Zuking's sudden appearance made him dizzy. He hadn't even figured out whether he was in a dream or reality. But no man could tolerate someone poaching someone right in front of him. Although you sound pretty cool for always pretending to be awesome. But, what does this have to do with me? I'm sorry, I'm pregnant. At this moment, Liu Zuking on the side spoke coldly. It was like a basin of cold water that directly extinguished the enthusiasm of the onlookers. When she was in the profound Tian continent, she was often approached by some self-righteous men because of her look. She was already accustomed to these tactics. This man was just like those children from big families that she met in Tianchuan continent. They liked to use cultivation techniques and cultivation resources to deceive ignorant girls. Pregnant. The middle-aged man was stunned. However, these 3 words had a greater impact on Zhu Hui, and his action that wanted to take action suddenly stopped. There were bursts of regret and heartbreak among the onlookers. Such a beautiful goddess is actually pregnant. The child she is pregnant with is that of a scumbag. God is so blind. It's okay to be pregnant. I prefer women with good smells. If you don't want to have an abortion, I can even allow you to give birth to the baby. However, the next moment, Chen Wanjin suddenly licked his lips. It seemed that the word pregnant was more tempting to him. That's true. Let someone else's son call you dad. It seems more interesting to play with a young woman with a baby. Fuck, this is fucking perverted. I guess most people don't intend to take this goddess seriously. She is so successful. Maybe she has one at home. Have you ever heard of the saying, the red flag is flying at home, and the colorful flags are flying outside? No wonder he's willing to be the scapegoat. Chen Wenjin reached out to pull the woman, but was blocked by Chen Hao. Oi, I've seen too many losers like you. You can't handle beauties of this level. I'm helping you raise your child and solving a big problem for you. Are you still not happy? When talking about the word master, Chen Wanjin even made a lewd hand-pinching gesture. Zhu Hua's eyes turned red instantly. After all, she was the lover with whom he had lived shamelessly in his dreams for half a year. How could he allow others to insult Liu Zuking like this? Fuck your mother. Bang! At this moment, before Chen Hao's hand fell on the man, Liu Zuking took action. Chen Wanjin suddenly flew backwards, knocked over several tables and chairs and fell to the ground. Many people didn't even see Liu Zuking's moves before the whole process was over. The woman was too lazy to pay attention to these small fry, and left a cold remark as she pulled Zhu Hui away. You are not worthy of raising his child. There were originally many onlookers who sympathized with Li Zuking's situation. They all felt a pain in their chest and almost cried out loud. My back teeth were all broken. But I still couldn't figure out where I lost. How did you find this place? Zhu Hui was almost dragged out of Starbucks by Li Zuking in a daze. After pinching himself several times, he finally slowly accepted the reality. The girlfriend in my dreams really came into reality. Li Zuking turned her head and glanced at Zhu Hui. You don't want to see me? This was the second time she said this. The first time was when they just met. However, when Zhu Hui wanted to explain, he was interrupted by Wang Yingying. Liu Zuking is extremely beautiful, and she can attract a lot of attention even when she walks on the street. Almost all the male compatriots passing by could not help but look at Zhu Hui twice more when they saw the intimate action of the two holding hands, noting that the young man was ordinary. Most of them would have a hint of jealousy in their eyes. I thought we were just a dream. A dream? This statement obviously caused Liu Zuking to misunderstand. Generally, after a one-night stand, men like to say coldly, forget it. Everything between us was just a dream. Liu Zuking thought Zhu Hui wanted to break up with her. Her temper as the Ice Lotus Empress suddenly flared up, and she glanced at him with a stern and dignified look. Zhu Hui was so scared that he swallowed back what he wanted to say. So what do you take me for? Is the dream over when I wake up? The increased decibel level once again attracted the attention of several passers-by. Zhu Hui nodded in astonishment, but then seeing Liu Zuking's gradually cold eyes, he quickly shook his head. I did not mean that. What do you mean? If you don't explain it to me, I don't mind sending you on your way. After saying this, Liu Zuking was so angry that she raised her hand and mobilized a bit of spiritual energy. However, compared to her ability to call the wind and rain in Zuantian continent, the power she can mobilize is less than 1% of that at her peak. When Liu Zuking kicked Chen Wanjin away just now, her attention was all on Zhu Hui. Only at this moment did she remember how furious she was when she saw the scene in the Tiantong mirror. She vowed to find this unfaithful man as soon as possible. In order to locate Zhu Hui, she broke through the void and traveled through the planes with spiritual power. The planes are intertwined, and there are countless spatial turbulences. Even the Ice Lotus Empress had to put in a lot of effort and lost more than half of her cultivation before she was able to lock on Zhu Hui's location by relying on the blood relationship of the child in her womb. So now she is very weak. I don't know how to explain it to you, but if the child is mine, I will definitely take responsibility. When Liu Zuking heard this, she was so angry that she almost bit her teeth off. What does it mean that the child is mine and I will definitely be responsible for it? This bastard man. I originally wanted to say that you are my only man, so of course the child is yours. But the next moment, Liu Zuking glanced at Zhu Hui with a cold gaze and said 4 words inferently. Do you want to die? Child, what child? Just then, a cry of surprise sounded beside the two of them. Liu Zuking and Zhu Hui both looked in the direction of the sound. Zhu's mother Li Yuzhan looked confused and acted as if she didn't even notice the fruits and vegetables she had just bought falling to the ground. She just noticed her son Zhu Hua from a distance. However, seeing that there was a girl with extraordinary temperament and extraordinary beauty in front of Zhu Hua, she was afraid of disturbing the young person, so she didn't dare to come over. Then she noticed that the two seemed to be arguing, so she followed them out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, the first words he heard were his son Zhu Hua saying to the stunning beauty in front of him, "The child is mine. I will definitely take responsibility." At this moment, countless images flashed through Zhu's mother's mind, and she felt that her 3 views were completely destroyed. "Mom, let me explain." Zhu Hua saw that his mother had a strange expression on her face, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat. "Shut up." However, Mother Li Yuzhen didn't care about anything and immediately grabbed Li Yuzuking's hand and stared at the girl's delicate face. A pair of slender willow-shaped eyebrows. Under the eyebrows are a pair of biting clear eyes, under the tall and beautiful nose, a pair of small and attractive pink lips, and 2 dimples on both sides of the cheeks. She must look very beautiful when she smiles. But at this moment, that pretty face that could make any man infatuated was filled with deep resentment and grievance, and her beautiful eyes were full of tears. The sight of her pearly teeth biting her red lips moved Li Yuzhen. "My daughter, you can tell me any grievances you have. My son has been a source of worry to me since he was young, but you must not be impulsive." After saying this, Li Yuzhen stared at Li Yuzuking's lower abdomen for a few seconds. Under normal circumstances, if someone came up and grabbed the Ice Lotus Empress's hand like this and stared at her for such a long time, Li Yuzuking would have probably crushed the other person's head. However, the person in front of him was Zhu Hua's mother, who was pregnant with Zhu Hua's child. The moment he saw Zhu's mother, he felt a natural sense of intimacy. At the same time, a frustration of leaving his hometown, leaving the Tianjuan continent, and even losing the cultivation he had practiced for many years also came to his mind. The usually aloof Ice Lotus Empress suddenly felt aggrieved. Li Yuzhen's gentle gaze seemed to be her only safe haven. As if by some strange coincidence, Li Yuzuking bit her lip and spoke. "Mom, I'm pregnant." As soon as these words came out, Zhu Hua felt his scalp tingling. "Don't shout, that's my mom." "Not your mom." He met his mother Li Yuzhen's unfriendly gaze. He suddenly panicked and was at a loss. "Mom, listen to my explanation. It's not what you think." Snap. The next moment, Li Yuzhen slapped Zhu Hua in the face without saying a word, and even said the wrong thing in anger. "Scumbag, don't call me son, I don't have a mother like you." Then he said to Li Yuzuking with regret. "What a sin, are you blind, girl? You like this bastard in our family." A loud slap was heard, although Yuzuking had heard Zhu Hua mention her mother's devilish status in the family during the 6 months of living together. But even the Ice Lotus Empress did not expect that Li Yuzhen would actually slap her son in anger just for a few words to a girl she met for the first time. During the time when her memory was sealed, she had a lot of good impressions of human society. But she also clearly understood the insidiousness and cunning of human beings and the sensitivity when interacting with each other in the adult world. So Li Yuzhen's unconditional trust. That slap actually brought the Ice Lotus Empress and her future mother-in-law closer together. "Mom, you're almost 50 years old, can you please respect me? Li Yuzuking and I are not what you think, and I never said I was irresponsible." Zhu Hua's mind was already in a mess, and now he was even more in tears. However, he didn't dare to lose his temper with Li Yuzuking, nor did he dare to vent his anger on his mother, the head of the family. I can only explain it with grievance. Unfortunately, his mother Li Yuzhen ignored him at all. "Girl, where are your family from? Where do you usually live in Zhangcheng?" Talking about family matters is probably the best way for people like Li Yuzhen who want to get closer to so-called young people when they reach middle age. However, if Li Yuzhen knew that the Ice Lotus Empress in front of her, who looked like a young girl, was actually older than her son, and her husband combined, no one knew what she would feel. Li Yuzuking didn't want to lie, so she bit her red lips lightly with her pearly teeth. "I'm not from here. I came from far away specifically to find Zhu Hua, so I don't have a place to stay in Zhangcheng at the moment." Look, what an honest girl. She herself didn't know how to explain the timing of her pregnancy. To be precise, it has been about half a year. However, human pregnancy usually lasts 10 months or at most a year, which is beyond this standard. Either Nez Ha or lazy. This joke of mine is not made up. Legend has it that his mother was pregnant with him for 81 years before giving birth to him. Li Yuzuking was telling the truth, but it sounded different to Li Yuzhen. An ignorant country girl was tricked into getting pregnant by a scumbag. And then she traveled thousands of miles to find her husband, but was ruthlessly rejected. A series of melodramatic headlines instantly popped into my mind. In other words, the party created the new China, and the headline party created the new internet. Li Yuzhen, a middle-aged woman who uses a 5G mobile phone, a 3G network, and surfs news from 10 years ago, has been brainwashed. No wonder such a pure and innocent girl would be so blind as to fall in love with my son. Faced with the fact that his son suddenly got a stunning beauty pregnant, Li Yuzhen felt that she was the one who should show her attitude. How can you find such a beautiful daughter-in-law who is willing to chase her husband thousands of miles without regrets? Even if the relationship between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is not good in the future, it is more comfortable to stare at such a beautiful face while arguing than to stare at an ugly face. So in front of Liu King and her son, she took out her cell phone and called her husband. Mr. Zhu, your son got another girl pregnant, do you care? I told you before that Zhu Hua's character would cause trouble sooner or later. You let him roam free all day long and still say that the child's systematic exam-oriented education is thoughtless. It's okay now, I have the idea, but I'm a little bit unscrupulous. Whether you care about this matter or not, I want to see you in Zhongqing this afternoon, otherwise, I can't live like this anymore. Let Zhu Hui go with you. You two, father and son, are leaving the house with nothing. Anyway, I like that girl very much. What do you like about her? Is it okay if she looks good? Li Yuzhen angrily vented her anger on her husband. I don't care if you don't come today. I will take that girl away from home and raise my grandson to adulthood. If it doesn't work out, I'll remarry and practice trumpet anyway. My mate Wuppet is useless. I told you before that I wanted a second child. You said Zhu Hui would have a bright future. Now it seems that your education has failed. In the end, Li Yuzhen habitually passed the blame to Lao Zhu. Zhu Hui at the side widened his eyes. His mother Li Yuzhen had always been the one who had the final say in the family. However, he never dreamed that in his mother's eyes, this big name of his had actually been wasted for a long time. And I had the idea of practicing the trumpet a long time ago. Mom, I love Liu King, but this all happened too suddenly and I didn't have time to prepare. As soon as these words came out, two sharp gazes fell on him at the same time. Zhu Hui trembled suddenly and suddenly felt that it was a mistake to speak. You should have thought about the consequences when you don't take safety measures. That's not what you said when you promised me. Li Yuzhen and Liu King spoke at the same time. Mother and daughter one after the other. Zhu Hui's eyes suddenly widened. Especially when he met his mother's gaze that looked like a scumbag, he felt like crying but had no tears. What is this? I don't even know when I became a scumbag. I just had a dream, and then a stunningly beautiful wife popped up and said she was pregnant with my child. What did I do wrong? Besides, I didn't say it was irresponsible. Is it true that dreaming and YY are against the law these days? Lao Zhu is a calm person. Zhu Hua's family is clean and both his parents are working. Otherwise the matchmaker Ant Wang would not have been so keen on whispering to Zhu's mother Li Yuzhen. Old Zhu has been working in the news media for many years and is able to keep up with current affairs. Mr. Zhu was also shocked when he heard that his son had got the girl pregnant. What did you say, Lao Zhu? Let that bastard answer the phone. I don't want to talk to him. Call him yourself. Middle-aged women also have their own pride. After saying this, Li Yuzhen hung up the phone. The loving eyes fell on Liu King, and the more he looked at her, the more pleasing she was. How many people are there in your family? 2, and a younger sister. Do you usually eat strong or light flavors? My whole family likes light soups. This, I know. Zhu Hui told me when we lived together. Li Yuzhen's eyes suddenly widened. You guys are living together? This little bastard didn't even tell me. Fuck him. It's easy to cook his favorite dishes. I can start teaching you today. You both have children. And I don't know why, but I just like you. The first time I saw you, the more I see you, the more I like you. You must try some of my specialties when you have time. Don't be too rude in front of younger people. Liu King has left a deep impression on Li Yuzhen. Preconceived ideas have allowed middle-aged women who want to have grandchildren to analyze several key points. First, the girl is simple-minded. Otherwise she wouldn't travel thousands of miles to look for her husband. Second, you must leave a good impression, especially if the girl is blind and deceived into getting pregnant. She must feel helpless and uneasy inside. Third, given that the indisputable fact that blindness is beneficial to the continuation of the Zhu family's bloodline, the second item is crossed out. To sum up, Li Yuzhen came to a conclusion. First, stabilize the girl's mentality and save the fetus. However, she persuaded her son to get married, and a year later, both mother and child were safe and everyone was happy. Ding ling ling. This is Zhu Hui's phone ringing. It was likely that Mr. Zhu hadn't seen his wife like this for many years and was frightened by his wife's call. So I immediately called my son. Hello? Father, what's going on between you and that girl? If you don't want to take responsibility, why did you get her pregnant? Father Zhu Mingyuan was relatively calm. After all, with an impulsive personality like Li Yuzhen in the family, a steady man was definitely needed to maintain the balance of the family of three. His questions were to the point, and went straight to the heart of the matter. Yu Hua swallowed, turned his head and looked at Li Yuzhen, who was talking non-stop about parenting on the other side, and smiled bitterly. Then he moved away from the two women and spoke in a low voice. Dad, you will believe me no matter what I say, right? you go first. Mr. Zhu actually knew his son's character very well. He was not honest, but he was definitely not well behaved either. They are the kind of students who are neither good students nor bad students. He is considered a marginal figure among those who are often called upon to be their parents. This kind of people is very common. If you are a little smart, you can even take the exam and pass it just by flipping through a book. However, he was forced to study hard until late at night and to be in the top 10 in his grade. They either have a stomachache or a sore throat. Lying is cheap anyway. But what is strange is that these people generally have good physical education performance. They can skip other classes, but they have to attend computer and physical education classes even if they are late. Even more iconic is that they also show unique talents in a particular sport. But this time, things happened really suddenly and were a little out of the ordinary. Even Mr. Zhu, who has always been calm and composed, began to have some doubts about his son. If I say that what happened between us was just a dream, would you believe me? There was a sudden silence on the other end of the phone. Only the sound of the old fan in Lao Zu's office could be heard. And the creaking sound very livened up the atmosphere. After a while, Zhu Mingyuan lit a cigarette sullenly and said with a grunt, "Don't call me again. I'll pretend that I never gave birth to a son like you." After he finished speaking, a busy tone came from the other end of the phone. Are they really planning to open a small account? Of course Lao Zu and Li Yuzhen would not divorce. A phone call was just to scare their son, whose life seemed to be going astray. They were in their 40s or 50s, how could they really get divorced? Even if you want to open a small account, you must have the energy to do it. However, the couple probably never dreamed that things were not at all as they imagined. In short, I just want to say one thing. I don't care what method you use, even if you have to cheat or coax her. You have to keep her if you give up such a beautiful girl. Are you willing to do that? While her mother Liu Zuqing, with curiosity in her eyes but an indifferent look to the outside world, walked to the door of the house. Li Yuzhen, who had calmed down a lot, finally found a chance to have a good talk with her son. Hearing this, Zhu Hua touched the tip of his nose in dismay. I understand, Mom. Don't you still have to go to the hospital to take care of Grandpa? It's already late, and he has a bad stomach, so he has to eat on time. Li Yuzhen slapped the back of her head when she heard her son remind her. Oops, I almost forgot something important. They hurriedly prepared a pot of thick soup and rushed out of the room under Liu Zuking's curious gaze. However, before leaving, Li Yuzhen still gave him 2 words of warning. Xiaoyu doesn't have a place to stay in Zhangcheng. She came here just for you. I just avoided you young people because you were chatting, but if I don't see Xiaoyu next time I come back, you can expect to be punished. Anyway, I have chosen this daughter-in-law. After saying this, Li Yuzhen said hello to Liu Zuqing and left Zhu Hua and Liu Zuqing in the corridor. The empty corridor suddenly became quiet. Zhu Hua touched his cheek, stared at Liu Zuqing and muttered in his heart, "Am I still dreaming? Forget it, let's go in first." With this thought in mind, Zhu Hua waved at Liu Zuqing. "Let's go home." Liu Zuqing naturally returned to her cold expression when facing Zhu Hua. "It's your home, not mine. Also, you haven't explained to me why you stopped contacting me. After leaving Mulberry Village you didn't even bother to look for me." "I didn't contact you. Auntie, my mom almost sent me to the hospital as if I were crazy because of me looking for you. You don't even have a cell phone, how can I contact you?" As he spoke, Zhu Hua took out his cell phone and waved it in front of Liu Zuqing. After all, she was from the profound Tiyin continent, and had no idea about the technological products of another dimension's human society. She was a little curious when she saw the brand new iPhone 14 Pro Max in Zhu Hua's hand. "What is this? What?" After meeting Liu Zuqing this time, Zhu Hua clearly felt that the way she spoke seemed to have some subtle changes compared to before. But Zhu Hua didn't care. After all, this was the person he had been thinking about day and night. In this short moment, he has adjusted his mentality, even if it is just another dream. He is willing. "When you were in Mulberry Village, I told you that I would buy you a pager, but you said you didn't know what it was for. It seems normal that you can't find anything on the internet. You have been isolated from the outside world for too long. If the scenery there wasn't so ordinary, I would have thought that the place you live in is a scene from Peach Blossom Spring." After saying that, Zhu Hua unlocked the screen. But the next moment, he smiled awkwardly. And Liu Zuqing's expression also flashed a hint of unkindness for a moment. Both of them were staring at the senior sister in cool clothes named Mai on the lock screen. Actually, this was nothing. Many boys who like the two-dimensional world might have anime characters as their screensavers even if they had a girlfriend. Zhu Hui was just about to explain something. Liu Zuqing suddenly snatched it away, with mockery dancing in her eyes. "New love?" As 2 words uttered gently made the temperature between them drop infinitely. "My new favorite yarn. Are you jealous of paper people?" "Misunderstanding. This is an anime character, how can I explain it to you?" Zhu Hua hesitated. The next moment, Liu Zuqing sneered. "No need to explain, just tell me where she is and I'll go find her." Senior Mai? Where is she? Forehead. Zhu Hua's mouth twitched. Kanagawa Prefecture. Actually, she's an anime character. What does her profession have to do with me? It's not a profession, it's a character in a cartoon. Have you seen Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf? No. Zhu Hui was suddenly overwhelmed when he was in the countryside before. He didn't find it so difficult to get along with Li Zuking. The two of them should still be able to communicate on the same channel. Hi sir, play the first episode of Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf. Now playing Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf. A cold machine sound suddenly came from the phone. This really frightened Liu Zuking. She threw her phone to the ground and stomped on it. She stared at Senior Mai on the lock screen and said coldly, "So you, a vixen, are hiding in here? Vixen? Hiding inside?" Seeing Liu Zuking stepping on it again, and the dark purple iPhone 14 shattered into pieces, Zhu Hua finally reacted and shouted suddenly, "Oh shit, my phone." Liu Zuking narrowed her eyes. "Cell phone, I see that, that's the nickname you call that little bitch, right? Mei Senpai is a daimyo, and mobile phone is the nickname between Zhu Hui and the other party. What a dog man. What a pet name. Everyone has a cell phone." Liu Zuking still didn't understand what a mobile phone was. Because Zhu Hu was squatting aside and almost crying. This was what he got after waking up from a coma. He made up his mind and overdrew his credit card. With gritted teeth he experienced an accident, and the world opened up instantly. It's great to reward yourself with the latest mobile phone. And he didn't even have the chance to show off in front of his good friend Lin Hao before he was crushed by Liu Zuking. Does cell phone mean the same thing as madam? Otherwise, why is he so sad? Does this world still have madams? Otherwise, why does everyone have cell phones? In Liu Zuking's mind, everyone having a mobile phone is probably the same as everyone having a wife. You know, even in the Tianjuan continent, not every adult demon has a wife. Several big questions came to Liu Zuking's mind. Zhu Hui called me baby at the time. I remember asking him what baby mean. They said everyone has a baby after marriage. I asked him again, "Am I your baby?" He nodded firmly without hesitation. A baby should also be what my wife meant. There are mobile phones and babies. Could it be that this is a world where people can have 3 wives and 4 concubines? Although she was muttering in her heart, Liu Zuking remained calm. A love rival had just been murdered by me. She suddenly felt much better, and even had a sense of pleasure from having successfully taken revenge. But even if this world allows 3 wives and 4 concubines, how can I belong to the same man as others? The next moment, Zhu Hua suddenly felt a darkness in front of his eyes. As if someone was standing in front of him. "Okay, stop crying." Looking up, he saw that the ice lotus empress had no joy or sadness, and looked down at Zhu Hua calmly. "The phone is dead, now all you have left is the baby." The phone is dead. Now all you have left is the baby. Look, what a stupid sentence this is, but it came out slowly from Liu Zuking's round and rosy red lips, and she still had a serious look on her face. Babies are people, and mobile phones are objects. If normal people look at these two things, they probably won't put them together when making sentences. Except for husband, when will you buy a new mobile phone for your baby? Zhu Hui even forgot to feel sad and stared at Liu Zuking in astonishment. "Are you okay? Why are you comparing yourself to your phone?" "I'm not competing with her. If I don't like someone, I'll just kill him. What do you think I'm doing? But it's just an innocent cell phone." Hearing this, Zhu Hua's nose twitched and he almost cried out again. "I know, but she made me unhappy." Hearing this, Zhu Hua felt so miserable that he could not even cry. "So I can't play with my phone anymore?" Carrying the remains of the cell phone girl, Zhu Hua pushed open the door with a wry smile. He adjusted his mindset. "After all, I can only blame myself for not looking for Mulberry Village carefully, otherwise why wouldn't Li Zuking and her daughter have to suffer so much? Throwing a phone to Ventanger is acceptable. Are you hungry? I'll use the landline to order takeout for you." Ignorance. "I am the dignified Ice Lotus Empress, a rare genius in the Snow Lotus clan for 100 years now. I am the demon princess of Tianjuan continent, and I have already achieved fasting." But before she could finish the rest of the sentence, Liu Zuking's stomach started to growl. Only then did she remember that she had already wasted more than half of her cultivation in order to find Zhu Hua, the unfaithful man. Fortunately, Zhu Hua went into the bedroom as soon as he entered the house and did not hear the embarrassing sound. Zhu Hua walked around the bedroom and found a small card of the delivery man, then walked out. "You have been isolated from the world for too long. And many things are unclear to me, although I don't know how you found this place. To be honest, I am very touched. You watch TV for a while. I'll order some takeout." There was no ready-made food at home, so Zhu Hui ordered a KFC delivery. Meeting Liu Zuking's suspicious and cold eyes, he wiped the sweat from his back. Today, he wore formal clothes for a blind date. For a mischievous boy like him who always occupied the private rooms during school, it was extremely difficult for him to wear formal clothes. In addition, Liu Zuking suddenly appeared in reality. Zuhua felt it necessary to take a shower to calm himself down. I'm going to take a shower, call me when the takeaway arrives. After saying that, he turned around and ran into the bathroom, and soon the sound of running water was heard from inside. But the sound of water mixed in. Zuhua dared to talk to himself. When I was with her in my dreams before, I didn't think she was so difficult to get along with. There was no trace of the man in front of Liu Zuking in the room. She wasn't in a hurry. Since her rival in love had died in her hands anyway, so she was in a good mood. He casually glanced around the simple 3-bedroom apartment, and his eyes fell on the large black mirror in the middle of the room. This is naturally the television. What's this? Liu Zuking looked at this novel thing with some curiosity. At this moment, the screen of the TV set that was set to play, The Legend of Zhen Huan, suddenly lit up, and 2 pairs of men and women instantly appeared on the screen. My dear lady, this is the newly tributed golden osmanthus. The empress in the palace specifically instructed that more osmanthus flowers be planted in Sui Yujuan to show that a new noble has arrived and bring good luck to the harem. Middle-aged women like Li Zhen like to revisit classics when they have nothing to do. For example, My Fair Princess, The Legend of Zhen Huan, The Legend of Mi Yui. Whether it is the house in his hometown or the place Zuhua rents now, whenever she comes, the TV will be set to play automatically at the right time. This can also be considered as a pastime for rural women to pass the time when they are bored. However, the sudden lighting of the TV screen obviously scared Liu Zuking again. She stared at the girl on the screen with unfriendly eyes. Who are you? No one responded, and the plot of The Legend of Zhen Huan continued to play on the screen. Liu Zuking raised her eyebrows immediately, and a stream of ice blue spiritual energy gathered in her palm. Bang! Boys shower very quickly, especially when there is a member of the opposite sex in the room. Sunzu Hui came out wearing a bathrobe. What was that sound just now? He walked into the living room suspiciously. The next moment, the whole person was struck by lightning. I saw the LCD hanging on the wall emitting black smoke. The LCD screen was shattered all over the floor, and there was a pungent smell that was caused by a short circuit in the wires and the burning of the fuse in the internal circuit. Zuhui had only smelled this smell on hair dryers before. What did you do? His eyes widened. Liu Zuking frowned her pretty brows. A few guys just appeared in there. I talked to them, but they dared to ignore me, especially when I told them to stay away from me. These guys actually got closer and closer. Moreover, some of the men would look at me with a playful gaze from time to time. The worst thing was that they would come close to me with only one eye showing. I've seen that look too many times. It's just that they have bad intentions. I'll just strike first. What? The corner of Zuhua's mouth twitched suddenly. Only one eye is exposed and it comes over to look at you. Are you sure that's not a close-up? Hiss. Just then, the cold air from the air conditioner blew. Zuhui forgot everything he wanted to say and couldn't help but complain. Why did you forget to turn off the air conditioner when I left? The next moment, Zuhu looked at Li Zuking, who was lightly dressed. My mother has turned the air conditioner down low. Aren't you cold? Cold? Joke. Li Zuking sneered. Only ants are affected by the external temperature. I am the leader of the Snow Lotus clan. You ask me if I am cold? Aqyu. Before she could finish her words, her voice became smaller and smaller. At the end, she sneezed in a naive way and sniffed her cute little nose. That shouldn't be the case. Why would I be afraid? Aqyu. Seeing this, Zuhua scratched the back of his head in dismay. I like to set the air conditioner to a very low temperature. I always forget to turn off the air conditioner when I go out. When I am at home, I often forget to turn off the air conditioner when I go out. After I came back, I felt sad and annoyed. With nowhere to vent his anger, he finally grabbed his father Laozu and started cursing at him. Anyway, who remembers when the air conditioner was turned on and who turned it on? Often the conversation will be, you turned on the air conditioner and didn't know how to turn it off. Would you be happy if you wanted to freeze us to death? Don't you have to pay for electricity? You don't feel bad about it, but I do. How can you two? Father and son, just waste it. Usually at this time Zuhui cannot jump out to mediate the fight. Otherwise, Li Zhen would be alone against the father and son. You ungrateful bastard, how did you think our family survive all these years? It's all because of me saving and frugality. If it were up to you and your son, you would have been begging on the street a long time ago. How can you still study and have food to eat? You're going to starve. The innocent father and son could only endure the criticism in silence. Of course, they both knew it well. The air conditioner remote control usually never passes through the hands of the father and son, whether in Zuhu's current two-bedroom apartment or in his hometown county. But who can blame a middle-aged woman for being so unreasonable and dictatorial? But why can't she be missing at home? Zuhui couldn't help but smile when he thought of his mother. However, the beautiful girl in front of him, Liu Zuking, seemed to be more of a headache. Are there still people who don't know about mobile phones and televisions these days? Is Sanchun village so backward? Just then, There was a knock on the door. Looks like the takeaway has arrived. Zhu Hui ran to open the door and picked up the air conditioner remote control from the kitchen. Bite. A crisp sound. I turned off the air conditioner. It will be back in a while. The temperature is just right now. Let us eat first. Would you like some Coke? What is Coke? When I was in Mulberry Village, it seemed that the store really didn't have this stuff. It's very sweet, you can try it. I've been drinking it since I was a child. As he said that, he handed the Coke in his hand to Liu Zuking. However, perhaps it was the slight beeping sound from the air conditioner that attracted the attention of the country girl Liu Zuking. She stared at the big white box on the eaves. Lost in thought. Accidentally, my hand slipped and the Coke fell to the ground. Sizzle. All I saw was brown liquid bubbling on the floor. The small bubbles appear quickly and disappear quickly. Just the violent shaking caused it to increase to a terrifying number, and the joyful brown droplets seemed to be boiling on the floor. Zhu Hui. Liu Zuking. The next moment, a fragrant breeze blew. Liu Zuking kicks Zhu Hui away with one foot, and spiritual energy flew in her palm. She said angrily, "You are a heartless and ungrateful man just because I killed your phone. You want to poison me, baby?" Zhu Hui's Adam's apple rolled. Misunderstanding. For the next hour, Zhu Hui tried his best to prove that Coke was not poisonous. He drank 3 of 4 bottles in one breath and performed the second set of National Primary School students' radio gymnastics with great vigor. It seemed that Zhu Hui was fine and indeed not affected. Liu Zuking then chose to skip this beautiful misunderstanding. Of course, she couldn't understand Zhu Hui's explanation of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbonic acid decomposition and so on. All she needed to know was that the brown, sweet liquid was non-toxic. In the evening, Zhu's mother Liu Zhen made a phone call. After asking some indirect questions about Liu Zuking, Zhu Hu evaded the question with vague answers. Knowing that Liu Zuking was not leaving, the mother contentedly agreed to stay in the hospital tonight to accompany her. It just so happens that my grandfather is going to have surgery in the next few days and he needs someone to take care of him. The mother and son see each other every day. And there are not so many gossips about family matters. Especially since Liu Zhen is now completely focused on having a grandson, she repeatedly warned Zhu Hui not to let any lust get to his head, lest he get upset. "I'm so horny, I have to be able to beat her." Zhu Hui glanced at Liu Zuking, who was staring at the iPad in the living room, watching Pleasant Goat and Big Wolf with great interest. The woman crossed her legs, her fair face showing calmness, and she looked so peaceful under the light. Especially those peach blossom eyes that are twinkling with starlight. Like a clear pond. Ordinary men probably don't dare to look her in the eye. Even though Zhu Hui had lived with her shamelessly for half a year in his dream, he still felt astonished when he saw her again. If I could spend a night with such a stunning beauty, it would be worth dying for. She's pregnant with my child? All this seems unreal, like a dream. Oh no, this is all just a dream. At this moment, Liu Zuking, who was sitting on the sofa, spoke inferently without even raising her head. "If you stare at me with that filthy look again, I will dig your eyes out. Don't think I don't know what you are thinking. If you flirt with me here, I will definitely make you pay." As soon as these words came out, Zhu Hui quickly shifted his gaze. However, I couldn't control what I was thinking in my mind, and a thought even popped up in my mind: if my future wife really looked like this, it would be comfortable even if I took her home and treated her like a porcelain doll. After all, even if they were arguing, staring at such a pretty face was better than looking at an ugly female Tyrannosaurus. Speaking of which, why do you always speak in a cold tone after we met this time? I am pleased. Depend on. Closed chat. After being retorted, Zhu Hui became much more obedient. Unable to figure out Liu Zuking's current temper, Zhu Hui could only smile bitterly and go into the room. Liu Zuking, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room, glanced in the direction of Zhu Hui and touched her belly. Now it seems that he has entered a state similar to the mortal world experience, just as I judged when I recovered my memory in Mulberry Village. So, the plane where we met is not the current world. In this case, it's normal that he can't find me. So, this guy is barely trustworthy, right? After saying this, a deep look flashed across Liu Zuking's eyes. The entire demon race has high hopes for me, and regards me as the last trump card to deal with the demon race's moon lord. If the elders knew that because of my pregnancy, I have not been able to achieve a perfect breakthrough in my earthly training and challenge the heavenly Tao, they would definitely kill this tiny life without any explanation. Speaking of this, a hint of reluctance flashed in Liu Zuking's eyes. Then there were bursts of cold light. No one can touch my child, no one can. Even if you want to go back, at least you have to wait until I give birth to this child. No words were spoken that night. The next day when Zhu Hui woke up, he searched the whole house but could not find any trace of Ice Lotus Queen Liu Zuking. At this moment, Zhu Hui's heart suddenly sank. I can still smell the faint fragrance of a woman. But when the fragrant breeze faded, the icy blue figure disappeared without a trace. Is this another dream? Or rather, a dream within a dream? Just then, there was a knock on the door, bringing him back to his thoughts. Who is it? Open the door. Liu Zu King's voice? Not a dream? Zhu Hua's heart was like a roller coaster, going through ups and downs. And he ran to open the door. Where have you been? How dare you run around here alone when you're unfamiliar with the place? What if you run into some bad guys? Outside the door, there stood a graceful and cool figure. Who else could it be but Liu Zu King? Hearing this, Liu Zu King raised her eyebrows in surprise. What should I do if I meet a bad guy? Are you worried about something happening to me? It was rare that Zhu Hua scolded Liu Zu King, who had a cold temperament like a banished immortal and exuded an aura of keep away from strangers. Nonsense. You're still pregnant with my baby, so of course I'm worried about you also. What do you think of my place? You come and go as you please without even saying hello. Do you still have me as your boyfriend? Halfway through his words, Zhu Hua hesitated. Originally, both of them already had a child, but Liu Zu King got pregnant before marriage. If Zhu Hua regarded himself as the husband, but Liu Zu King did not admit it in her heart, it would seem that Zhu Hua was being a little self-indulgent. There are not many people in this world who can hurt me. Liu Zu King stared at Zhu Hua's anxious and burning gaze, and for a moment she even forgot to resist. Her delicate hand was held by the man, and facing Zhu Hua's anger, she pouted her face, at a loss. If it were the Tianquan continent, anyone who dared to touch the Ice Lotus Empress so casually and talk to her angrily would probably have his head crushed in a matter of minutes. But she stared at the concerned look in the man's eyes. Liu Zu King suddenly felt guilty for no reason. Zhu Hui automatically ignored Liu Zu King's previous sentence. After all, you are a girl, and you are so pretty, it's easy for bad guys to target you. Zhu Hua had a bit of male chauvinism in his heart. He gave a few instructions and then asked suspiciously. You didn't even say hello when you left, so where did you go? I got some food. After saying that, Liu Zu King raised the plastic bag in her hand. There were 2 servings of white porridge, eggs, pickles and other breakfast items. Just tell me if you're hungry, and I'll go out and buy some. Noticing that there were 2 breakfasts, Zhu Hui was slightly touched. There is no need to guess, you know that the other one is naturally prepared for yourself. You came all the way to see me. So you probably don't have much money on you, right? How much is the breakfast? I'll reimburse you. Oh, and by the way, did you leave in a hurry and didn't bring any luggage after we go out today? I'll buy you some clean clothes and toiletries. Zhu Hu was deeply moved when Liu Zu King came to see him while pregnant. He doesn't want to take advantage of women. Purchase? Why buy it? What? What and why to buy? At this moment, Zhu Hu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. But it be that Liu Zu King exchanged something for this breakfast? It seemed to be true when I was in Mulberry Village. The people there are simple and honest. And there are few places where money can be used, so most of the time it seems that they barter. But the next moment, the words that came out of Liu Zu King's cherry mouth petrified Zhu Hui on the spot. If I want something, I can just grab it. Why do I need to buy it? Stolen. Are you kidding me? No. Do you want to eat it? If not, I will throw it away. Liu Zu King raised her oval face impatiently. The corners of Zhu Hu's mouth twitched violently. I thought the woman was probably joking with me. Who would fight for breakfast these days? But about 5 minutes later, someone knocked on the door again. Zhu Hu wiped his mouth and ran to open the door suspiciously. I saw 2 men who looked like police officers from the police station standing in front of a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked into the room with a sly look. He noticed the cool and pretty figure at first sight, and immediately pointed in the direction of Liu Zu King. Comrade police officer, it was her. She was the one who stole my breakfast. I wanted to argue with her, but she almost hid me before she left. She said, "It's your honor that I like your things. Hand them over and I'll let you go if you're not afraid of death. You can give it a try." Blam! Zhu Hui was suddenly struck by lightning. The eggs in my hands almost fell to the ground. This sentence structure is really Liu Zu King's speaking style. Could it really be stolen? The 2 community police officers were also speechless. They were shocked when they heard the middle-aged man call the police and say that someone had stolen his breakfast. What era is this? There are still people robbing for a bite of food. Young man, what is your relationship with this girl? Don't be nervous. We're just asking casually. It's normal for boyfriends and girlfriends to live together now, and it's not against the law. The policeman took out a notebook with a smile and asked Zhu Hui, "Do you know what she just did?" A black line appeared on Zhu Hu's forehead. Did I say that I knew or I didn't know? Saying that you know makes it seem like you are aiding and abetting the evil. But Liu Zu King did tell him that it was stolen. But Zhu Hui didn't believe it at that time. A police officer didn't make things difficult for Zhu Hui and waved at Liu Zu King. "Little girl, please come and register." What era is this? Is it worth it just for a breakfast? The uncle next to him shrank his head. That's right, it's unnecessary to threaten someone's life just for a breakfast. And you, young man, I see your house is well decorated. Is this your wedding house? Rent. Oh, it seems like she's a white-collar worker working nearby. In that case, her financial situation shouldn't be that bad, right? How come you didn't care about your girlfriend going out to rob people? Zuhu's face turned red after being told a few words by the police officer. You are quite courageous, you actually dare to come here. Do you really think that I will not kill anyone? At this moment, Liu Zuking's cold voice suddenly sounded slowly. Now that we live in a society ruled by law, this word has become a bit sensitive. The temperature in the room dropped by 3 points infinitely. The middle-aged man was startled. Comrade police officer. Look, I'm not lying, am I? This little girl said the same thing when she stole my breakfast. Killing for breakfast. Zuhua was even more frightened. How come Liu Zuking's behavior is just like the chivalrous thief in martial arts novels? What kind of era is this? How can someone eat without paying, and then come to rob people? What's more, robbing a breakfast is no big deal. But if it turns into intimidation and threat to the safety of others, then it becomes a serious matter. He quickly apologized to the uncle. I'm sorry, my girlfriend isn't feeling well. I'll give you the money for breakfast. Thank you for your hard work, police officers. The policeman was somewhat speechless and said without even looking up. Ask your girlfriend to show her ID card and provide her ID number, we need to register here. Also, young man, you have to apologize to this uncle, look how scared he is. Zuhuan nodded and bowed repeatedly. Yes, I'm really sorry to cause you trouble. Liu Zuking, what's your ID number? There is no such thing in the profound sky continental, so. I didn't do anything wrong, why should I pay compensation? Why should I apologize? Are you looking down on me? Just then, a fragrant breeze came from beside Zhu Hui. Liu Zuking stood in front of Zhu Hui. The next moment, Liu Zuking looked at the two policemen with a disdainful look. You thought you could challenge me with just a random soldiers. I just stole some of your food, but you actually came to my door. Before she finished speaking, the expressions of the two police officers became strange. If we fight, even the three of you combined are no match for me. I want to see who wants to die first. The two policemen now habitually reached for the tear gas spray at their waists. Stand back, little girl. We are mediating your civil dispute. If you try to attack the police, you will be in big trouble. This is our first warning. Second warning. Liu Zuking remained calm and walked towards the three people step by step. Damn, the police have given us a second warning. The third time will result in compulsory detention. Zhu Hui was shocked when he saw this. Liu Zuking is trying to complicate a simple matter. He roared quickly. Liu Zuking. Liu Zuking just turned her head. Zhu Hui grabbed the woman's head and kissed her red lips hard. Wow, at this moment, the Ice Lotus Empress, who was originally furious and even prepared to kill two people to add to the fun, suddenly became at a loss. Zhu Hui's kiss came quite suddenly. Until Zhu Hui kissed her for about 10 seconds. Liu Zuking didn't react at all. As if she was dreaming. Zhu Hui's feeling was even stronger. This was the first time for the craftsman, who had been working for more than 20 years, to kiss a girl's lips in real life. Soft, creamy, like marshmallow. Especially when two people are face to face. The orchid-like musk scent emanating from Liu Zuking's nostrils could be clearly smelled. So fragrant, so sweet, so soft. Good fellow. You are indeed a young man. At this moment, a policeman nearby couldn't help but smack his lips. So our police mission hasn't even finished yet, but we've already been fed a mouthful of dog food. The two policemen are veterans and have seen all kinds of scenes. When I was intern, I also cracked down on prostitution and caught some people soliciting prostitution. It was just a kiss between two young people who were suddenly aroused by the situation. It wasn't a big deal. The two of them didn't say much, but just looked at the middle-aged man. For a breakfast costing a few dollars, the perpetrator may indeed be suffering from a mental illness, and the family members are being too modest. Don't you think? The police officer did not take the initiative to help the middle-aged man forgive Liu Zuking. But the basic meaning of his words is that it's better to just forget about such trivial matters. From time to time, a voice came from the intercom asking them to go to a certain floor in a certain community for mediation. In fact, these community police officers are the busiest. Although there are rarely any major crimes in the community, there are always some minor family matters. Things like a middle-aged couple quarreling and getting divorced, a child not wanting to go to school and seeking help from the police, or an elderly person in a household going missing account for a relatively high proportion. So it's like a middle-aged man having his breakfast robbed. Although this was the first time they had encountered such a situation since they joined the police force, it was not serious. A middle-aged man stared at the two young people hugging and biting each other in front of him and gave a bitter smile. What the hell is going on? Forget it, breakfast doesn't cost much. I was just mad at that girl for threatening me. Since she has mental problems and her boyfriend has apologized, let's just forget about it. Hearing this, the two policemen nodded. This also means that today's affairs have come to an end here. The three of them had just gone downstairs and had not walked far when a male voice suddenly came from upstairs, screaming something like, "I was wrong," or "Dad, spare my life." From time to time, there were cries for help. The middle-aged man looked upstairs again and sighed. A world is going downhill. Young people are having so much fun these days. They're not a human being. You started without even closing the door. After hearing the last sentence, the two policemen nodded in agreement. From time to time, screams of echoed in the corridor. The three of them had the same thought. It seems that everyone has imagined a role-playing erotic drama. How crazy. Chapter 10, the air suddenly became quiet. Did I remind you last night what would happen if you flirted with me? The middle-aged man and the two policemen probably never dreamed that the script was not at all what they imagined. At the door of the two-bedroom apartment, Zhu Hui was squatting in front of Li Zuqing with his head in his hands and a bruised face. The woman's delicate oval face was still blushing. Her chest heaved wildly, and her beautiful eyes, as deep as the starry sky, were filled with anger. "I'm worried that something might happen to you." "Anything happened? They are just two random soldiers. I can kill them with one slap. What could possibly happen to me? Assaulting police officers is a serious matter, and we were at fault in the first place." Zhu Hui stiffened his neck but still replied with gritted teeth. Hearing this, Liu Zuqing narrowed her narrow eyes slightly. "Oh, what did I do wrong? You treated me to a meal yesterday. And I gave you a meal in return. Is that wrong?" "That's not what I meant." Zhu Hui sighed. "Even though I was beaten, I still felt pain all over my body." However, what he kept recalling in his mind was the moment when the two of them kissed, and the refreshing feeling that made him feel. He lowered his eyebrows and tilted his head. He glanced at the pink lips that were kissed red because their mouth had been blocked for a long time. Snap. The next moment, Liu Zuqing keenly noticed Zhu Hui's gaze and slapped him on the forehead. "Answer me. Because, hey, this is a world with laws. Don't you know that after the reform and opening up, beating people is illegal? What's more, you are facing a middle-aged uncle who is powerless and keeps threatening you. He threatens to kill, and this is intimidation." "Intimidation? Then what?" Liu Zuqing didn't care. "Intimidation is a serious crime. And you will be arrested easily. Forget it. Even if I tell you this, you probably won't understand. Can you read Chinese characters?" Liu Zuqing was about to shake her head, but Zhu Hui had already picked up a newspaper from the side. "Do you recognize the words on it? France beat Denmark 2-1 to break the curse and advance to the next round, and BAPPE scored twice." Liu Zuqing subconsciously read the title above. The World Cup is going on right now. So even the front page of Metropolis Express is related to football. However, since the Chinese women's football team is not on the news, Zhu Hui doesn't care at all. After all, the Chinese men's football team is not short of that little money, so they will not participate in the competition. There is a word that can perfectly explain the habit of powerful countries not participating in the World Cup. A fly in the ointment. The United States and China, the world's two largest economies, don't play football. Seeing that the woman could understand the headlines in the newspaper, Zhu Hui was immediately surprised. "Just be able to read. Come on. I'll take you to a place where it can quickly help you understand the social subject we live in now and where history has developed." After saying this, Zhu Hui pulled Liu Zuqing out of the room. The neighbor across the street is a middle-aged man in his 30s. The atmosphere between neighbors in this urban village is very good. When the police came over just now, the middle-aged man was about to step forward to understand the situation. But when he opened the iron door, he saw Liu Zuqing angrily beating Zhu Hui. Although I don't know when Zhu Hui got a girlfriend. He actually brought her home. But this was the couple's business, so the neighbor naturally didn't dare to interrupt. Now I see Zhu Hui and Liu Zuqing getting ready to go out. A neighbor uncle then opened the door to show his presence. Of course he deliberately ignored Zhu Hui's bruised face. "Xiao Zhu, are you going out? Something's going on." Although he was talking to Zhu Hui, Uncle Wang was staring at Liu Zuqing from head to toe. When the uncle noticed Liu Zuqing's stunning appearance, a hint of amazement flashed in his eyes. Uncle Wang seemed to be eager to talk, and he nodded in Liu Zuqing's direction. This is my girlfriend." Hearing this, Uncle Wang smiled and patted Zhu Hui on the shoulder. "You are so lucky, kid. The last time your mom came here, she told me that if she met a suitable girl, she would introduce you to her. She couldn't just watch you being single for so many years. I didn't expect you to be so good as to live with a girl without telling anyone." Zhu Hui laughed dryly, not knowing how to answer. Should I tell Uncle Wang the truth? I was on a blind date yesterday at noon. As a result, the dream lover, who was dressed in ancient costume and was extremely beautiful, appeared before him. She also slapped me and said she was pregnant. If I say this, would you believe it? Zhu Hui coughed twice and changed the subject. "Uncle Wang, didn't you go for a stroll today?" "No, I was planning to go out, but your aunt didn't agree." She said that someone in our community WeChat group said that there has been unrest in the area these past 2 days. I heard that a guy threatened to kill someone just to grab a piece of breakfast. So I didn't dare to run around by the way. I hope you haven't encountered this kind of situation. There are so many strange things happening these days. There are even people who are willing to kill for breakfast. After hearing this, Zhu Hui was stunned. The corners of his mouth suddenly twitched wildly. I don't know why. A moment. It seemed as if the air had become frozen and awkward with these words. Chapter 11, Is it necessary to have such a big reaction? The next moment, Zhu Hui's eyelids twitched wildly and he glanced at Liu King next to him. There was a hint of embarrassment across the woman's cool and delicate face. He seemed to realize that his behavior just now was indeed inappropriate. You should be careful when you go out these 2 days. If you run into bad guys, just shout, our neighbors will definitely come out to help immediately. Come on. You guys are only as good as two people at watching the fun. If something really happens, it would be a miracle if you could stand up. Zhu Hui did not expose Uncle Wang's past. He nodded and led Liu King downstairs. Where are you taking me? You'll know when you get there. Zhu Hui took a taxi on the road and led Liu King towards Zhongcheng Library. Generally, large libraries like this are used as study rooms by college students from nearby universities. So after entering, the whole library was unusually quiet. The people sitting around were either senior students preparing for postgraduate entrance exams or students preparing for the middle school entrance exams and college entrance exams. Everyone was concentrating on the things at hand, and Liu King's peerless beauty attracted less attention in such a place. After all, most people will only raise their heads and move their bodies when they feel discomfort in their cervical spine. The rest of the time I am busy reviewing or preparing for exams. Liu King suddenly changed from the bustling streets and alleys to this quiet environment. The curiosity in his eyes was obviously even stronger. Where is this library? This time Zhu Hui didn't continue to play dumb, and answered honestly, pointing to the densely packed bookcases around him and said, here you can find any book you want to read. And there are also many illustrated books about China's development. After reading these things, you should be able to understand what kind of era this is. After saying this, he led Liu King to find seats at random. Zhu Hui bought 2 bottles of mineral water and placed them on the table, and gave some instructions. Drink water if you are thirsty, eat bread if you are hungry, don't make noise in a place like this. Stay put and don't move around. The library has a lot of people, and it's not easy to find the seats next to each other if you move around. It's likely that our seats will be taken by others. Oh. Liu King nodded her head and breathed out through her nostrils as a response. Seeing Zhu Hui walking towards the rows of bookcases, Liu King touched her still hot earlobe. What echoed in her mind was the scene of Zhu Hui forcefully kissing her in front of the 2 policemen. This was her first intimate contact with Zhu Hui after she regained her status as empress. At that time, Liu King was undergoing worldly training in Sangshan village. Her memory was sealed, and she was basically no different from an ordinary girl. It was not until she returned to the Tianquan continent and opened up her sealed memories that she realized that she had been molested during her training in the mortal world. But for the Ice Lotus Empress Liu King, everything in the past is the scattered memories of Liu King, a girl from Sangshan village. The sense of participation is not strong. The next moment, Liu King's narrow eyes slowly narrowed. Did you hit me too lightly just now? About 5 minutes later, Zhu Hui came to Liu King holding a dozen heavy books. He knew that he couldn't be too impatient and expect a woman to become fat all at once. Otherwise, China's modern history alone would be enough for her to spend 3 days and 3 nights reading. Zhu Hui only took 1 book from each category. Anyway, most of them are related to things that happen in life. You have to read all of these? Liu King glanced at Zhu Hui. Zhu Hui nodded, and picked up the books one by one and introduced them. This is 100,000 Whys, which I would like to call my enlightenment book. This is one trick to solve 50 of your troubles in life, which probably mentions most of the scenarios you encounter in life. This is the outline of modern Chinese history. This is the book from the transformation from a populous nation to an industrial power. It tells the story of our country's development from the successful revolution in the steam engine era to today's modernization. As he was talking, Zhu Hui suddenly noticed a book with colorful packaging that looked very informal. Fuck, why did I take this? The next moment, Zhu Hui hurriedly wanted to put the book back. However, his abnormal behavior also aroused the suspicion of Liu King. Liu King arrived first and grabbed the book. When Zhu Hui saw this book fall into Liu King's hands, his eyelids twitched unconsciously. You don't have to read this book. Just give it to me. Book title: One action before going to bed every day will make your husband unable to stop wanting you. He just said a few simple words to the lady at the front desk and took out 2 books about women's aspects. He thought that the books included women's self-protection and basic women's health. Unexpectedly, the young lady misinterpreted Zhu Hui's meaning. I actually got a book specifically designed to improve the relationship between couples. Vipe. Liu Ziqing was originally not interested in these books at all. However, when she noticed Zhu Hua's reaction, she became interested. What secrets do you want to hide from me? Just give it to me. Zhu Hua anxiously wanted to snatch the book from Liu Ziqing's hand. However, the more excited he was, the more curious Liu Ziqing became, and she even wanted to snatch it away from Zhu Hua. Don't move. Liu Ziqing glared at him fiercely, and Zhu Hua was speechless. I want to see what secrets you, a heartless man, have hidden from me. Wait until I grab your little whip. I opened it casually and flipped through it. The next moment, Liu Ziking's face turned red uncontrollably. Disgraceful words and paintings come into view. How bold and shameless. Not long after, she threw the book on the table. With a snap. The noise was so loud that it attracted several young people who were reviewing nearby. You have nothing else in your mind except that kind of thing. Why did you bring this kind of thing to me? Zhu Hua explained with a wry smile. The staff took it by mistake. Then you won't stop me when I want to watch. I'm so fucking. Liu Ziqing yelled twice with her face flushed. After saying that, he lowered his head and walked quickly outside. Zhu Hua stood there in a daze for a long while, scratching his ears and cheeks in anger. In the end, he was still worried about Liu Ziking's safety. He forced out a bitter smile that was uglier than crying, picked up all the books and followed, muttering to himself. I stopped you. It was you who insisted on watching it. It's all the fault of the front desk lady. What a sin. While he wanted to cry but had no tears, Zhu Hua adored in his heart. I strongly demand the popularization of sex education. Isn't it just looking at two pornographic pictures? Is it necessary to have such a big reaction? Chapter 12, The Heartwarming and Nagging Mother-in-Law. Liu Ziqing still knew her limits, even though she was embarrassed and angry by the scale drawings in the book, one action before bedtime that will make your husband can't stop wanting you. But she also knew that it was not Zhu Hua's fault. After all, people had told her several times not to look at it, but she insisted on taking it away. So the woman simply fled the crime scene, but was still waiting at the bottom of the library. There are people coming and going outside the library. Many college students passing by looked at this fairy-like woman in amazement. Or maybe college students are thin-skinned. If it were a young or middle-aged person who has achieved some success in his career, he would probably dare to approach and say a few words to some good-looking person of the opposite sex. However, college students are still immature and cannot get rid of their student spirit. Naturally, they cannot adopt the practices of the experienced people in society. Xiao Liu, why are you here? Just then, a middle-aged woman's voice sounded nearby. Liu Ziqing then looked to the side. I saw Zhu's mother Li Yuzhen standing on the side of the road with 7 or 8 books in her hands. Aunt Li, what a coincidence. What's the use of Annie or not? I still like to hear you call me mom. Let me tell you, our Zhu Hua has been naughty since he was young, and I really want a daughter as quiet and gentle as you. Wen Jing. If the demon clan leaders in Tianjuan continent heard this word, used to describe the Ice Lotus Empress, they would be shocked. If the demon queen who kills people without blinking and I were associated with the word gentle and quiet, any girl in this world deserves to be called a lady. Liu Ziqing looked at Li Yuzhen unnaturally, then shifted her gaze. His lips moved, but no sound came out. She couldn't accept calling a human woman who was less than 1% of her age mom for a while. Where's our little brat? Li Yuzhen didn't care about these. When she saw Liu Ziqing, she started talking. She didn't see her son at first glance, and looked around. Liu Ziqing then pursed her red lips. Upstairs. She is not very good at getting along with elders after all. The cold and aloof Ice Lotus Empress who is very frugal with words and the nagging middle-aged woman Li Yuzhen do not match in style. And Li Yuzhen is not aware of this. The more I look at this daughter-in-law, the more I like her. She was an experienced person, and from Liu Ziqing's expression, it was not difficult to tell that the two of them must have had some conflicts. Were you having a fight? Not really. He took me to read a book. Seeing that her daughter-in-law was hesitant to speak, Li's mother asked. Then what? Give me a book called One Move Before Bed to Make Your Husband Unable to Stop Wanting You. What? Li Yuzhen was stunned. The next moment, he made an angrily call to Zhu Hua. How could this little beast be so hungry and thirsty? The 10 months of pregnancy is the critical moment. But he just doesn't know how to be patient. In an instant, Li Yuzhen, who was filled with anger, was determined to seek justice for her daughter-in-law. Hello, old lady? It was already difficult for Zhu Hua to go downstairs carrying a dozen heavy books, and the spare phone in his pocket was still buzzing. Seeing that it was his mother calling, Zhu Hua didn't dare to hang up. Didn't I remind you yesterday to know your limits? Why did you let Xiao Yu read that kind of book? She's pregnant now, you can't do that. Don't you know? Look how you made Xiao Yu angry. Zhu Hua was stunned at first. Then he smacked his lips. Needless to say, it must be Liu Ziqing who complained to her mother. But he was more curious. How did Liu Ziqing, who was unfamiliar with the place and had neither a mobile phone nor a pager. Contact her mother. Come down quickly. I'm right at the entrance of the library. Hearing this, Zhu Hu suddenly realized. The case was solved. It turned out that the mother was also in the library. With Liu Zhu King's extraordinary appearance and cool temperament, it would be difficult for anyone who had seen her once to forget her. Even if a woman is thrown into a crowd of people, she will stand out like a crane among chickens. Why are you going to the library for no reason? Are you planning to get into a prestigious school to bring honor to our family? Are you planning to apply to Tingshui University, or Peking University this time? Or at worst, Joytong University? When everyone was in middle school, if the final exam results were not satisfactory, the first thing parents would say after seeing the scores was, "How did you do in the exam? I haven't touched the books in so many years. If I had taken the exam, I would have scored higher than you." Zhu Hu thought that his mother was planning to write a document as a proof to realize her goal from that year. "And here to buy some books. Stop talking nonsense. I'll give you 3 minutes to show up in front of me." Liu Zhen didn't waste any time and ended the conversation directly. Zhu Hu sighed. His status in the family was originally low. And now Liu Zhu King came. It seems even lower. After going downstairs, Zhu Hu immediately noticed Liu Zhen, who was standing on the side of the road, holding Liu Zhu King's arm and asking about her well-being. He slapped the back of his head helplessly. He himself hasn't figured out how to get along with Liu Zhu King, and my wingman is online again. Liu Zhu King is about 1.7 meters tall, and her mother Liu Zhen is half a head shorter than her. If no one told them, passers-by would have thought they were a mother and daughter. Xiao Yu, my cooking is delicious. If you don't believe me, ask Zhu Hui or his father. How about I show you my cooking skills tonight? Yes, I can. Liu Zhu King looked at Zhu Hui for help, and the latter chuckled. It turns out that this cool and arrogant baby also has embarrassing moments that he can't handle. Let me tell you, for women, the most important thing is the period of pregnancy. I bought more than a dozen books on how to make soups with different regional flavors. I will study them when I get home today. When the time comes, just let Zhu Hui tell me what kind of soup you want to drink, and I will send it to you as soon as it's ready. Zhu Hui has graduated for 2 years and doesn't have a car. You two shouldn't run away. He is busy with work and I am free. I will visit you when I have nothing to do. You can just stay at home and take care of your pregnancy. Liu Zhen talked incessantly to herself. When Zhu Hui heard his mother's words, he came over and sighed helplessly. She's already grown up and still making a fuss. If she wants something to drink, I can just order takeout for her. Liu Zhen glared when she saw her son coming. That won't work. Takeout food is not clean or healthy, and it's not as nutritious as homemade food. Besides, I haven't retired yet, so it's not a big deal. I still have the energy to take care of your grandchildren. Maybe when he goes to elementary school, I can even help him with his homework. Besides, this is a matter between Xiao Yu and me. What does it have to do with a rough man like you? If Xiao Yu doesn't want me to come, I won't come. Liu Zhen was enthusiastically planning for the future and would not allow her son to disobey. Liu Zhu King was also stunned when she heard this. Seeing that her daughter-in-law had no objection, Liu Zhen smiled with satisfaction and excitedly picked up the book in her hand. Okay, I'm leaving now. You young people should get along well with each other. Xiao Yu, I'll come see you again in the evening. After saying that, he waved at Liu Zhu King. Zhu Hu stared at his mother's departing back and clicked his lips. My mom is always worried. Her biggest wish in life is to see me get married and start a family, so that she can feel at ease. The old lady is quite a worrywart. Don't take it too seriously, and don't find her annoying. My mom might just be in a when my grandpa is still in the hospital. Maybe she will forget about it in a couple of days. Liu Zhu King hummed, and no one knew what was going on in her mind. Just then, 2 young men passing by said with a smile, "That old lady just now was really funny. Did you see that? It was the first time I saw someone bargaining for books in the library. She even opened each book and scanned it before deciding whether to buy it or not. There are electronic browsers that can be used for trial reading. I don't think that old lady will use it. The funniest thing is that after opening it, she couldn't borrow it at all. She felt bad about the money, so she finally asked the counter if she could borrow it. She even told the counter that her daughter-in-law was pregnant and asked if the price could be reduced so that she could save money on milk powder for her grandson. She was stuck at the counter for more than 10 minutes. It was so funny that I almost died of laughter." As soon as these words came out, Zhu Hu's expression froze. I stared at my mother's back as she walked away from afar, and suddenly noticed that she seemed to be wearing the same hoodie she wore when she sent me to college 4 years ago. Zhu Hu felt a little melancholy. His temples had all turned white. However, a little old lady seemed to be in good spirits, and her steps as she left revealed a sense of joy. Zhu Hu touched his nose tip subconsciously, feeling a little sad. "Auntie, I'll wait for you at home tonight." Suddenly, a voice like the sound of orchids in a valley came from the side, breaking the silence in front of the library. However, there was a rare hint of anticipation in his voice. Hearing the voice, the middle-aged woman not far away also turned around and looked at the woman. Liu Zuking's pretty face showed a beautiful smile, and the dimples on her cheeks were charming and deep. Okay. The middle-aged woman responded with a smile, and her steps seemed to become more cheerful, that slightly hunched back. Full of energy. Chapter 13, Thoughts. Why did you agree to my mother? Why can't I agree? On the way back, the city library was the starting point. The two of them took up a rare and comfortable seat side by side. Zhu Hui was very puzzled in fact. When Liu Zhen left, he could clearly feel that Liu Zuking was relieved. This shows that Liu Zuking is not good at dealing with parents, and even worse at getting along with her mother. But Liu Zuking's sudden change of tone at the end made Zhu Hui even more confused. The most interesting thing is that when Liu Zuking was with her mother, she always used the first-person pronoun, I, but when she was with Zhu Hui, she changed to, this seat. Forget it, I can't say anything about your business, I'm just a poor nobody. Just remember not to mention murder all the time. My mom is timid and easily frightened. Hearing this, Liu Zuking glanced at Zhu Hui. But she didn't say anything, she just silently took note of this sentence. Soon, the bus arrived at the station. Zhu Hui pointed towards the urban beauty, on the roadside. You can't wear clothes like this? What do you mean? I 2 pieces of clothing as a young person in the new era. We should be civilized and polite, and not resort to violence at every turn. Since the reform and opening up, the economy has developed rapidly. Now if you go out and see anything you like, you have to buy it. I'll buy you 2 sets of clothes and teach you how to communicate with strangers. After hearing this, Liu Zuking said, oh. In fact, Zhu Hui is not without selfish motives just now. In front of the city library, there are many university towns nearby, and the female college students coming and going are all dressed up. The youthful aura exuding from her made Zhu Hui feel itchy. The first thing he thought of was Liu Zuking beside him. It's no exaggeration to say that Liu Zuking's appearance, no matter how she dresses up, can definitely outshine all the other beauties. All the beauties from various departments and campuses in the surrounding university towns. Every single one of them is garbage. Black stockings, miniskirt, Lolita, JK, and a pair of high heels, damn, a perfect Jin sex goddess. Zhu Hui didn't dare to look at Liu Zuking with such a strange look. He knew that women were like having a pair of eyes on the back of their heads. If he showed any obscene thoughts, there was an 80% chance that Liu Zuking would beat him mercilessly. Of course, this does not prevent Zhu Hui from having fantasies in his mind. Anyway, she doesn't know what a maid outfit means. So why not just get one? Although it can only be viewed from a distance, it cannot be touched or played with. But just watching it is a kind of enjoyment on the spiritual level. Thinking of this, Zhu Hui couldn't help but become excited. Soon, the two arrived at the door of Urban Beauty. There are usually many clothing stores with this name near urban villages. What is ladies' gathering and fashionable ladies? This kind of store has only one characteristic: the prices are cheap. In fact, what they sell are not branded goods, but relatively affordable clothes. Of course, 10 years ago, college students often visited these stores. However, as their financial conditions have improved in recent years, fewer customers buy clothes in these stores. Even among students who have no income, most of them wear Adidas and Nike. For families with slightly better financial conditions, Balenciaga and Valentino are the brands that are popular. Therefore, these stores gradually faded out of the sight of college students and entered the urban villages to compete for the market of migrant workers. Hello? Sir, this is a women's clothing store, please. Oh, I bought 2 sets of clothes for my girlfriend. Zhu Hui pointed at Liu Zuking behind him. There was not much curiosity in Liu Zuking's eyes, she just looked at the store calmly. The saleswoman's eyes suddenly lit up when she noticed Liu Zuking. Today is a weekday and business is average. Zhu Hui and Liu Zuking might be the first customers of this store today. So the female salesperson showed unusual enthusiasm. And please follow me, this is the women's supplies area. This is the women's private clothing area. This is the women's underwear area. And this. After a few words of introduction, Liu Zuking suddenly pointed to the women's underwear area and raised her chin. What's this? Forehead. As soon as these words were spoken, the female salesperson felt a little embarrassed. Even Zhu Hui, when he noticed Liu Zuking's gaze, blushed and turned his head away. This is a bikini, and that's the underwear. All about. I give you a brief introduction. These 2 types of underwear are the best sellers. Here recently customers get very high feedback on their breathability and comfort. The most important thing is that they are not expensive. Only 100 yuan for 2 sets. 2 sets for 100 bucks. Zhu Hui couldn't help but complain in his heart. Are you trying to grab the market from Pin Dao Dao? Although he has never been in a relationship, he knows all this common sense. Women's underwear that costs 60 yuan a set is not considered a good product, but people are trying hard to sell 2 sets of underwear for 100 yuan. On the other side, the female salesperson had already taken out 2 sets of women's underwear and started to match them to Liu Zuking's figure. Your figure is so good, you need to go up a size. On the other side, the female salesperson couldn't help but exclaim in surprise while gesturing. Liu Zuking's pretty face suddenly turned red. As a woman, how could she not tell where these things were worn? I don't need this kind of thing, I've never worn it. You haven't worn it. Then are you now? The female salesperson couldn't help but glance at Liu Zuking's chest. On the other side, Zhu Hu even bleeds from his nose. My goodness, Liu Zuking is not wearing any underwear. So, she has been staying with me naked for the past 2 days. What's your reaction? When Liu Zuking saw the two people's unusual behavior, her pretty face became even redder. At this moment, she showed a rare bit of girlish shyness. Zhu Hu quickly waved his hands and coughed to hide his embarrassment. The saleswoman was also somewhat at a loss. But if you don't wear it for a long time, it will sag. And it will be more obvious after giving birth. She just mentioned it subconsciously. However, it was precisely because of this sentence that Liu Zuking suddenly changed her mind. She is already a pregnant woman and is quite sensitive to the word pregnancy. Droop? Wouldn't that mean? Thinking about the painting, Liu Zuking suddenly blushed and pointed to a certain style of underwear. That's it, take 2. After saying that, she blushed and walked out of Urban Beauty, without looking back. Noticing the underwear pattern in the saleswoman's hand, Zhu Hu started coughing even more frantically. Lace trim, with a hollow design in the middle. When worn, it can perfectly outline the cleavage. This style is usually worn with a deep V dress. Zhu Hu didn't expect that Li Zuking liked this style. For $100, sir. The female salesperson packed the items and handed them to Zhu Hu. The moment I took the plastic bag. When Zhu Hu thought about the black lace thing in his hand, which would be worn by Liu Zuking, his hands couldn't help but tremble. Well, get me a pair of slippers, a set of pajamas, a pack of socks, 2 pairs of canvas shoes, and some daily necessities for girls. I'll just stroll around. After saying that, Zhu Hu walked towards a row of youthful-style Yang Yi clothes racks. The female salesperson widened her eyes in surprise and sighed inwardly. This is the first time I see boys shopping in a women's clothing store more actively than girls. Zhu Hu didn't dare to go too far and buy something like a nurse's uniform. Otherwise, if Liu Zuking discovered my thoughts, it would not just be a beating. Let's go with this maid outfit. This one is a little more normal. Even so, when checking out, the female salesperson looked at Zhu Hu in a strange way, as if she was looking at a pervert. Zhu Hu paid the bill reluctantly, and when he came out with his bags, he happened to see Liu Zuking staring at him with a playful look on her face. His heart skipped a beat, and he thought he was exposed. Why are you looking at me like that? Liu Zuking pointed to the bag in Zhu Hu's hand. Thank you very much. It's rare to hear the word, thank you, from this cold woman. Zhu, he felt flattered. However, I noticed that Liu Zuking's expression had softened a lot. I thought that the woman might be touched because I took the initiative to buy her clothes. It turns out that she is not a fairy who is not concerned with worldly matters. The next moment, Zhu Hu thought heavily. Damn, I'm increasingly looking forward to seeing this woman in a maid outfit. For a moment, Zhu Hu's mind was filled with the image of Liu Zuking wearing a maid outfit. Her pretty face blushing with shyness, and stammering the words thank you, master. Just thinking about it casually makes people imagine a lot. Chapter 14. You think I don't read jokes with hidden meanings, right? When passing by a mobile phone store, Zhu Hu specifically bought a PHS as he had a spare phone, although he felt a little painful that his brand new iPhone 14 was broken. But it's even more painful to repair it, so I just put it online and sell it to someone who is interested. After returning home, Zhu Hu ignored the mess on the floor. He first let Liu Zuking look at the instruction manual of the Xiaolian Jitan, and then threw a dozen rented books into the woman's arms. In order to avoid any misunderstandings between us, I think you need to finish reading this. There shouldn't be any more. One little move before bed that makes your husband unable to stop wanting you, in it. Liu Zuking glanced at Zhu Hu with a teasing look in her cold eyes. The latter's face suddenly turned red and he turned and went into the kitchen. I'm going to cook, do you want anything to eat? The two went to the library early in the morning and hung out there all day. It was already past 4 in the afternoon when he got back. Zhu Hu, an adult man, had only drunk some porridge and ate 2 buns in the morning. It would be strange if he wasn't hungry. I'm not hungry. Liu Zuking held a dozen books and shook her head. Since childhood, Zhu Hu has been deliberately cultivated in his hands-on skills by his wife, Mr. Zhu and Liu Zhen. Although his academic performance was not good and he did not get into a prestigious university after graduating from high school, the habits he cultivated since childhood became his advantages after entering society. Other people of the same age just order takeout when they are hungry, and the food expenses alone are an expense that cannot be underestimated in a month. Zhu Hu cooks for himself, which saves him a lot of money. While cooking, Zhu Hui was still surprised. Liu Zuking's figure can almost be said to be of golden proportions. I'm afraid all female stars would be envious when they see her. Does she need to lose weight too? What's more, a tall and thin female model who is only 1.7 meters tall cannot eat only one meal a day. But after dinner, around 6 o'clock, when his mother knocked on the door, Zhu Hui finally understood. It turns out that when Liu Zuking was about to cook in the afternoon, she was not hungry at all, but wanted to save her stomach for the soup her mother cooked. Aunt Li. When Liu Zuking saw Li Yuzhen, a rare hint of tenderness flashed across her pretty face. Li Yuzhen responded happily. Guess what soup Annie made for you today? She changed into slippers as soon as she entered the room. She noticed that Liu Zuking was also wearing a pair of pink slippers on her feet. Li Yuzhen's expression remained expressionless, but a hint of joy flashed across her eyes. This small detail indicates that Li Zuking and her son are likely to officially live together in the future. Have no idea. Although Liu Zuking had a liking for Li Yuzhen's family-oriented personality, but I still feel a little overwhelmed when dealing with it. Hey, guess what you think? Only if you guess it right will I give it to you. Otherwise, I won't give it to you. Li Yuzhen still used the same tricks to tease little girls. However, noticing a hint of restraint between Liu Zuking's brows, Li Yuzhen carefully opened the thermos and then lifted the lid as if presenting a treasure. Dang dang dang. Lotus root and pork trotter soup. A rich and refreshing fragrance immediately wafts into my nose. There was such an alluring smell in the room that even Zhu Hui, who had eaten early, swallowed unconsciously. Zhu Hui protested in dissatisfaction. Mom, why don't I get this treatment? You little brat. This is the soup I prepared for my daughter-in-law. If you can help my daughter-in-law share the pain of pregnancy, I will make it for you when you give birth. Depend on. Should I use a horse's eye to give birth to a child for you? Zhu Hui rolled his eyes indignantly, turned around and went back into his room to write his diary. After he woke up from the 6-month coma, he developed the habit of writing a diary every day. Of course, what is recorded is not 3 meals a day or what happened today. Rather, it was about the moments he spent with Li Zhensheng village during the 6 months he was in a coma. But since Liu Zuking appeared in reality like a dream yesterday, the contents of Zhu Hui's diary include a lot of his own thoughts. Maybe this is the anxiety and worry that comes from having a stunningly beautiful wife. Hey, this brat hid after I said a few words to him. Zhu Hui, I'll give you 3 minutes to come out. Fine mom, what's going on? Zhu Hui didn't dare to say the 3 words fuck, and cleverly ended the sentence. Otherwise, I will definitely use my combination of punches to deal with the gale, and maybe even the 18 dragon subduing palms. He stood in front of my mother and Liu Zuking again with a sullen look on his face. Go in, Sir Shao Liu, and heat up the soup I made. There was a bit of a traffic jam along the way. I thought I could give her some hot soup when we got to your place, but it seems to be cold. I, Li Yuzhen, am probably like all middle-aged parents. If she were separated from Zhu Hui for 2 or 3 weeks, when she saw her son again, she would probably like him more and more, and might even prepare a table of food for him in advance. Of course, this kind of intimacy can only last for 2 days at most. Sometimes, if Zhu Hui made some mistakes, it might take less than 24 hours. For example, when Zhu Hui was in college, every year when he went home for the spring festival, his mother would probably happily prepare a large table of food for her son. But the middle-aged woman Li Yuzhen just likes to bring up things that are not related to the topic. The first question will ask about grades. At times like that, the sweet moment when mother and son meet each other would often turn into bubbles and disappear. Not only will Zhu Hui not be able to get a warm hug from my mother, but what might be waiting for him are slippers. It's drinkable. And it's still warm. How can that be possible? You have to drink hot soup during pregnancy. If you catch a cold by accident, you might end up with a serious illness. Strangely enough, if Zhu Hui dared to scold Liu Zuking, he would probably be beaten. But when Liu Zing glared and spoke like this, Liu Zuking didn't show any temper at all. Where is Liu Zuking? Her feelings towards Zhu Hui are even stranger than those between them as mother and son. Zhu's mother is sometimes pleasing to the eye and sometimes displeasing to the eye, while she is somewhere in between pleasing and displeasing. She was not a fool. He analyzed that the worldly experience was not in this plane. For Zhu Hui, it was just a dream. Liu Zuking also understood why Zhu Hui never contacted her after they parted in Sangshan village. But from the perspective of the Ice Lotus Empress, Liu Zuking was somewhat dissatisfied. There is a high probability that she was deceived by Zhu Hui into establishing a relationship with him during her experience in the secular world, and became pregnant after her memory was restored. This was the shame and indignation of the Empress, and the mental imbalance of having come all the way to find her husband and having given too much. So she won't give Zhu Hui any good face for the time being. Why should I let her eat my vagina? She has never let me eat her vagina. Zhu Hui groaned in dissatisfaction. He teased Liu Zuking. Perhaps because he noticed Liu Zuking's restraint when interacting with her mother, Zhu Hui concluded that the woman would not take action immediately. But as soon as these words came out, in the room, the two women who reacted a little faster both blushed. The next moment, Liu Zhen kicked Zhu Hui hard. You have a dirty mind. You think your mother doesn't read jokes? If you keep using these vulgar and despicable jokes, you'll be kicked out tonight. Chapter 15, Lin Hao on MSL. It was just a joke, but I almost ended up sleeping on the streets. Zhu Hui quickly took the thermos cup and went into the kitchen to heat up the soup. Nothing special happened afterwards. Mother Liu Zhen stared at Liu Zuking intently as she sipped her soup. Whenever Liu Zuking's expression changed a little, Liu Zhen would ask more questions. Is the soup bad? Or does Xiaoyu not like soup bases with strong salt flavor? What flavors do people in Xiaoyu's hometown generally like? And auntie, can you prepare something lighter tomorrow? How about seafood soup? Even after their reunion, Zhu Hui had never looked at Liu Zuking so closely. Liu Zhen looked at Liu Zuking's facial features carefully. If she wanted to, she could probably even count how many eyelashes a woman had. Finally, Liu Zuking stared at the soup in the pot, pursed her red lips helplessly, and put down the small bowl in her hand. I'm full. Are you full? Liu Zhen glared at him immediately. What a waste, there is still half a bowl left, drink some more. Girl, look at how thin you are. With thin arms and legs you might be blown away by the wind. Hearing this, Zhu Hui couldn't help but sneer. Will it fall down as soon as the wind blows? Wow, our master Liu can beat 10 of me. Did I say anything? Thinking of this, Zhu Hui touched the back of his head, as if remembering the experience of being beaten in the morning. You really can't drink anymore? Staring at Liu Zuking's slightly frowned brows, Liu Zhen finally gave up trying to persuade him, and could only say to Zhu Hui expressionlessly, there's still a lot left, drink it up. What? You shouldn't be so biased. Right? Why didn't you call me just now? Now Liu Zuking can't finish drinking it, so you want me to eat the leftovers? The next moment, Liu Zhen smacked her lips again, feeling a little distressed. If I hadn't skipped dinner, I would have drunk it all. It would have been a waste to give it to Zhu Hui. I had been up for more than 3 hours in the afternoon. It seems that I should estimate my daughter's appetite tomorrow and make 3 or 4 bowls. Old. The corners of Zhu Hui's mouth twitched violently again. So in my eyes, you're not willing to drink this soup? A remaining sip he was able to drink was all thanks to Liu Zuking? Seeing Zhu Hui's face showing dissatisfaction, Liu Zhen didn't spoil him. Do you want to drink it? If not, I'll give it back to your father. Oh my god! Zhu Hui widened his eyes again. But the remaining soup, the father and son had to wait until Liu Zuking could no longer eat and their mother was on a diet before they could have a bite. I silently sympathized with Comrade Lao Zhu in my heart. Zhu Hui then picked up the small bowl and started eating heartily. He was not as quiet as Liu Zuking when eating. The fight was over in no time, earning a cold stare from his mother. You swallowed it whole. I spent 3 hours working hard to make this soup, but I'm afraid it will be ruined in your mouth without even a single bit of flavor. Liu Zhen complained with disdain. Zhu Hui felt like crying for a moment. I picked it up, right? I was eating leftovers. Xiaoyu, I'll come back tomorrow. The two men sent Liu Zhen to the door. Before leaving, Liu Zhen waved to Liu Zuking enthusiastically. It was already late when she arrived, and the sky was a little dim. Zhu Hui suggested calling a taxi for his mother, but Liu Zhen waved her hand to refuse. It just so happens that I can exercise by walking, and the distance from the station to your place is not far. Okay, you two can go back. I'll come again tomorrow. Liu Zuking nodded obediently. Wait for you. After bidding farewell to Liu Zhen, the two returned and went back to their own ways. Liu Zuking sat on the sofa in the living room reading a book, while Zhu Hui returned to the bedroom to write his diary. At this time he didn't dare to mention the word sleeping together. He even dared to appear in the same frame with Liu Zuking only when there was a third party present. Maybe it was because he was beaten in the morning that he had an instinctive fear of women. This is the pajamas I bought for you if you plan to rest. You can change into this. It's more comfortable than the long skirt you're wearing anyway. At this moment, Zhu Hui finally plucked up the courage to take out the maid outfit. Liu Zuking just glanced at him calmly and then looked away. Oh, shouldn't there be some reaction? Shouldn't she say it with a blushing face? Isn't that a bit too revealing? Or just change clothes without saying anything? Zhu Hui was somewhat surprised by Liu Zuking's reaction. Aren't you going to change your clothes? I'm not taking a break now, why should I change? That's right. Liu Zuking took the pajamas, and threw them on the sofa next to her. She raised her head and glanced at Zhu Hui with her beautiful eyes. Anything else? Without. Just then, someone knocked on Zhu Hui's door for the third time today. The first notification in the morning was from the police. And the second notification in the afternoon was from my mother who came to deliver food. However, in Zhu Hui's mind, these two groups of people seemed to be coming for Liu Zuking. I almost lost my sense of existence. Who is it? If you're looking for Liu Zuking, I'm sorry. Miss Liu doesn't live here. Liu Zuking, who was reading a book in the living room, suddenly raised her head in confusion. However, Zhu Hui just choked and opened the door the next moment. I saw a short and fat man with a dark face muttering strangely. You had a erotic dream again? Did you dream about Miss Liu? Fuck, why is it you? Dickhead? When Zhu Hui saw his good friend Lin Hao, his face suddenly changed. Why is my best friend Lin Hao here? After waking up from the 6-month vegetative state, the person Zhu Hui talked to the most was his best friend in front of him. After all, there is an age gap between us and my mother. So it's inappropriate to tell her some things. So Zhu Hui just asked about Sanshan village indirectly. After not getting the desired result from his mother, Zhu Hui gave up. But Zhu Hui told his best friend Lin Hao everything in detail, including how he met Li Zuking in Mulberry Village, how they established their relationship, etc. In addition to how many positions I used in the dream, I also knew how long foreplay between the two of them usually lasted. There is basically nothing hidden in what else should be said. Zhu Hui never dreamed that his good friend would remember so clearly the name of Liu Zuking, who was supposed to be his dream lover. Damn it, if Liu Zuking really gets to know Lin Hao, we're doomed. God knows if this kid will say something weird. What's wrong? Are you unhappy that I interrupted your spring dream? Hearing this, Zhu Hui forced out an ugly smile, thinking to himself that Lin Hao was an idiot. His eyes glanced at Liu Zuking sitting on the sofa behind him without leaving a trace. The woman was still sitting upright, her back straight, reading a book without raising her head. Zhu Hui breathed a sigh of relief. You came to see me for something? I can't find you if there's nothing else? It's as if you're so busy that I have to call your secretary in advance to make an appointment. I have good news for you. I've also moved to this building. Zhu Hui was originally planning to drink some water to calm down. Hearing this, almost all the water in his mouth sprayed onto Lin Hao's face. What? Chapter 16. Come with me. He even raised his voice unconsciously. Why the hell do you live in a village in the city for no reason? You are the executive director of the company, shouldn't you be assigned a garage? Is Bae Zumo that crazy woman, letting you live in a village in the city? Lin Hao patted his friend's shoulder with a playful smile. Hey, why do you seem a little unhappy? But this time we changed our residence because of Boss Ba. She is sympathetic and thinks that you need someone to take care of you since you have been in a coma for half a year. He learned about your family situation and knew that your grandfather is still in the hospital. Your mother has to run back and forth and is too busy to handle it. So considering that we have a good personal relationship, Mr. Ba asked me to come. For this reason, Mr. Ba was afraid that I would have some special emotions, so he did some work for me and even increased my food allowance by 1,000 yuan. Fuck your mother. Zhu Hui and Lin Hao are childhood friends who grew up together wearing open crotch pants. After graduation, they both joined the same company. What's more interesting is that this company was owned by their senior from the same school, Bae Zumo. What's wrong? Why do you keep looking like that? We'll be neighbors in the future. Shouldn't you be happy? Then you'll have someone to play King of Glory with you face to face at night? After saying this, Lin Hao suddenly reacted. Zhu Hui was blocking the door, and it seemed like he had no intention of letting him in to sit down. His eyes narrowed immediately. Why don't you invite me in to sit down? Goodbye. My furniture is all downstairs, and the moving company hasn't arrived yet. I have nowhere to go right now. Then you can just walk around here and get familiar with the living environment. Zhu Hui felt guilty and coughed twice. However, it aroused Lin Hao's suspicion again, and he immediately slapped his thigh. Damn, you just don't want me to come into your house on purpose? Aunt Li asked me yesterday if you had gone to the blind date honestly. I wanted to ask you about it. Do you have a mistress hidden in your house? That's why you didn't dare to let me know. Yes. Zhu Hui originally wanted to stop him. But Lin Hao quickly pushed Zhu Hui away. He actually took advantage of this opportunity to sneak into the house. The first thing he saw was that he didn't go to the living room, but stared at the broken TV and mobile phone fragments on the floor that Zhu Hui had moved to the bed. These things were put away by Zhu Hui last night to avoid any misunderstanding when I come. Unexpectedly, this kid Lin Hao didn't show any courtesy to me and ran into the bedroom first. Damn. Are there bandits in your house? Oh my god, what happened to your phone? My goodness. Who did the shower head offend? It was cut off and thrown on the ground. Are you short-sighted, kid? Can't you see the stunning beauty with extraordinary temperament and coolness in such a big living room? Zhu Hui's eyelids twitched and he followed him into the bedroom. Suddenly I noticed that there was a shower head lying quietly on the ground. Shower head. The shower was working fine before dinner. Zhu Hui was stunned. Look up again. Just then, Liu Zuking came out of the bathroom with a calm expression. I just wanted to wash up, but I didn't expect that after touching this thing, he would spit at me. It didn't hurt, but I felt like it was insulting me, so I twisted its head off. Depend on. The cold voice slowly fell. and the other two people in the room were stunned. The corners of Zhu Hua's mouth twitched, and he felt like crying but had no tears. Furniture that died at the hands of Li Zuking won. Good fellow. You really have a beautiful girl hidden in your golden house. Lin Hao suddenly saw a woman with elegant temperament and beautiful appearance in Zhu Hua's home, and his reaction became even more intense. For a moment, he even forgot about the impact of the broken TV and mobile phone. Who are you? This is my best friend, Lin Hao. Best friend? Li Zuking didn't know what best friend meant and frowned. That should be what you mean by enemy, right? Do you need me to help you deal with him? Forehead. Zhu Hua noticed that there was a hint of murderous intent in Li Zuking's eyes, and he rushed over and grabbed the woman. Don't get me wrong. My best friend is my best friend. What do you want to do? Friends? Upon hearing this, Li Zuking nodded slightly. She thought it was meant by mortal enemy. Lin Hao stared at Li Zuking with his eyes wide open. Zhu Hua, is this you, your girlfriend? I guess so. Zhu Hua didn't know how to explain it, so he could only stammer. Lin Hao asked casually with a playful smile. So you have a girlfriend, and you even live together. No wonder you always refuse when Aunt Li asks you to go on a blind date. Actually, this is not the reason. Zhu Hua had a sad face. But the next moment, the thing he was most worried about happened. What's this beautiful lady's name? Wow, as soon as these words came out, the air seemed to freeze. Zhu Hua told Lin Hao many details about his time with Yu Zuking in his dream. God knows what Lin Hao thought of Li Zuking, the girl who fell in love with him in his dream. The words of a third party will directly affect the relationship between the two people. However, Li Zuking just raised her chin inferently and glanced at Zhu Hua and Lin Hao inferently. You are not worthy of knowing my name. Also, take this noisy ant away. I want to read a book. Zhu Hua suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Come on, Lin Hao, let's go out for some fresh air, and show me where you live. Don't bother with her, she just talks like that. She's from the countryside, that's how we usually communicate. It seemed that the books borrowed by Zhu Hua really aroused the interest of the Ice Lotus Empress. Li Zuking returned to the sofa as soon as she came out of the bathroom. But it was also because of this that Lin Hao had been following Li Zuking's gaze and noticed another thing on the sofa. That's a pajama. It's just a little bit explicit. Damn it, no wonder you didn't let me in. It turns out you like to play this tune in the house. Why do you let a little country girl wear a maid outfit? And she's wearing ancient costumes, no wonder she speaks in that accent role-playing. Right? I understand. Bang! A bolt from the blue. Lin Hao and MSL. Zhu Hua's expression froze. What is a maid costume? Li Zuking suddenly closed the book in her hand and glanced in the direction of Lin Hao. Meeting that pair of bright starry eyes, even Lin Hao, who had traveled through the sea of flowers, couldn't help but lower his head, feeling ashamed of himself. It's so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. It's the kind of clothes that a maid who calls others, master or DAJ will play with you, would wear. TSK. I didn't expect you or a BT. Stop it, please stop it. Zhu Hui only felt a chill rushing from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. All the muscles in his body tensed up instantly. Lin Hao's performance was vivid and he revealed Zhu Hua's dirty thoughts without hesitation. Owner? Seeing Lin Hao speaking in a hoarse voice and in a coquettish tone, Li Zuking was not stupid and she realized something immediately. Her cold eyes fell directly on Zhu Hua. Want me to call you master? Misunderstand. Oh, you, come with me. The next moment, Li Zuking pointed at Zhu Hua and turned and went into the room. Under Lin Hao's teasing gaze. Soon, a scream was heard from the locked room. Chapter 17, Additional Money. Zhu Hua, are you okay? No. After Zhu Hua came out, he kept covering his nose. Lin Hao was immediately horrified. What did she do to you? Did she beat you? This is domestic violence, right? Should we call the police? Call the police? I wish I could be the first one to call the police and have you arrested. Could you please stop talking? Meeting the calm gaze of Liu Zuking beside him, Zhu Hua sighed sadly again. I wanted to take off my socks and stuff them into Lin Hao's mouth. It's all this idiot's fault, otherwise how could I have endured this beating? Liu Zuking came all the way from Sanshun village to reunite with him, while pregnant. Even though Zhu Hua once loved him to death, she still had some resentment and even anger in her heart. What's more, Zhu Hua himself didn't understand why Yu Zuking's temperament changed so drastically after they met this time. Whether everything that happened in Sanshun village was a dream or reality remains to be verified. Therefore Zhu Hua and Liu Zuking always maintain a delicate balance between them when they get along. However, it was obvious that a few words from his best friend Lin Hao exposed Zhu Hua's dirty thoughts and also broke the barrier. Oh, the decoration company called just now and said they can't come tonight. How about I leave my furniture downstairs and stay at your house for one night? Get lost. Zhu Hua gets angry whenever he sees Lin Hao. Besides, There is a female relative like Li Zuqing in the family. How inconvenient would it be to have a man living in the family? What's more, Zhu Hua was afraid that Lin Hao would know Li Zuqing's name and start talking about the dream. If I accidentally say something wrong, I'm afraid Li Zuqing will get angry again. Do you have a lot of stuff? Let me help you take a look. Zhu Hui applied a hot towel to his face, which helped to reduce the swelling. Li Zuqing's attack was also quite ruthless, but at least she knew her limits and did not hit important facial features such as the eyes or the nose. Otherwise, Zhu Hui would probably still be lying on the ground groaning, unable to get up. They're all downstairs. Why don't you go take a look? Walk. Zhu Hui glanced in the direction of Li Zuqing. The woman had already returned to the sofa, sitting there drinking a Coke with a book in her hand. Ever since she explained yesterday that Coke is not toxic, Li Zuqing would occasionally take out a bottle of Coke from the refrigerator on her own. Don't look at me. You guys go. This book of modern Chinese history is quite interesting. The succession of rulers actually relied on faith rather than absolute hard power. This can be considered a method to stabilize cohesion. As she spoke, Li Zuqing raised the book with a reddish-brown cover in her hand. It can be seen that she is really interested in this kind of book after all. She is the famous Islotus Empress and the unique absolute ruler in the demon clan. Naturally, I am very interested in books on this subject. Zhu Hui and Lin Hao looked at each other. Doesn't this sister know the development history of New China? Are there still people so backward these days? Where did you get this treasure from? Lin Hao nudged Zhu Hui with his shoulder, speaking in northeastern dialect. Zhu Hui's mouth twitched. Stop talking nonsense and go downstairs to look after your furniture. If we dawdle for a while longer, it might get really dark and we'll have to move things upstairs in the dark. Not only will the neighbors be dissatisfied by then, but people who see us might think we're stealing. Hearing this, Lin Hao restrained his playful expression. The two brothers went downstairs, and Lin Hao almost kept asking questions about Li Zuqing in a roundabout way. However, Zhu Hui knew that his brother had no bad intentions. He was just curious about how Zhu Hui could bring back such a stunning treasure in just a few days and even live with him. Of course, Zhu Hui just said a few perfunctory words and did not give a direct answer. When they went downstairs, as expected, the first thing they saw was a large bundle of furniture placed neatly in front of them. The space on the first floor is not large to begin with. This is an urban village, not a high-end residential area, and there is also a lobby on the first floor. Lin Hao's cabinets, bookcases, wardrobes, and shelves together blocked the door. The tiny gap left is enough for even an electric car to pass through. Zhu Hui's eyes widened. Our administrative director. Are you kidding me? Are you going to destroy the livelihood of our neighbors? Okay. It seems that Uncle Wang next door doesn't have to worry about his daughter not coming home at 11 o'clock. With your cabinet, his precious daughter won't be able to come back at 12 o'clock. Are you still trying to play the game of, I built this road, I planted this cabinet, if you want to pass this road, leave some money to buy your way through? What nonsense are you talking about? Lin Hao rolled his eyes and pointed at the things. The cabinet was left here by the people from Huolala. They are only responsible for transporting the goods, not for carrying them upstairs. In addition, Mr. B.A. did not make it clear which floor it was at the beginning, so even if I wanted to ask them for help, I had no chance. I freed up my hands and called Mr. B.A., and then I found out that I live upstairs from your house. Look at these things. Which one is not a large object? I can't handle it alone. Upon hearing this, Zhu Hui nodded in agreement. This was indeed true. Although Lin Hao is half a head shorter than him, he is still about 1.7 meters tall, and his physique is even slightly more muscular than Zhu Hui's. But even for two adult guys, it would take at least half an hour to deal with these things. Why don't you just go home? I'll call a Lala move to move all your cabinets back. What? When Lin Hao heard this, he was stunned. Zhu Hui explained solemnly. I don't really need any care, you see. I'm full of energy and I'm living a comfortable life. Not only do I have my mother's occasional love and care, but now I also have my wife's fists and kicks. They'll care? Isn't that just spanking? Fists and kicks? Isn't that domestic violence? Lin Hao widened his eyes and said, you call this nourishing? The next moment, Zhu Hui patted Lin Hao's shoulder meaningfully. Student Lin Hao, the organization needs you. Don't consider anything else. Imagine that you go out to pick up pearls and the girl says she wants to visit your home during the date. What will girls think if you bring them to a village in the city? In reality, boys who have been in love 7 or 8 times are basically numb to feelings when asked what it feels like to be in love. They can't answer. It's just that those who have never even held a girl's hand or touched her mouth can always talk about a lot of emotional philosophy. The most amazing thing is that he also likes to be a relationship consultant and military strategist for others. Zhu Hui was the best. And one of his words hit Lin Hao's soft spot. A hint of hesitation and entanglement instantly appeared on Lin Hao's dark face. He is single. Otherwise, how could he be so familiar with Zhu Hui's family? and even the relationship between the two of them was known to the leader. If he accompanies his girlfriend shopping every day, he will post pictures of their sweet love on WeChat moments whenever he has time. The task that Mr. BA asked to take care of Zhu Hua would never fall on him. That's true if I date a girl and she wants to come visit where I live. But ends up in a village in the city, that's not a big deal. That's right, you are a senior executive of a company after all. If a girl saw your living environment and living conditions, she would think you were bragging when you said you were in the executive management level. Seeing this, Zhu Hua let out a long sigh of relief. Lin Hao and Liu Zuqing must not meet often, otherwise there is no guarantee what Lin Hao will say. On the other side, Lin Hao pondered for a moment, then took out his cell phone to make a call. Zhu Hua took a quick glance and was immediately delighted. Note, Mr. B. It seems that I have successfully persuaded Lin Hao to give up. But the next moment, he heard Lin Hao next to him speak in an embarrassed tone. Boss BA, I actually had a girlfriend who I dated for 3 years. She broke up with me because she couldn't stand the environment in the urban village. What? Change someone? Oh, no need to change someone. It is my duty to take care of Zhu Hua. I mean, seeing how I sacrificed myself for my brothers and childhood friends. Lin Hao swallowed his saliva, glanced at Zhu Hua quietly, and said in a sonorous and powerful voice, it costs more. Chapter 18, Who isn't a lay Buddhist who pays extra money? Fuck, you are obsessed with money? Where is your youth? Where is your bright future? You want to be single for the best years of your life? Zhu Hua watched Lin Hao hang up the phone and became furious. What happened to the promise of being unrestrained for love and being youthful? Damn. Have you ever picked up girls in real life since graduating from college, except for the five-finger girl? Lin Hao glanced at Zhu Hua, then at the extra 10 Zora yuan in his bank card, and grinned. Don't mention it, our President BA really cares about you. Fuck you. It's already this late and you're still teasing me. If you live here, you're ruining your future. Let me tell you about Chen Qian, the girl at the front desk who likes to dress up. Haven't you made several appointments with her but she didn't show up? Do you think Chen Qian would be able to bear it if she saw the environment you live in now? Wow. That girl always wears strong perfume, has big brown curly hair, and likes to raise her hands to go to the bathroom when the leader is speaking. She poses coquettously just to attract attention. This kind of girl has countless suitors in the company. I don't think I have a chance. Depend on. When did this kid wake up? Seeing Lin Hao's stubborn look, Zhu Hua gritted his teeth immediately. What the hell do you want to do? I'm taking care of you. President BA said that as long as it reflects the good friendship between colleagues and helps you return to work as quickly as possible, even if I have to pay you overtime by the hour, it's fine. Selling your soul for money. Zhu Hua gave him a look of disdain. Oh, you'll know after a few years. I'll never meet a good girl who doesn't want your money, or your car, or house. If you change your mind now, and go to the nearby university towns to ask for a few WeChat accounts, it's not too late. I know, they all want my appearance like Daniel Wu. Ah, Daniel Wu? Zhu Hua sneered. But Lin Hao suddenly interrupted by lighting a cigarette. Besides, there is no such good thing as what you said. Nowadays the worst is to spend 500 yuan to eat at Heidai Lao, 100 yuan to see a movie, and then 200 yuan to check in and 30 yuan to buy a condom. Do you think I'm stupid? Still believe in those cheesy campus movies? If it were you, and you met a girl who didn't want your money, car, or house, would you dare to ask her out? After hearing this, Zhu Hua was stunned. He has won at home. However, apart from Liu Zuqing, it seems that he really doesn't dare to trust other girls like this in real life. Look, their reaction says it all. How can there be a good girl who doesn't want anything? Don't we brothers know our own worth? They don't want cars, houses, or money. But it be that they are trying to trick us into northern Myanmar and then take advantage of us? Hearing this, Zhu Hua fell completely silent. The world is in decline, and this serious society is probably what Lin Hao described. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Lin Hao, he hesitated for a moment. Zhu Hua gritted his teeth and said, how about this, you give Mr. BA another call. Lin Hao was stunned. What do you mean? You just said that since I was discharged from the hospital, I like to sleepwalk, bite people at any time, drool when I talk, and often become unconscious when I am alone at night. To take good care of me, and enable me to return to work quickly, I need to apply for more funding. It costs more money. Depend on. After hearing this, Lin Hao suddenly realized. You are trying to blackmail me. You farted. Your father is already a patient, otherwise Mr. BA would not have given you the 10,000 yuan. I just want to ask you one question. Will you tell me or not? Of course I have to make it clear in advance, the additional money later. We'll split it 50-50. Hearing this, Lin Hao looked at Zhu Hua with disdain. I thought you were an honest man, but it turns out you are a paid lay Buddhist. In this way, the lay Buddhists named Jia Qian were successfully born. If you have money and don't make it, you're a bastard, let alone the boss's money. For some reason, Ba Zumo seemed to be particularly concerned about Zuhua's affairs. Perhaps it was really because the place where Zuhua had the accident was only 2 steps away from the company. Therefore, the company is afraid that the spread of the news will have a bad impact, so it chooses to bear all the losses. To be honest, I really feel that Senior Ba seems to like you a little bit. Otherwise, why would she care so much about you? Don't talk nonsense. After a while, the two masters successfully extorted a huge sum of money from the boss. Both of them had smiles on their faces, but Lin Hao's words made Zuhua's expression change slightly. How dare you say such things? If it gets out in the company, who knows how others will criticize Senior Ba? Zuhua rolled his eyes at Lin Hao. He really didn't feel it. If something happened to me or someone else, I'm afraid Senior Ba, I wouldn't ask too much at most. She would just understand the situation and ask the person in charge of the corresponding department of the company to come forward. Zuhua smiled. After all, she and I were classmates in college, so we still had some friendship. If I had a company and you came to work there, even if you got in a car accident and lay in bed as a vegetable for half a year, I would still care about you. Although I am quite touched by your attitude, but damn, why does this sound weird? Strange? What's strange about it? Zuhui was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted, slapped the back of his head and said, "That's right, not everyone can survive such a serious car accident, you might die. But don't worry, if I were your boss, based on our brotherly relationship, I would definitely pay for all expenses of your memorial service." After hearing this, Lin Hao finally understood that Zuhui was taking revenge on him for his previous behavior. You guys are fucking making fun of me. Fuck you. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you anymore. Come over here and help me move the things. Hearing this, Zayuwa shrugged his shoulders with a smile. Brother, I'm a patient. You just extorted 10,000 yuan from Mr. Ba to take care of me. This is how we got our activity funds. You haven't forgotten it, have you? You are a sick man. Stop pretending and come over here to help. Hearing this, Zuhua not only did not move but also laughed heavily twice. Actually, I can help you. We are brothers. We grew up wearing the same crotchless pants. This is nothing. But, hearing the twist of words, Lin Hao's mouth twitched suddenly. The next moment, Zuhui grinned. It costs more. Chapter 19. An accident might happen someday. Of course, the two brothers' jokes were limited to no more than 10 minutes. It is said that brothers do not hold grudges overnight, not to mention that the two of them now have something on each other. The situation at this moment is so subtle that brothers and sisters, as well as close relatives, are probably no different. Zuhua knew that Lin Hao had used him to blackmail his boss, and Lin Hao once again used the excuse that Zuhua was seriously ill to cheat his boss. Of course, after the two of them divided the second sum of loot. This is a matter where both parties have leverage over each other. Unless one day one party becomes so desperate that he or she decides to risk their life. Otherwise, it will just rot in the stomachs of both parties. What are you two doing here? At this moment, a dissatisfied shout suddenly sounded from upstairs. The two of them quickly looked at each other, only to see Liu Zuking standing in the second-floor corridor staring at them with an impatient look on her face. Zuhua doesn't smoke, but there are cigarette butts all over the floor under Lin Hao's feet. Seeing this, Liu Zuking knew that the two had done nothing for half a day. She pointed at the cabinets with a sullen face and said, "Which floor should these things be moved to?" "Fourth floor." Zuhua smiled bitterly. If they had moved to the first or second floor, they would have been able to handle it long ago. But it happened to be the fourth floor. This is an old residential building, and the design of this type of floor has obvious flaws. That is, the corridor is too narrow and the floor height is too low. Relatively speaking, fully assembled furniture is difficult to move. And even most residents have assembled furniture in their homes. Lin Hao was born in the 2000s, and the sad thing is that young people nowadays rarely buy assembled furniture. Although the price of whole house decoration is expensive, the installation speed and cost effectiveness are absolutely good. It is just troublesome when moving. Young people think that it is the decorators who have the trouble in assembling and disassembling furniture. But once you move house, you will understand that you are the one who suffers the most. Not to mention anything else, just hiring someone to disassemble and assemble each piece of furniture is a huge expense. Lin Hao's family conditions are ordinary, and his parents are teachers in the countryside. So even though he got some money by using the excuse that Zuhua was seriously ill, if he had to move house and spend several $1,000s, he would probably have to bear the pain for 2 weeks. Although we tried very hard to move these things, it's on the fourth floor. If we can't move them up in one go, one of us might slack off a bit. The furniture could slide off, and the damage would be much more serious. Zuhua didn't want to be looked down upon by a little girl, let alone Liu Zuking. So I explained it seriously. Hearing this, Liu Zuking raised her eyebrows in surprise. Are these things heavy? Why don't you try it? Once you feel it, you will understand the pain we two brothers are in. Zuhu was just joking. However, Liu Zuking took it seriously and rolled up her sleeves and walked towards the furniture. What's the matter? Why are these little things so sad? Forget it, Zuhu, it would be embarrassing for the grown men like us to have a girl help move furniture. Lin Hao's eyelids jumped. And he waved his hand to stop Liu Zuking's actions. But as soon as the voice fell, he was stunned. I saw that Liu Zuking had picked up the wardrobe with one hand and walked upstairs with great ease. And when she reached the corner of the stairs, she uttered two words inferently. That's it? Is it okay, two little dogs? His expression was contemptuous and cold, and Zuhu had swallowed all the words that were about to come out of his mouth to dissuade him. Lin Hao next to him had already been fried to a crisp. If Zuhu hadn't been next to me, I would have really wanted to ask loudly, are you a human being? An ancient fairy who looks about 1.7 meters tall and has a slender figure. He lifted up the huge wardrobe with his bare hands, which was a headache for the grown men. Are you fucking Popeye, eating spinach behind our backs? However, what surprised Zuhu was not Liu Zuking's strength. He had been beaten by a woman more than once or twice, of course. He knew that in front of a woman, he really had no ability to resist at all. But Liu Zuking could actually utter the word thin dog. Where did you hear the term thin dog? Half a minute later, Liu Zuking returned to the two of them. Lin Hao and Zhu Hu stared at the slender figure whose eyes were not red and who was not out of breath, and the corners of their mouths twitched wildly. Upon hearing this, Liu Zuking said inferently, on the way back today, a girl pointed at you and said to another girl, boys like you who have thin limbs and can't even carry a bag of rice to the 6th floor in one breath are called thin dogs. I think what you said makes sense. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere suddenly froze and Zhu Hu's old face turned red. Wow, it turns out Liu Zuking is following suit. In her mind, I have become the standard for thin dogs. If all this is not a dream, and Liu Zuking can really stay in the real world forever, the two of them can become a couple in the future. Maybe they will become husband and wife soon. After all, Liu Zuking seemed to be pregnant with Zhu Hu's child. No man can tolerate his wife calling him little dog. Zhu Hu coughed twice and explained righteously. In fact, the term thin dog is not understood in this way. It refers to those people who can't even carry a bag of rice to the 6th floor, or even can't carry it at all. I am not the same. Liu Zuking blinked her beautiful eyes, as if she was half believing and half doubting, and stared at Zhu Hu for a moment. Then carry this up. She pointed to another cabinet on the floor. This time Lin Hao couldn't hold it back anymore and laughed out loud. If Zhu Hu could move the cabinet upstairs by himself, why would he have been dithering until now? Isn't it obvious that you don't want to work? A frown also crossed Zhu Hu's forehead. Liu Zuking didn't say much either. She silently picked up the cabinets and walked upstairs easily again. Lin Hao and Zhu Hu looked at each other. Lin Hao stared at Zhu Hu's cheek, which had just subsided from swelling, and suddenly felt some sympathy, so he patted his brother's shoulder. Good brother, let's split the money we cheated from Mr. Bi 30 and 70 from now on. Zhu Hu was stunned. When did Lin Hao become so easy to talk to? He didn't even ask for it, but he was the first to mention increasing his share of the spoils. The next moment, Lin Hao said with pity, take those 2 extra points. Buy whatever you want, eat whatever you want, and take good care of yourself after all. If nothing unexpected happens to you, you never know when something might happen to you. Chapter 20, White Snow Foam. Fuck you. I know that you can't produce ivory. Zhu Hu glared at Lin Hao fiercely. Get the hell out of here. Do you believe I'll quit working? No, Dad, I was wrong, isn't that okay? Lin Hao immediately put away his playful smile and smiled along. To be honest, a lot of friendships between boys are probably something that girls will never be able to understand in their entire lives, such as occasionally playing the role of father and son. Moreover, the positions of the two roles would be swapped from time to time. The most incomprehensible thing is that some people went to college and move into the dormitory. Maybe there will be 5 more fathers overnight. After working for half an hour, I finally moved all the furniture that was blocking the door to the 4th floor. Zhu Hu breathed a sigh of relief. As a result, at this moment, the backup phone suddenly rang. Who is it? It's Mr. B.A. Boss B.A., huh? I said she likes you, right? I heard that you two are from the same hometown. If I remember correctly, when you were in the student union, you were with her. Halfway through his words, Lin Hao finally realized what he had said wrong. Zhu Hu next to him was already sweating and glaring. As a result, Lin Hao only reacted belatedly. Lin Hao and MSL. Zhu Hu lowered his eyebrows and looked at Liu Zuking beside him. It's my boss. There shouldn't be anything important to do at this time. Why don't we go out for some barbecue to celebrate Lin Hao's move to a new house, or drink some beer? Batch. The next moment, Liu Zuking suddenly glared. Zhu Hu's legs started shaking with fear. Don't you know what a cell phone is for? I studied the PHS this afternoon and I already know what a cell phone does. So the woman this time is most likely your lover, right? Lover? Lin Hao suddenly had a bad feeling. But in fact he was just making a joke or two. But out of habit, I brought up the time when Zhu Hu was still single. At that time, the two of them chatted unrestrained talking about everything under the sun, especially after drinking 2 bottles of Tsingtao. They could basically brag about half of Zhongcheng as their home. Who knew that Li Zuqing next to him would really compete? Zhu Hu's forehead was covered with cold sweat, but the damn phone kept ringing. He wished he could go back to the era of Motorola mobile phones. That way you can remove the battery and get away with it, or even use the excuse that the phone is broken. You'll have 3 seconds. 3, 2. For some reason, Liu Zuqing was very obsessed with the opposite sex around Zhu Hua. Seeing that the woman was about to get angry, Zhu Hua did not dare to delay and quickly pressed the answer button. Hello, boss, what do you want to talk to me about? I'm quite busy right now, how about we talk about it tomorrow? As soon as Zhu Hui answered the phone, he started laughing like crazy, trying to send a signal to the boss on the other end. Unfortunately, Bizumo didn't understand his intention at all. Your father just called me and told you to go back to worship your ancestors tomorrow. So I will give you a day off tomorrow. It just so happens that you had just recovered from a serious illness, so if you are fine, you don't have to come to the company so often. According to the official leave, it's a bit cold over in Dalianji Mountain, so remember to wear thicker clothes. There is nothing wrong with the first few sentences. But at the end, the Aizumo showed concern for her. Zhu Hu's heart skipped a beat and his heart suddenly rose to his throat. Ancestor worship? How could I forget something so important? Aizumo and Zhu Hui are old acquaintances, but they are not the old lovers as Lin Hao joked. Both of them grew up in Dalianji Shan. But one went to school outside and the other went to school in the village. It was not until a cement road was built that Zhu Hu's parents, relying on Zhu's status as a cadre within the system, were able to gradually bring the family of 3 out of the mountains. So although Zhu Hu's family conditions are not very bad, they are definitely not wealthy. There is a feudal custom in Dalianji Mountain, that is, a date for ancestor worship is fixed. Some say that the ancestors of all the people in the village have the same blood, while others say that hundreds of years ago, everyone in the village belonged to the same family. Anyway, there are various versions, and perhaps as the number of children in Dalianji increases, more versions will be born in the future. Okay, thank you for your concern, Mr. B.A. Why are you so polite today? You used to call me Miss B.A. when we were watching the moon, but now you call me President B.A. if I have a boyfriend in a few days. Do you still have to call me Madam B.A.? Broken. Mr. B.A. is going to cause trouble. And damn, when did I ever call you Sister Xiao B.A.? Li Zuqing, who had been holding back her ultimate move, sneered. Fox Spirit, you really have a way of caring about other men. Who do you think you are? I don't need you to care about my people even if they run around naked. Besides, he has been with me for the past 6 months. How can he have the time to watch the moon with you? After these words were spoken, the scene of 2 women fighting each other that Zhu Hu and Lin Hao had imagined did not happen. Because the next moment, Bizumo on the other end of the phone hung up. In the general manager's office of Xingxi Entertainment, a slender figure in a half-covered skirt was squatting on a chair. After hanging up the phone, a trace of indescribable loneliness flashed across her pretty face, and she shook the red wine glass in her hand. The barefoot, smooth jade feet swung on the expensive imported Boss chair, and then she turned her head to look out the window. The night scene in Zhongcheng is prosperous and charming, especially in the core area of the city. There are lights and feasting all around. A woman suddenly appeared and used the excuse of pregnancy to get close to Zhu Hui. Even if it's true, I have to help Zhu Hui test her after all. As a senior student, I seem to have the obligation to help my junior brother check. After saying this self-deceiving sentence, Bizuo leisurely took a sip of red wine. However, the originally sweet and delicious red wine now had an inexplicable bitterness when it entered the mouth. She died? President B.A. I just died like that? Lin Hao widened his eyes. How could he put it? There was a flash of disappointment in this boy's eyes. It seemed that the expected scene did not happen. Liu Zuqing also felt like she was punching cotton, with the power nowhere to vent. She had originally been thinking about sniping against this disgusting vixen in the middle lane. As a result, the other party just hung up and surrendered. What the hell is this? The next moment, the Ice Lotus Empress temper instantly flared up. She glared at Zhu Hu and said in a deep voice, "Tomorrow, no matter what you do, you must take me with you." But President B.A. didn't go to worship the ancestors either. Their ancestors moved away a long time ago because her parents became rich in their early years. Do you want to bring it? Zhu Hui met Liu Zuqing's angry eyes and suddenly shrank his head. Bring. At this time Zhu Hui suddenly felt that the more he said, the more mistakes he would make. So it would be better not to say anything. Ding-ling-ling. The ringing of a cell phone once again broke the silence of the 3 people. Which little bitch again? Liu Zuqing frowned. Lin Hao, who was standing by, couldn't help but sweat for Zhu Hui. Brother, I was the one who fired the first shot, but this time I didn't say anything. I was just the initiator of the team fight. I didn't push the crystal. Zhu Hui took out his cell phone with trembling hands and swallowed hard. I glanced at the screen and breathed a sigh of relief. My dad. Hearing that it was Lao Zhu, Liu Zuqing withdrew her gaze inferently. Seeing this, Zhu Hui's mouth twitched. It seems that you are more interested in Bizumo than my dad. Hello, Dad? Tomorrow we will offer sacrifices to our ancestors, remember to wear a mask. What's wrong? Is there an outbreak of influenza over there? There's no one in the mountains. How can you face your ancestors when you are in such a mess? Zhu Hui was stunned. What about you? There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, then Lao Zhu spoke faintly. I'll wear it too. Chapter 21. This taste is so authentic. Fuck. Zhu Hui had never expected that his father was so shameless. It turned out that he didn't even show his face during the ancestor worship to let the ancestors see the bloodline of their Zhu family. After hanging up the phone with her father, Liu Zuqing directly said that she was tired and wanted to rest. However, before leaving, he also pulled Zhu Hui back to the house. Seeing this, Lin Hao made a face and thought that the young couple was quarreling over the bed. But he had no idea that the Ice Lotus Queen had just become enraged. There is something I hope you understand. You say. After returning to the room, Zhu Hui thought that it would be the same as last night, with no words spoken around him. However, Liu Zuqing simply pulled out a chair and sat down on it, even raising her eyelids and glancing at Zhu Hui. First, if you lie to me, you will end up in trouble. Second, lie to me, and you'll end up in trouble. Third, lying to me will not end well. Zhu Hui originally sensed that the atmosphere was not right, and thought that Liu Zuqing was really angry and was going to say something scary to intimidate him. After holding it in for a long time, she actually did this? That's it? Zhu Hui was stunned. And Liu Zuqing herself was also stunned. She had thought of her words when she went downstairs. She had organized the language in her mind. She originally intended to tell Zhu Hui the truth, that she was from the Tianquan continent and was the pure and innocent Ice Lotus Empress of the demon race. Her coupling with him was just a beautiful accident, and she hoped Zhu Hui would not be too self-indulgent. When the child is born, I will naturally leave, and the child will be entrusted to Zhu Hui's mother and him to take care of. But when the words were on the tip of his tongue, he stared at Zhu Hui's aggrieved face, as if he was being punched in the face. Liu Zuqing couldn't say anything. Whatever you are hiding from me, tell me the truth. The next moment, Liu Zuqing forced herself to turn her head away and not look at Zhu Hui. Hearing this, Zhu Hui gave a bitter smile. Boss BA, that was just a joke. I swear to God, we are definitely not having an affair. I heard the woman sneer. Zhu Hui suddenly became anxious. If I have lied to you, let me be struck by lightning and die miserably. Let me give birth to a son without a penis and a daughter without an anus. Snap. Halfway through his words, Zhu Hui had to clear slap marks on his face. Liu Zuqing's pretty face turned red. But it was an annoyed red. Are you kidding me? Or do you think I'm kidding you? Not only is this curse painless, but it also curses the child in her belly? No, I haven't. But there's really nothing going on between Mr. BA and me. We're from the same hometown, and we were classmates in college. That's all when you were with me. Didn't you know that I didn't do it right the first time? I'm absolutely innocent. Snap. The next moment, 2 loud slaps were heard. If you keep talking to me about these things, I will slap you to death. The story of Miss Element is a long one. However, this memory is also the most difficult experience for Liu Zuqing to talk about. After the memories of her life experience in the mortal world were integrated, she even wanted to strangle Zhu Hui to death. Not only did she get sent to third base that night. To quote a classic line from Drawing Sword, Zhu Hui's behavior was not 2nd Battalion Commander, fire your artillery. It was simply using Italian artillery to attack Russian air raid shelters. It's really exciting and thrilling. Zhu Hui covered his face and dared not eat meat at all. Liu Zuqing was still angry. But when she recalled the unruly character of the man in front of her, she seemed to be at a loss what to do with him for the moment. You think he apologized? He actually has nothing to apologize for. Do you think he realized his mistake? The most important thing is that he hasn't started making mistakes yet. But why do I get angrier the more I think about it? Especially when staring at this face. It becomes more and more unpleasant no matter how you look at it. Anyway, I'm pregnant. He didn't dare to do anything to me. So he just found an excuse. Is it possible that I am roaring like a shrew just because he teased me? Actually, this is also a reason. Yes, why do I get angry so easily when I'm with this guy? It must be all his fault. The next moment, Liu Zuqing hooked her finger coldly at Zhu Hui. You. Come over. What are you doing? Zhu Hui stuttered for fear of angering the woman again. He had no idea what kind of inner struggle Liu Zuqing had gone through in just a few moments just now as she was trying to find an excuse to attack him. However, Liu Zuqing was very domineering and pulled Zhu Hui hard. Immediately afterwards, Zhu Hua felt a gust of fragrant breeze coming, and Liu Zuking actually lowered her head and moved closer to his chest. What is she going to do? Zhu Hua swallowed hard. But before he could think about it anymore, there was a pain in my chest. Fuck, you're born in the year of the dog. Liu Zuking did not answer. After biting the man, she turned around, picked up a pile of books and went into the bedroom angrily, not even giving Zhu Hua a chance to complain. Zhu Hua stood there alone, unable to cry. How can I describe this feeling? He really seems to have done nothing wrong. But when your mother wanted to beat you as a child, did she need to reason with you? If she is unhappy, she will even use the fact that you don't put your shoes in order as a reason to attack her. Zhu Hui had a sad face and touched a row of delicate teeth marks on his chest. Dreaming about elementary school days? Why are you stabbing me with a pen? You crossed the 38th parallel. Fuck, I got my hands back. Whatever, you just crossed over. Nima. Look, Liu Zuking's behavior is so much like that of an elementary school student. Definitely the exact same recipe and taste. What an authentic taste. Chapter 22, is it too short? Nothing happened that night. Zhu Hua got up early the next day, however, when he saw a row of teeth marks on his chest in the mirror. He wanted to do something, but he felt like crying but had no tears. She and I didn't do anything yesterday. If I deliberately wear a scarf in the hot summer, will people think I'm crazy? This makes things even more obvious. If my mother sees me, she will misunderstand me even more. As she thinks I am being lustful and want to touch a pregnant woman in the middle of the night, my God. A streak of cold sweat immediately flowed down Zhu Hua's forehead. The end is even more unimaginable. With mixed feelings, Zhu Hua brushed his teeth and washed up. Not long after, just when he had taken off his clothes and was about to take a cold shower, the sliding door of the bathroom entrance was suddenly opened. Zhu Hua then remembered that Liu Zuking was probably awake too. The next moment, he quickly made the Wooden Clan's signature move and shouted, "Don't come in, I'm naked." Oh, it's not like I haven't seen it before. Who knew that Liu Zuking didn't care at all? She just opened the entrance, walked in and picked up the toiletries. Zhu Hua looked embarrassed. A shower head is easy to repair. Liu Zuking just pulled it out in anger yesterday, and it can be put back by re-screwing it. However, when Zhu Hua was bathing next to him, the sound of running water aroused Liu Zuking's curiosity. Is this thing alive again? The woman blinked her eyes and looked at the shower head curiously. Zhu Hua's face was suddenly filled with embarrassment. Although Liu Zuking seemed to be looking at the shower head, the bathroom space in this two-bedroom apartment was not large. From Zhu Hua's perspective, the woman seemed to be staring at him up and down. Zhu Hua coughed twice again. Well, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Why don't you take your toiletries to the kitchen? There's a faucet there. Do you think I've never seen a man? Or you haven't seen yours? Why are you so protective of him? It's not something very strange, so I'm not interested in seeing it. After saying this, Liu Zuking started washing in front of the mirror. Zhu Hua stood beside him with the signature posture of a wooden disciple. There was nothing he could do. Even if Liu Zuking, a woman, wasn't embarrassed, he, as a grown man, would still be embarrassed. So the thing I broke before is called a TV. The broken phone is a communication device. Just like a transmission talisman, the TV is like a space projection stone, and there is no one inside it. At this moment, Liu Zuking rinsed her mouth and chatted with Zhu Hua as if nothing had happened. Upon hearing this, Zhu Hua nodded in surprise. He didn't know what a space projection stone was. Nor did he know what a communication symbol was, but it was a fact that there was no one on the TV. It seems that Liu Zuking's reading of the book tonight was not in vain, and she seemed to have digested a lot of the content very quickly. Speaking of which, how are you going to control that thing so that it stops the water? Why did it keep spitting at me even though I kept scolding it yesterday? Liu Zuking pointed at the shower head above Zhu Hua's head. Hearing this, Zhu Hua smiled and explained. Look, like this? This is a valve. Lift it up, that's it. If you need hot water, turn it to the left. If you need cold water, turn it to the right. When demonstrating, Zhu Hua deliberately twisted to the right and waved at Liu Zuking. You try it. Liu Zuking suddenly blushed and shook her head. This isn't something weird, it won't hurt to try it. Besides, weren't you very brave yesterday and took it down for no apparent reason? Zhu Hua chuckled again and played with the shower head in his hand, shaking it twice. At this moment, Liu Zuking suddenly stopped talking and pursed her red lips. You'd better hide your 2 centimeters, change your clothes and talk to me. Snort. After saying that, he pulled to the entrance as if escaping and walked straight out. Zhu Hua was stunned at first, and then he yelled fuck. It turned out that in order to demonstrate to Liu Zuking by example, he acted like a hooligan and swung the elephant's trunk back and forth. But come back to your senses. Zhu Hua touched his cock again, gritted his teeth and shouted towards the door. Come back and take a good look, my Gatling gun can still emit blue light. Liu Zuking outside the door suddenly felt her heart beating very fast. She came out of the bathroom and leaned against the wall. All that was left in her mind was the lingering image and the thumping sound of her violent heartbeat. Liu King unconsciously wiped the cold sweat from her forehead. How could it be so? No wonder it hurts me so much. Bang! At this moment, Zhu Hui, who had changed his clothes, also came out. He glanced at Liu King, and the two of them looked at each other. An atmosphere of awkwardness inexplicably began to spread. After all, Liu King was the instigator. If she hadn't barged into the bathroom so carelessly, how could the atmosphere have become so subtle? She decided to say something. It's a nice day today. Zhu Hu looked at the cloudy sky outside the window. His mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. When do we leave? My dad is here. Didn't he? You see someone sitting in the living room. Zhu Hu's mouth twitched again and he pointed to the living room. Whoa, whoa. Clam. Liu King had already adjusted her mood, but suddenly she realized what was happening and quickly looked towards the living room with her beautiful eyes wide open. There was a middle-aged man with a cigarette between his index fingers, staring at the two of them with a strange look on his face. What kind of expression is that on Lao Zu's face? It was as complicated as it could be, with surprise, shock, confusion and disbelief on his face. There is also a strong sense of guilt. I actually didn't see anything. When I came, my son was taking a shower. And then the girl went into the bathroom. After a while, a strange noise came from inside. She said, "Why don't you try it? Besides, you were very brave yesterday." Not long after, the girl came out, and my son was still shouting about the blue light Gatling gun. After a while, my son finally came out covered in dust. No wonder Lao Zu would think too much. Who in their right mind would run into the bathroom, knowing that someone is taking a shower? Especially a pair of opposite sexes. They are a heterosexual couple who are both pregnant and are 100% sure that they are husband and wife. Old Zu's complicated gaze then focused on Zhu Hu and he sighed heavily. He felt that as a father and future father-in-law, he should say something. Although I know that you young people are quite enthusiastic, you should still exercise some restraint at this critical juncture. After saying this, Lao Zu flicked the ash from his hand. Perhaps Lao Zu was shocked by something that happened after he sat down and lit a cigarette, so at first glance, half of the cigarette in his hand was burned out, and the ash was still hanging on the cigarette butt. "Uncle, I'll go down and wait for you." Liu King's pretty face was so red at this moment that it seemed as if blood could drip out. She pushed open the door and was about to go downstairs. When Mr. Zhu heard that his daughter-in-law would also go to worship the ancestors, he didn't have much objection. He just looked at Zhu Hu's waist worriedly and murmured, "What's wrong with you, little guy? It's fine even if you did it in your own home in broad daylight, but it has only been less than 5 minutes since the girl went in. Isn't the time too short?" Chapter 23. He doesn't deserve it. Because of the misunderstanding in the bathroom just now, the father and son looked at each other in silence even after going downstairs. In Chinese families, the father-son relationship like that between Zhu Hu and his father is the most common. The people rarely have common topics. Even if they love each other very much, it is basically impossible to say a few polite words or try to get closer. Especially when facing Zhu Hu's cheerful personality. Even though Bold Zhu has a calm temperament, he would occasionally act like an elder and give his son a lecture, even though he knew his son sometimes told him dirty jokes just to liven up the atmosphere. Lao Zhu was even laughing in his heart, but he didn't show much mercy when he said it. Usually they would criticize and educate the child immediately, so when Liu King was around, Lao Zhu could still give him a few words of instruction, but when the father and son were alone, he didn't know how to start. "Dad, it's not what you think. It's okay, don't be embarrassed. After all, everyone has been young. I've had this experience too." Zhu Mingyuan paused in the middle of his words and glanced at his son's waist with a hint of meaning. "But you still have to take care of your health after all. But health is the capital of revolution." Zhu Hui was not given the opportunity to continue explaining. Often at this time, it means that Zhu Mingyuan is signaling to his son that the topic can end here. Zhu Hui always felt that his father's last words of concern seemed to have a somewhat intriguing meaning, but he probably never dreamed that in his father's heart, he had become the kind of person who was hollowed out by alcohol and sex. "When I went downstairs, I saw Liu King at first sight. It's hard not to notice her graceful figure. The woman just stood at the bottom of the building, and the neighbors passing by looked at the girl with amazement from time to time, probably wondering if she was a fairy who had been banished from somewhere. When she saw Zhu Mingyuan, Liu King's pretty face unconsciously flushed. After all, what happened in the bathroom just now with Zhu Hu had already made both of them a little embarrassed, and it seemed that a third person knew about it. This is probably equivalent to losing a fight with a friend. It's actually no big deal. The two of you can just resolve the misunderstanding and still be able to live in peace afterwards. But when this matter reached the ears of the parents, the taste changed instantly. It would be very unnatural for two people to get along with each other. And even inexplicably awkward. Zhu Mingyuan didn't say much to Liu King. Lao Zu pointed to a pusho on the side of the road and said, "Get in first." Zhu Hui's family doesn't have a car, so he borrowed this one from a relative. Although Lao Zu has worked in the news system for many years, the financial power of the family has always been firmly in the hands of his mother Liu Zhen, who obviously does not understand financial management but just likes to manage money. So even though Lao Zu always wanted to touch the steering wheel, Liu Zhen never gave him this opportunity. The year Zhu Hui entered junior high school, Mr. Zhu proposed to buy a school district house in the city. Hearing this, Liu Zhen was so scared that she immediately invested money in stocks. For this reason, Liu Zhen had a rare quarrel with the mild-tempered Lao Zu. Do you think Zhu Hui can get into a city high school with his grades? Others buy houses to make it easier for their children to go to school? But why should we buy a house? Besides, the housing prices are so expensive now, around 8,000 to 9,000 yuan per square meter. Wait a little longer, maybe the price will drop in 2 years. Don't worry about this money. I have invested it all in the financial products introduced by Sister Liu. I heard that the annualized return is more than 10. If it weren't for the poor conditions of our relatives, I would have wanted to borrow some money to invest in it. Luckily, I have a good relationship with Sister Liu, so she reserved this special open recruitment spot for me. Otherwise I don't know who would have taken it in my lifetime. When Lao Zu heard this, he was so angry that he couldn't breathe for half an hour. Liu Zhen thought that old Zhu was upset that he might have delayed buying a school district house for his son, which led to Zhu Hui not working hard to make progress, so she emphasized this issue almost every day afterwards. Let me tell you, the annualized rate is more than 10. In a few years, our savings will be multiplied several times. Zhu Hui is not good at studying, so we have to save some money for him to get married, right? That year, Zhu Hui was in the first grade of junior high school. Afterwards, housing prices did not continue to fall as Liu Zhen, a middle-aged woman from a small city, had expected. Instead, they continued to rise as if they were taking drugs. Nowadays, any house in the urban area of Chongqing costs upwards of 3 to 4 million yuan. For the old couple, this is definitely an astronomical figure that is enough to make them feel suffocated. Afterwards, Liu Zhen did not get back the couple's savings as she wished. Because Sister Liu is a fraudster who travels all over the world, constantly changing her identity to engage in pyramid schemes. After this incident, the couple not only gave up their plan to buy a house, but also gave up the idea of managing their finances. After that, I honestly put my spare money into the bank here. After a year and bought financial products with stable returns. Only in the past 2 years have I been able to barely recover. I probably heard everything about Xiaoliu from Zhu Hui's mother. Zhu Hui sat in the passenger seat, Lao Zu drove, and Liu Zuqing naturally sat in the back seat of the car. However, the old model of Peugeot has very small space, and these first batch of imported cars introduced into the country are rarely seen on the road now. Liu Zuqing was tall, so the cramped space in the back row couldn't even accommodate her long legs, so she had to lean sideways. Using the rear-view mirror, Lao Zu glanced at his daughter-in-law, whose looks rivaled those of a top star. She has a very good appearance and a very good temperament. She also looks like a lady from a prominent family. I don't know how such a girl could be so blind as to fall for Zhu Hui. Lao Zu made a silent judgment in his heart before speaking again. What do you to think about this child? He did not stand in the father's perspective and make a subjective decision for his son whether to have the child or not. If they have children, then naturally the 2 children will get married. If they don't have a child, the last 2 young people will probably go their separate ways. However, this is a matter for young people, and he needs to seek the opinions of Zhu Hui and Liu Zuqing. This also reflects the calmness and wisdom in Lao Zu's character. At least she is not as appearance conscious as Liu Zhen when she saw her daughter-in-law was so beautiful and had such an extraordinary temperament. She loved her very much. He didn't even consider whether his own son was worthy of her forehead. Zhu Hui touched the tip of his nose angrily. Liu Zuqing, on the contrary, acted even calmer. I must give birth to this child. Having a child means that 2 people are going to get married. This seems to be the woman's opinion. Lao Zu took note of it in his heart, and then while waiting for the red light, he glanced at his son. Uncle, his opinion is actually not important. This child is. My original intention is to give birth to him. No one can change my mind. Even if Zhu Hui is unwilling to take responsibility, I will raise the child myself. Liu Zuqing's voice echoed in the carriage. She is paranoid, but she may still be devoted to her own son. Lao Zu silently picked up a cigarette, thought for a while, and put the cigarette to his ear without lighting it. He put a label on Liu Zuqing again in his heart. A savior? It's highly unlikely with this appearance, even if she goes to Longdu for a blind date. As long as she gets an abortion and honestly explains her past experiences, 80 of the sons of powerful families will flock to her. Could it be that he has foreign debts? It's even more impossible if he has foreign debts to repay. Zhu Hui is not a nobleman from a prominent family, nor is he a rich man. His family background is ordinary, and there is nothing attractive about him. So it's impossible that she hastily found a scapegoat to get pregnant and wanted to entrust her life to an honest man. Nor is she a gambler who owes a huge amount of foreign debt. Could she really be an honest girl with a clean family background and a good life? But does Zhu Hui deserve it? Lao Zhu thought gloomily in his heart. Finally he secretly glanced at his son next to him at this moment. Zhu Hui turned his head and made faces at Li Zuqing with a playful look, but with his signature silly smile on his face. Don't be angry, I didn't say it was irresponsible. Look at you, why are you so anxious? That's enough, your bitter face is not pretty at all. Girl, give me a smile, I don't mean anything else, I just want to tease you. So sir, I'll give you a smile. Li Zuqing glared at Zhu Hui fiercely, then turned her head and looked out the window with disdain. At this moment, the corners of Lao Zhu's mouth twitched violently and he shook his head. He doesn't deserve it. Chapter 24, Parallel Time and Space. Zhu Hui certainly didn't know that in just 3 traffic lights, his father had already labeled himself with a label that he didn't deserve. Otherwise Zhu Hui would definitely protest. While Lao Zhu was secretly observing his daughter-in-law, Li Zuqing was also looking at the future father-in-law. At a certain moment, the atmosphere in the carriage became extremely quiet. Li Zuqing suddenly spoke up. Uncle, is Auntie coming today? Lao Zhu was stunned for a moment. The next moment, I remembered that my wife said she would make soup for her daughter-in-law every day. It is important to take good care of your body during this most important period for women. He calmed himself down. Come. Lao Zhu answered calmly. Li Zuqing's mood improved a lot. During the next 2-hour drive, Zhu Hui, who was sitting in the passenger seat, felt a little carsick from playing with his phone. So he simply closed his eyes to rest. Not long after, he fell asleep comfortably. At this time, the atmosphere in the car became even weirder. At this moment, the car has entered the country road of Daily and G Mountain. This kind of bad road is very difficult to drive on. If you are not careful, you may get a tire blowout. Lao Zhu must concentrate on driving. One is the future father-in-law, and the other is the pregnant daughter-in-law. When they first met, they didn't have much to talk about. In order to avoid embarrassment, Lao Zhu turned on the radio. Recently, the National Academy of Sciences has made a major breakthrough in the field of parallel time and space now. He would like to invite experts to explain to you what parallel time and space is. Lao Zhu has worked in the system for many years and is very good at observing people's words and expressions. When the radio was first turned on, Li Zuqing looked a little bored. However, when the radio switched to this channel, Li Zuqing instantly became alert. Although she did not deliberately sit up straight, she was more focused. Does this girl also like to study quantum physics? A physics enthusiast? That wouldn't be surprising. Zhu Mingyuan clicked his tongue and thought. I remember that the ugliest boy in our class also married the school beauty. Everyone was very surprised at the time, wondering why the beauty chose this loser in the end. We found out that the guy's family worked in a military factory, and the beauty was a military enthusiast. In Lao Zhu's mind, those who have a special interest in a certain field may not really care about the differences in appearance, age, knowledge, and experience between people. Dr. Li, please tell us about your recent breakthrough. The host's voice slowly came from the radio. Before I tell you about our progress, I would like to give you a brief introduction to the theory of parallel time and space. Assuming there is more than one you in this world, more than one me, or even more than one of us, where is the other us? Dr. Li paused on the radio. In the past, this was just a set of theoretical models, used to solve some things in our lives that we occasionally think are incredible. Of course, it is more often used in the field of microscopic physics to solve some phenomena that cannot be explained by known theories for the time being. But when this theoretical model was confirmed, even I was amazed. Another us is hiding in a parallel time and space. The next moment, drive. Li on the radio said in a sonorous voice. In this world, there is another Earth, and there is also another group of us living on Earth. They live lives that are completely different from ours. And usually most of the time, our lives in another time and space will not affect the world we live in now. But when certain special circumstances occur, such as a higher dimensional creature contacting the same individual into different worlds at the same time. Let me give you a simple example. Let me use myself as an example. If the creatures in another dimension come into contact with me in the parallel time and space and me in this world at the same time, then the two worlds will be completely connected. In other words, the two worlds will slowly merge. But fusion does not mean that the me in one world will disappear, but that the differences between the two worlds will merge. For example, in that parallel universe, if there is a planet besides the moon, then that planet will appear in our world. Lao Zhu is actually not interested in these things. If I understand these theories, will my salary increase? Or will there be higher bonuses and subsidies? Or will it have an impact on life, making the son more obedient and sensible, and the wife more restrained in her temper? Won't. So most of the time, middle-aged man Lao Zhu doesn't pay attention to this kind of news. Similarly, listeners with almost the same mentality as Lao Tzu accounted for 99 of the program. Soon it was the listener hotline segment, and an audience member joked with a smile. Then I would like to ask, Drive Lee, under what circumstances can we go to another parallel universe? Also, if I am a rich man in the parallel universe, can I bring his wealth back? This audience can almost represent the vast majority of the audience. After all, no one is too lazy to know about theories or models at most. I will ask these seemingly sarcastic but actually unreasonable questions after listening to Drive Lee's explanation. Although it doesn't have much value, it can be considered as listening to the radio seriously. However, during the radio program, Dr. Lee said seriously, "My friend, entering a parallel universe is a very dangerous thing, because what happens in a parallel universe may be reflected in reality according to the theory of the butterfly effect, and may even affect your real life. As for your first question, how to enter a parallel universe?" Dr. Lee drawled out. At this moment, most of the audience knew what was going on. This is probably another scientific company that is as fake as a scam and is using this as a gimmick to attract investment in marketing, right? If you really have an experiment to prove the existence of parallel time and space, I'm afraid you would be focusing on scientific research. How could you have so much free time to popularize science and explain things to ordinary people? Although we haven't confirmed it, I personally have a guess. Perhaps a person is in a state of suspended animation, or perhaps in a state similar to a vegetative state, with a chance of entering a parallel universe. But I still want to remind you that what happens in parallel time and space is likely to affect the reality you are in. Suspended death or vegetative state? Doesn't that mean it's basically impossible to verify at all? However, these two states are still somewhat creepy. The atmosphere suddenly became weird. At this moment, the other two people in the car did not notice. Zhu Hui, who had woken up at some point, was staring at the radio in surprise, his eyes dull. Chapter 25. Loss of the right to choose a spouse. After a 5-hour drive and a refueling stop, the Peugeot finally reached Dalian Mountain. When Zhu Hui came out, he was worried that Liu Zuqing would be cold. So he brought an extra piece of clothing with him. From time to time, cold winds would blow in the mountains. Zhu Hui himself felt the cold wind piercing his heart even when he was wearing a sweatshirt. Let alone Liu Zuqing, who was wearing thin clothes. "Here, I brought a coat just for you." Zhu Hui glanced at his father, who started smoking after getting off the car, and smiled helplessly. Lao Tzu was probably too suffocated to hold it in the car, so he smoked one cigarette after another. After getting out of the car, he smoked two in a row before wrapping himself up in his coat and walking towards the village. Although Liu Zuqing herself was not cold, she noticed that almost everyone in the village was wearing thick clothes. If she were to wear a thin ice blue dress, she would indeed look strange. Moreover, this guy brought clothes specifically for me. There was a hint of emotion in Liu Zuqing's eyes. "Thank you. It should be. Let's go. My dad has already walked more than 200 meters. If we linger any longer, we won't be able to see his back anymore." After Zhu Hui finished speaking with a smile, he also pulled Liu Zuqing and walked towards the village. The environment of Dalian Mountain can actually be said to be more isolated than the Sangshen village in the dream. Zhu Hui's family was one of the richest in the whole village. But it was not until he was 8 years old that his family got their first big butt TV. In 2008 and 2009, there were definitely many people who could afford colored TVs, but among the vast population of 1.4 billion, it is definitely not associated with wealth. "What do you need me to do later?" Liu Zuqing glanced at the bustling village entrance. Zhu Hui thought about it and said, "It's nothing, just follow my dad and say hello to everyone you meet. But there is a trick to this. For example, if a junior greets you, it would seem a bit cold if you just say hello. Let me teach you a trick. If you meet good-looking kids, praise them for their good looks. If you meet good academic performance, praise them for their good academic performance." "How do I know your academic performance?" Liu Zuqing's eyebrows were slightly furrowed. Zhu Hui chuckled and said, "You don't need to ask. My dad will say hello in front and we can just follow behind. When people of this age meet, if their children are good at studying, they will basically talk about their children's grades in the second sentence. As long as the other parents take the initiative to talk about grades, it means that your child's grades are good. If the other parents are embarrassed to talk about this topic, it means that the academic performance is not good. What if none of them work? What does none of them work mean?" Zhu Hui was stunned for a moment before he realized what Liu Zuqing meant. If a child is not only ugly but also has poor academic performance, how should we be polite to him? And you can praise him for his height. Zhu Hui smiled and shared some experience, then walked up to his father. A middle-aged man next to old Zhu took a look at Zhu Hui, then said with a smile, "Is this your son? I haven't seen him for some years, and Zhu Hui has grown so tall." "Zhu Hui? Liu Zuqing. Old Zhu didn't know that his son and Li Zuqing were slapped in the face just after they finished talking about the routine of dealing with people, and he was still smiling and being polite with a peer next to him. Old Chen. You guys are back from Shenzhen too? I heard that your Gudayan is going to take the high school entrance exam. This is a critical moment. You must seize the moment. Lao Zhu had many acquaintances in the village. As soon as he came in, he started passing cigarettes to the men, women, young and old who were standing on the roadside and chatting. Oh no, there is no less. Although I have lost contact with many of my friends in the village over the years, I can still recognize those familiar faces after taking a closer look. I'm in my hometown, Daily and GSA-chan, seems to have been paused. Here, many friends can have a lively chat when they meet again, even if they haven't seen each other for a year or two. This was one of my father's earliest colleagues. He dated my mother at first. But when they were dating later, Comrade Lao Zhu successfully snatched her away with 3 pounds of eggs and 2 acres of land from his family. Zhu Hui angrily introduced the identity of the person next to Old Zhu to Liu Zuqing. The other person also looked like a city dweller. In a place like Daily and GSA-chan, it is much easier to distinguish between city people and fellow villagers. People wearing windbreakers, scarves, or shiny suits are basically city dwellers. Those wearing flowery cotton jackets and knitted hats are basically from the countryside. Old Chen also heard Zhu Hui's voice. Next to him stood a young man who looked to be about 14 or 15 years old. The little boy's eyes were staring straight at Liu Zuqing, who was beside Zhu Hui. In front of the children, the past stories of these elders were exposed. Old Chen looked a little embarrassed. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he said goodbye and left. You are talking nonsense again. Your Uncle Chen used to be very nice to you. Why do you keep bringing up those things your mom told you? Uncle Chen was married for the 3rd time, but his wife had advanced breast cancer and passed away not long after they got married. It was not easy for Uncle Chen to raise 3 children by himself. Stop bringing up those past experiences. Old Zhu was somewhat dissatisfied with his son's behavior and came over to give him a lecture. However, when it comes to serious matters, there is an 80% chance that Zhu Hu will not talk back to his father. But when chatting, Zhu Hu once again returned to his usual cheerful personality. Hey, Dad, it was you who started it all, right? The Chen families are Gou Dan. What do you mean are Gou Dan? My child's name is Gou Dan. Das let Guda and be Guda Yen. It has nothing to do with me what the dog is called. So why should I care what he is called? Zhu Hu smacked his lips. Oh, Guda Yen asked me last week if I knew any older brothers in Shenzhen Dimao Middle School. He's probably going to challenge someone to a fight and is planning to become their nemesis. He's definitely a new age gangster. Hearing this, a hint of worry flashed across Lao Zhu's brows. Zhu Hui smiled and said, so that kid is not a good student either, didn't? You see that Lao Chen's expression froze after you asked the question? I guess you must have touched his sore spot. After being scolded by his son, Lao Zhu couldn't help but. It seems that my habitual polite way of greeting is really outdated. If I use my ultimate skill or even a critical hit as soon as I meet someone, there's no way the other person will be happy about it. No wonder old Chen no longer has the mood to exchange pleasantries or chat about family matters. Of course, Lao Zhu was actually more interested in the fight, because his son was involved. He knew that Zhu Hui had some friends who were involved in gangs. So he was worried that Zhu Hui might have been involved, so he asked quickly, did you call someone for him? No, I told you to just tell me my name and say that I am Jade-faced Flying Dragon, the younger brother of Zhu Hui, the #1 human butcher in Daily and G Mountain. Whoever dares to touch you will have his arms and legs cut off. I also specifically asked him to make up a story about me being a gangster contractor for a certain real estate company in Shenzhen, so that it would be more authentic, and I reminded him to say this in front of many people, because when there are many people, people's hearts will easily be scattered. If anyone is frightened by my unfounded reputation, that kid can avoid a beating. This is the truth. When a group fight breaks out, it is usually because a conflict occurs between 2 people into groups, which leads to group conflict. Most of them were called here just to keep up appearances. And most likely they were pulled here without even understanding the situation. The 2 core figures are the ones who can really start a fight. At this time, as long as you can scare the others. If there is one person in the crowd who shows weakness, a group of people will gather around to watch the 2 people fight, and someone may even persuade them to stop fighting. And what was the result? The result? Zhu Hui smiled and glanced at Li Zuqing, who was pretending not to care but was actually listening to the story attentively. As a result, the boy was severely beaten and lost the right to choose his spouse during middle school. What? Lao Zhu picked his ears, thinking he had heard it wrong. Your analysis is very logical. Shouldn't your plan be foolproof? It's not my fault. That kid made 2 mistakes. Zhu Hui shrugged a grieved lie. Odoram forgot to mention a key condition. The one who had a conflict with him was a senior student from the high school department of his school. You know, That kind of scary talk can only fool people of the same age. Anyone who is 1 or 2 grades higher will know that it is just bragging. It is obvious that the little brat is just bluffing. They don't worry about my reputation. No wonder he got beaten. When there are conflicts between lower grades and higher grades, they rarely gain any benefits. That's not surprising. 2 places, that means there is another place where there was a mistake. What's more, Zhu Mingyuan was even more curious about why Chen Gudian lost the right to choose his spouse. Go on. Lao Zhu lit a cigarette and took 2 puffs. Zhu Hua then sighed innocently. I told him to speak when there were many people around, but I didn't ask him to go and provoke the seniors in their PE class. Chapter 26, Let's get together sometime. I told him to speak when there were many people around, but I didn't ask him to go and provoke the seniors in their PE class. In the PE class, he threatened that he knew the jade-faced little flying dragon from Shenzhen City, the human slaughterer from Dalianji Mountain, and Gong Dihue. He also threatened, and that if you don't want to be dragged away and buried alive by Gong Dihue, just give in. As a result, the blow that was supposed to come a week later broke out a week earlier. And you blame me for this? If you provoke a senior in front of all the opposite sex in the class, you'd be crazy if you don't get beat. Lao Zhu was well aware of how quickly this kind of thing spread on campus. No wonder they have lost the right to choose their spouse. Lao Zhu took out his cigarette and suddenly felt a little sympathy for Lao Chen. Although my son's grades were average when he was in school, he never took the initiative to cause trouble. Moreover, Zhu Hu is quite tactful in dealing with people. Basically, Lao Zhu never had to worry about anything. Liu Zhen was always worried that her son would go astray. However, old Zhu knew Zhu Hu's personality well, so he never worried too much. Apart from the incident of suddenly getting a girl pregnant and giving him a daughter-in-law out of thin air, Zhu Hu has never disappointed old Zhu in these years. Laugh if you want to. It's so uncomfortable to hold it in. At this moment, Zhu Hu noticed that Liu Zuking next to him had been holding back her laughter for a long time, and he spread his hands. Anyway, it's not my fault. It's not that my name, jade-faced little flying dragon, isn't loud enough. It's just that Guduran's actions are too showy. Don't worry about me not being able to protect you. I can only say that you are too weak and don't deserve my love and care. Cluck, cluck. This time Liu Zuking couldn't hold it back anymore and smiled twice with her red lips pursed. But when she noticed Guduran still staring at her quietly from a distance, she felt a little sorry for the boy and pursed her red lips to restrain her smile. But apart from not saying anything, there was a smile on her face and in her eyes. In fact, Lao Zhu was also laughing, and the cigarette in his lips was jumping. He didn't care at all as the cigarette ash fell and landed on his body. Okay. It's almost time. Stop talking nonsense, change your clothes and go to worship your ancestors. As he spoke, Lao Zhu took the lead and took 2 steps forward. However, you can still tell from his shaking shoulders that my father is trying to hold back his laughter. Zhu Hua's attention was completely on Liu Zuking, and he didn't even move his feet while Liu Zuking smiled. There were 2 charming dimples at the corners of her mouth. Very sweet. Against the backdrop of the lush green mountains of Dalianji, it was a very peaceful picture, and Zhu Hui was fascinated by it for a moment. Why are you looking at me? If you look again, I'll take your eyeballs off. The originally beautiful painting style was broken by just 1 sentence. Next, after Zhu Hu interrupted them, the 3 of them forgot about the topic of old Chen's family. As Lao Zhu walked alone, he would still give cigarettes to his neighbors from time to time. Of course, after his son's reminder, Lao Zhu rarely uses things like his children's college entrance exams as a start for conversation. At most, they would only say a few words about the health of an elderly person in a certain family. The place for ancestor worship is on the back mountain of Dalianji Mountain, halfway up the mountain. Most urban youths seldom exercise, and Zhu Hui is a representative of the otaku world. To be fair, he wasn't bad looking. It's just that he just graduated and has no savings and no background, so instead of going out to pick up girls and fall in love, he would rather lie comfortably in the house and watch movies with the air conditioner on. Otherwise, his phone wallpaper wouldn't be seen near my. Halfway through the journey, Zhu Hu began to pant. He coughed twice and glanced around along the way. He met many villagers who had already burned incense and placed their ancestors in front of them. Most of them were elderly people leading their younger generations. However, whether they are old or young, they have adapted to the altitude and temperature of Dalianji Mountain, probably because they were born and raised there and have lived there for many years. In addition, I have to walk several kilometers up the mountain and several kilometers down the mountain every day. So his physical fitness is actually better than that of the young and middle-aged Zhu Hui. Zhu Hu's mouth was a little dry. He glanced at old Zhu, who was climbing the mountain alone in front of him, and shouted, "Dad, walk slower. You just don't exercise often. Where's the naughty spirit you had when you were a child? I remember when your mother and I took you to the park to play. You were like a runaway and it was impossible to keep an eye on you. It was a bit difficult for the 2 of us to take turns watching you. After all, Lao Tzu works in a government agency, and the system seems much easier and more comfortable for someone like him who has been around for most of his life, is getting older, and has no need for promotion. In his spare time, Lao Tzu would often go fishing or hiking with his friends. But his son Zhu Hui is just the opposite. I rarely went out during my 4 years in college. I spend most of my time in the dormitory, and the places I spend most of my time outside the dormitory are the classroom and the cafeteria. The playground was like a forbidden area. I hardly ever went there during my 4 years in college. I'm afraid the total number of times can be counted on the hands. Although Lao Tzu said this, he still felt sorry for his son. He silently unscrewed the bottle cap and handed a bottle of water to his son, looking at Zhu Hui talking. Tun beside him, old Zhu silently picked up the yellow paper, wine, and a bunch of messy things used for ancestor worship in Zhu Hui's hand. In fact, it is not surprising that his son would look so embarrassed, but what surprised Mr. Zhu was Liu Zuking. Surprisingly, the girl did not seem to blush or breathe heavily. She looked around curiously and touched things from time to time. She was very interested in the cold-resistant crops on both sides of the road. This little girl has good physical strength. Thinking this way, it does fit her identity as someone who came from the countryside. Thinking of this, Lao Tzu's evaluation of Liu Zuking became much higher. She should be working often in her hometown. Maybe she is a capable person who can make a living. Dad, let me do it. No, just take a rest. These things are not heavy. Zhu Hui glanced at the plastic bag in Lao Tzu's hand and felt a little embarrassed. However, his father did not give him the chance to show off his strength and continued to walk leisurely up the mountain. What are these two little things doing? As we gradually go up the mountain, the temperature naturally gets lower and lower. From time to time, the air you exhale can be accompanied by white fog, but this is precisely because the air pressure in the mountains is low and the urban heat island effect cannot be transmitted. Just then, Liu Zuking pointed to a pair of little snails snuggling together nearby. It must have rained in daily in Jimao to last night, so the air was humid and there were many creatures like snails and earthworms on the ground. Old Zhu turned his head and glanced as an elder. He felt a little embarrassed. After all, the behavior of the two snails at this moment is most likely to continue their family line. Zhu Hui remained calm, raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Oh, they are merging. Fusion?" This word was somewhat unfamiliar to Liu Zuking, and the woman was stunned. Zhu Hui spoke righteously. "This is a way to keep warm whenever you feel cold. I can merge with you when I have time." Chapter 27. Dad, your 7 wolves are pretty good looking. This time, Liu Zuking finally understood the meaning of fusion. Her pretty face immediately turned red and she spat lightly. I secretly thought to myself, could it be that this little hooligan had deceived me when I was going through the world of mortals just by talking nonsense? Will he seduce other women? A question popped up in Liu Zuking's mind. The next moment, she cursed inwardly. The memories of my experiences in this worldly life have had a huge impact on me. The Ice Lotus Empress simply hopes that the baby in her belly is safe and has someone to take care of. And I didn't want to let the unfaithful man have such an easy life, so I decided to come to this plane. How could I possibly fall in love with this ruffian in front of me? Zhu Hui and his son had no idea what Liu Zuking was thinking. After more than 20 minutes of walking, the 3 of them finally arrived at the ancestral tomb of the Zhu family. Without waiting for Zhu Hui to take a break, there was a familiar and honest face next to him, shouting anxiously, "Father Zhu Hui, there is smoke coming out of your ancestral grave." "Fuck you. The smoke is coming out of your ancestral grave." Zhu Hui thought someone had seen Liu Zuking's stunning appearance and was teasing him. The implication is probably that flowers are stuck in cow dung. However, when he casually glanced at the plaque on his ancestral tomb, he was immediately shocked. I saw wisps of green smoke slowly rising from behind the tombstone of the ancestral tomb. Damn it, there really is smoke coming out of my ancestors' graves. Old Zhu immediately turned his head and looked at Liu Zuking. Although Zhu Mingyuan has received higher education, he still has to be superstitious at times like this. Could it be that the daughter-in-law Liu Zuking is very much loved by the ancestors? Old Zhu patted Zhu Hui's shoulder meaningfully. "Treat Xiao Yu well. In the future our ancestors said that it was our Zhu family that benefited from this." However, Zhu Hui frowned, with an indescribable strange look on his face. At this moment, the sight suddenly caught sight of several furtive figures hiding behind the Zhu family's ancestral tomb. He didn't bother to explain to his father and strode over. And he saw the scene in front of him, and even though Zhu Hui was in such a good mood, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. "Fuck you, you naughty kids, it's not New Year's Day, why are you playing with firecrackers in the mountains? Fuck you, you Ray, still playing behind my ancestors, or aren't you afraid that the shit will blow up on your hands? How can you talk like that?" Lao Tzu coughed awkwardly. Who would make fun of their ancestor like this? But now he could see clearly the culprit behind the smoke coming out of the ancestral grave incident. It turned out that a few little kids had nothing to do. So they lit firecrackers for fun behind the tombstone of the Zhu family's ancestral tomb. When the firecrackers went off, green smoke floated up and a few reeds were ignited. That's how blue smoke comes from. If Zhu Hui hadn't discovered it in time, the fire might have spread due to bad luck. By this time next year, our ancestor's house will have been ransacked by a few naughty kids. Fuck you. Zhu Hui was so angry that he grabbed one of the naughty kids and slapped him on the butt a few times. At this, the naughty kids who were still watching nearby were frightened and immediately scattered. Wow. The one who got beaten felt very aggrieved. However, Zhu Hui became more and more excited as the fight went on. A resentment from being pinned to the ground and hammered by Yu Zhu King for the past 2 days was also vented on the naughty kid's butt. Alright, stop fighting. If you continue to hit them, it will cause problems for the child. After hearing his father stop him, Zhu Hui finally let go of the bastard with a gloomy face, but he still asked gloomily, "Did your family offer sacrifices to the ancestors today?" A naughty kid was a little scared of this 1.8 meter tall, fierce-looking big brother. "Take me." Oh. Not long after, a cry of surprise came from a certain ancestral grave not far away. "Oh my god. What kind of hatred is this? Who buried my ancestral grave with a shovel?" Old Zhu glared at his son awkwardly, then returned to him without changing his expression or breathing. "No need to ask, you know it was Zhu Hui's work. However, my son has had this character since he was young. Except for occasionally suffering a small loss when getting along with friends, he will never give in when facing outsiders. Once, Li Yuzhen's electric bike was stolen, and her old mother shed the tears out of heartache. Zhu Hui ate dinner with an expressionless face and threatened to go out to study. Although Mr. Zhu didn't know what his son was going to do, he thought it was most likely related to the electric car incident. Sure enough, the next day a gangster with a bruised face and nose stood at the gate of Lao Zu's house. He not only returned the electric bike, but also apologized sincerely, hoping that Lao Zu would persuade Zhu Hui. Only then did Zhu Mingyuan realize that Zhu Hui had actually smashed a second-hand electric car shop last night. Logically speaking, the Zhu family was in the wrong in this matter. But Zhu Hui knew the other party's home address and threatened, "If you dare to make a big fuss, I will go to your house every day." The other party had no choice but not only did not call the police, but also compensated Li Yuzhen for her losses. Of course, although the outcome of this incident was good, Zhu Hui still could not escape a beating from his mother. "Okay, the wreaths are placed, the paper money is burned, and the wine is poured. Let us go back, or it will be unsafe to travel at night when it gets dark." Hearing this, Zhu Hui said nothing and raised his glass again. "Dad, you and Li Yuzhu King go wait for me outside. I want to talk to my great-grandmother and grandma about what's really in my heart." Zhu Mingyuan knew that his son valued feelings. But this grandmother. When he was born, his great-grandmother had been dead for more than 10 years. What kind of relationship does he have with his grandmother? But Lao Zu didn't ask much. Li Yuzhu King actually came here today to check on the vixen, but she didn't see Mr. Bae's mistress. She also felt the journey was a bit boring, so she just followed Lao Zu. After waiting outside the cemetery for more than half an hour, Lao Zu suddenly felt something was wrong. Does this kid have so much to say to his grandmother? Li Yuzhu King blinked. She didn't understand the feelings of these humans, so she could only shake her head. Old Zhu frowned and went into the cemetery again. "I saw it in front of the ancestor's tombstone." Zhu Hui's face turned red from drinking, but he knew it was embarrassing and remembered to wear a mask. When he drank, he just opened the mask a little, but seeing his tears and snot moved Lao Zu. "I didn't expect this kid to have such deep feelings for his grandma." Old Zhu smacked his lips and sighed, thinking that his son had grown up. Grandpa Zhu Hua was hospitalized in Zhangcheng, so Old Zhu decided to pick the old man up when he had time so that he could communicate more with Zhu Hua. The next moment, feeling gratified, Old Zhu moved forward again, wanting to eavesdrop on what his son was saying. "Grandma, I am an unfilial son and have had a bad luck. I know you are bored down there, but unfortunately I still have a lot of things to do in the human world. I am not up to the task and I am too embarrassed to see you, so I can't go to accompany you." "Grandma, you can't even see my face clearly. Isn't it a pity? When you come next year, there won't be the 12-year-old Zhu Hui, but the 24-year-old me." It was fine at the beginning, but as he listened further on, Lao Zu suddenly felt something was wrong. "Well, if you promise me one thing, I will let you see my handsome face. I will sacrifice a person to you. Please don't be polite. I have a friend named Lin Hao. He has been single for many years. He especially likes the movies of Hashimoto Une recently. This guy seems to have a rebellious nature. He always goes against me and lives upstairs in my house. I mean, why don't you take him down with you? You're alone anyway, and it would be boring down there." Mr. Zhu probably never dreamed that his son was actually stealing his father's girl. After saying this, Lao Zu was dumbfounded. Zhu Hui toasted again with a glass of wine. "If you drink my wine, you will be considered as agreeing to it. We can't go back on our word." The next moment, Zhu Hui turned his head and met old Zhu's angry gaze. Oh shit. He was startled at first, then he patted his butt and stood up as if nothing had happened. Dad, why are you here? Do you have something to say to Grandma? Forget it, let's not disturb her peace. I haven't seen Grandma for too long and I miss her so much. Dad, why don't you leave? Fine, you guys chat. I'll wait for you outside so as not to disturb you and your son. The next moment, Zhu Hui wrapped his coat around himself. Oh, it's so cold in the mountains. Stop talking and let's go home quickly. Hey, Dad, why are you pulling your belt? Your 7 wolves are pretty nice, are you going to give them to Grandma? After a while, there were sudden screams of ghosts and wolves howling from the mountain. Stop fighting. Dad, I was wrong. I won't rush you. You can talk as long as you want. Chapter 28. How could such a thing happen in 22 years? Lao Tzu has worked in the system for many years and has always been a calm person. Being able to show such a scene of fatherly love to his son. From this we can see that he was really angry and didn't pay much attention to Zhu Hui along the way. He dropped the two off at King Gwu Road and left. After getting off the car, Zhu Hui looked at the dark sky and realized that he hadn't eaten much today. Would you like to go? I'll treat you to something delicious. Yeah. Li Zuking raised her chin and was about to walk across the street. Zhu Hui then realized that the light at the intersection was still red and he quickly grabbed Li Zuking. Fuck. You're going to die. Sure enough, although Yu Zuking had crammed a lot of knowledge in one night, a lot of common sense was probably conventional knowledge that parents would tell their children from an early age and was rarely written into books. Li Zuking's knowledge blind spots still exist. After saying that, Zhu Hui grabbed Li Zuking's jade-like soft little hand. Wait, this is a red light. Stop on red lights, go on green lights. Do you see that light? We can only cross the road when it's green. And try to walk on the sidewalk. Why? Because we have to drive on the road. We have taken a car before. When we went to the library, we took the bus today. Dad took us to worship our ancestors and took a car. This is basic road common sense. Whoa, whoa. Li Zuking raised her head. A delicate face full of curiosity. Staring at the countdown of the traffic light. So silly and cute. Zhu Hui was somewhat moved and said softly, "Don't you have traffic lights in your world?" When these words came out, Li Zuking was stunned for a moment. Under the night sky, the two men, one tall and one short, stared at each other for a long time. Li Zuking's eyelashes moved. So, you're going to hand me over to the police? Hearing this, Zhu Hui shook his head. No, actually, after leaving Mulberry Village, I looked for you for a long time. I tried desperately to prove your existence. I hoped that it was real and not a dream. Unfortunately, reality poured cold water on me. When I was completely hopeless, you really showed up. I know you have complaints or anger towards me, but I want you to stay with me. Zhu Hui felt a little embarrassed when he said this, and didn't even dare to look at Li Zuking. After all, it was the first time he confessed his love to a woman in real life. But he still reached out and grabbed the hand of the woman next to him. Zuking, why are you ignoring me? Zhu Hui squeezed the other person's palm. Why does this touch feel a little off? The next moment, Zhu Hui turned his head in surprise. There was an old man in his 50s looking at Zhu Hui with a strange expression on his face. Young man, I'm an old man in my 50s. Please don't mess around, or I'll call the police. Oh, Zhu Hui's old face turned red. Damn, I grabbed the wrong hand. Only then did he hurriedly search for Li Zuking's whereabouts. As a result, he happened to notice that the woman was standing across the street and staring at him silently, but her beautiful starry eyes would occasionally glance at the traffic lights. It seems confused. It stops at red lights and goes at green lights. Why didn't Zhu Hui leave after the light turned green? Seeing this, Zhu Hui couldn't help but grin. So, Yu Zuking is in the human world of this plane? In the Tianquan continent, before the Tiantong realm, there were dozens of powerful demon clan figures standing side by side. They were all staring at the scene in Tiantong realm, breathing heavily. The leading elder in a gorgeous robe sneered. I knew something must have gone wrong with her earthly training. Otherwise, as the queen of the demon race, Liu Zuking should have declared war on the demon race immediately. As a fellow heavenly Dao master, Yun is nothing to be afraid of. By then, it will be easy to take back the 3 great relics we lost. However, Yun has already issued a declaration of war to the Ice Lotus Empress if Liu Zuking does not accept it this time. The news that our demon clan's empress is gone will surely spread throughout the entire Tianquan continent. The demons will only become more rampant by then. Several powerful demon clan members looked at each other with grim faces. No one could have dreamed that the Ice Lotus Empress would actually indulge in romantic love and abandon the demon race. Try to delay the time. I will go and bring the Empress back. Just then, a graceful figure in a black dress slowly stepped out. She also had a beautiful face, although not as cold and elegant as Li Zuking. But she had an indescribable cold and murderous aura. He glanced around with a fierce look. and the other powerful demons did not dare to look at him. Lin Qingling, you are also a proud child of my demon race. You should know that crossing planes is very difficult. Even the Ice Lotus Queen is probably not even 1/10 of her strength at her peak. These are all the cultivation lost in the turbulence of space. What's more, the human race is insidious and cunning. Even the Empress could not avoid being tricked. I have a way to see the Empress without having to cross the plane. Have you forgotten? The Empress lost her virginity to the human race because of her experience in the mortal world. As soon as these words were spoken, the breathing of countless powerful demons paused. You mean? I grew up with the Ice Lotus Empress. I am very familiar with her aura. With this, I can also gain experience in the mortal world so that I can meet the Empress. But the earthly experience requires the memory to be sealed. Then, several powerful demons were worried. Although this was indeed a solution, what could Lin Qingling do when her memory was blocked? The next moment, Lin Qingling interrupted calmly. Don't worry, everyone. I believe that once Her Majesty sees me, she will remember her mission and responsibility. Her love for her husband and wife is just a temporary obsession. Now it seems that this is the only way. Yes. This time I'll ask Qingling to find the Empress. By the way, if possible, find a way to kill that human man. You can bring a space stone with you and project an image. Even if you have blocked your memory, you will be able to remember your mission. Mom, I thought you were acting on a whim. Why are you serious about it? After returning home, Zhu Hui and Liu Zuqing found that there was a busy figure in the house. It was Mother Li Yuzhen. The living room is spotless, obviously thanks to my mother. But Zhu Hui was still curious. Isn't I tired? Grandpa is in the hospital, and he still has to make soup for his daughter-in-law. I was running back and forth, but I still remembered to clean up along the way. Hearing this, Li Yuzhen put her hands on her hips and glanced at Zhu Hui. What's the matter? I treat my daughter-in-law well. Do you have any problem with that? I don't dare. Zhu Hui shrugged his shoulders. He actually felt sorry for his mother, but he didn't know how to persuade her. Should he let Liu Zuqing tell her that the soup she made was terrible? Liu Zuqing next to her had been pulled to the dining table and was sipping corn and pork rib soup in small sips. In order to remove the uneasiness, Li Yuzhen also added a handful of coriander. How about it? After arguing with her son, the middle-aged woman's attention returned to her daughter-in-law. Liu Zuqing nodded slightly. It tastes good. If it tastes good, drink more. Auntie controlled the amount very well today. There is definitely no portion for Zhu Hui. At the end, Li Yuzhen laughed proudly twice. Zhu Hui turned around helplessly and went into the bedroom. He still keeps the habit of writing a diary. Especially today he seems to have learned something extraordinary. In the living room, Li Yuzhen and Liu Zuqing talked endlessly about parenting and asked the woman about her experience today. Although Liu Zuqing was not stingy with words when facing Li Yuzhen, she didn't say much either, and most of the conversation was just questions and answers. This is what Zhu Hui is most confused about. Obviously Li Zuqing is not good at getting along with elders, but she seems to like being with Li Yuzhen. About half an hour later, Li Yuzhen's cell phone suddenly rang. Soon, the middle-aged woman's helpless cry was heard from the living room. What? How can this happen in 2022? Have we offended them? Don't we know them? Why would someone we don't know? Bang! The next moment, the Huawei phone that Li Yuzhen had been using for several years and was reluctant to replace fell to the ground. Zhu Hui in the bedroom heard the sound and hurried out. What happened, mother? Li Yuzhen looked a little flustered and said nervously. Your grandfather's ward has been occupied by someone. Chapter 29. Kneel down and speak. Your grandfather's ward has been occupied by someone. What? Zhu Hui was stunned for a moment, thinking he had heard it wrong. Grandpa is not in good health and needs to undergo surgery soon. So he has been hospitalized for recuperation recently. This is also the reason why his mother Li Yuzhen did not stay with his father Zhu Mingyuan, but instead stayed in Zhangcheng. Mom, did you hear me wrong? What era is this? Are there still people who are trying to take over other people's wards? Liu Zuqing Min, who was standing next to him, sensed that something seemed to have happened, so she did not interrupt. That's what the doctor told us. They said if our family members don't show up within half an hour, they will leave your grandfather outside. The old man was scared. What? Throwing an elderly person who was about to undergo surgery out of the ward. Is this something a human would do? The Bainan Zhu Hui's forehead jumped. Mom, don't worry. Let's go to the hospital first and see what's going on. The next moment, Zhu Hui called a car and helped his mother up. Before leaving, Zhu Hui glanced at Liu Zuqing. You just stay at home. No, I'll go with you to take a look. Liu Zuqing showed great determination. I've been drinking Auntie's soup for 2 days. I can't pretend not to see anything that happened to Auntie, right? Hearing this, Zhu Hui was stunned for a rare moment. However, Liu Zuqing didn't say much. She walked downstairs with Li Yuzhen in her arms beside Zhu Hui. Zhu Hui touched the tip of his nose and stared at the woman's departing back. He always felt that when she was with her mother, her cold and aloof temperament seemed to have weakened a lot, and was replaced by a strong sense of fireworks. After getting in a taxi, several people rushed to the hospital. Grandpa was hospitalized in Hongdu Hospital, which was about 20 minutes away from Kangwu Street where Zhu Hua lived. Along the way, Mother Li Yuzhen's worry was written all over her face, and Zhu Hua didn't dare to comfort her casually. Liu Zuqing always looked aloof and would pat Li Yuzhen on the back from time to time, signaling her to relax and not be nervous. Just like that, when the group showed up at Hongdu Hospital with a nervous mood, exactly 20 minutes had passed since the mother received the call from the hospital. Grandpa's ward is on the second floor, right? Li Yuzhen nodded hurriedly. Although she was usually very domineering towards Zhu Hua, this was only the case when they were family. It was because Li Yuzhen knew that her son and Mr. Zhu would tolerate her. And when something really big happens, it is still the son and husband who have to take the responsibility. As soon as he went up to the second floor, from a distance, Zhu Hua heard a roar coming from a ward. "Old man, how long has it been? Your family members haven't come yet. In that case, bodyguard, throw him out." "Damn it. Sir, please calm down. Our hospital does not have any extra wards left. Can't you go to another hospital? Is there no room available? If I throw this old thing out, there will be one, right? Hurry up and arrange for my old man to be admitted to the hospital. I tell you, if the old man is dissatisfied with anything, you nurses will suffer." The arrogant voice echoed throughout the corridor. Then, an old man's voice was heard in the room. "Young man, don't be impulsive. We have no grudges against each other." "Shut up, you old fool." Hearing this, Zhu Hua could no longer sit still and walked towards the ward with gritted teeth. Sure enough, the first thing he saw was a young man wearing Versace who was commanding several bodyguards in black. And he wanted to throw his grandfather out in a domineering manner. Several nurses wanted to stop them, but they were slapped to the ground by the leading dandy. A nurse's eyes were filled with tears and they all felt very aggrieved. It seemed like this was the first time they had encountered such a thing. "Fuck your mother. Who are you?" Zhu Hua rolled up his sleeves angrily. You have to know that when he was in school, he was the kind of person who was unlearned and good at eating, drinking and having fun. He liked to skip classes and surf the internet when he had nothing to do. Naturally, this kind of person is not afraid or provoking trouble. Zhu Hua pressed his cell phone without leaving any trace. If something goes wrong later, he will summon his good friend Lin Hao over. "Is this a family member?" The young man ignored Zhu Hua and spoke calmly to the medical staff. Hearing this, a nurse gritted her teeth and said, "Yes, he is the relative of this old man." Grandpa on the hospital bed also opened his cloudy eyes in surprise. "Zhu Hua, why are you here? Don't you have to go to work today? You're in trouble, can I not come?" Zhu Hua comforted the old man and then stared at the dude coldly. The other party seemed to be completely unafraid of Zhu Hua's momentum. "Kid, I'll give you 3 minutes to get out of here with this old man. I've requisitioned this high-end ward. Don't try to call in friends here. I think you should have heard of the Zhang Chengjin family. You can't afford the price of going against me, and my old man's life is much more important than the lives of you lowly people. If you dare to do anything, I can make you disappear here with just a flick of my little finger." It is indeed difficult to book a room in the high-end wards of Hongdu Hospital. Originally, according to Zhu Hua's family conditions, his grandfather could not afford to live in such a place. And Lao Zhu felt sorry for his father, and rarely swallowed his pride and used his connections to help. "I didn't expect that I would get into trouble because of this. The Zhang Chengjin family is definitely a famous and prestigious family." However, Zhu Hua remained calm except for a hint of surprise in his eyes. "So he's a celebrity. No wonder he's so arrogant." Gurgle. Just then, a wheelchair was slowly pushed in. There was an old man in his 60s in the wheelchair. The old man was pale, but his expression was full of arrogance. "Young man, you are a wise man if you know the current situation. You are just an ordinary family, and you are not qualified to live in such a high-end ward. Now take your people and get out of here. I, an old man, don't want to bully you. What our Jineo said is right. My life is more valuable than your grandfather's life, so before I get angry." Suddenly a pair of cold little hands fell on the old man's head. The sound also stopped at this moment. "Go on. Old man, so what's the matter?" The bodyguard who was pushing the wheelchair just now fell to the ground. Standing behind the wheelchair was a graceful figure in an ice blue dress. The woman has picturesque eyebrows and eyes, and an extraordinary temperament. However, her cold eyes were filled with indifference, and her small hands were clasping the old man's head. It seemed as if the top of his head would burst at any time. "Since your life is so valuable, you'd better not move around, or I'm afraid I might accidentally crush your head." Seeing this, Jin O in the room was also shocked at this moment. "Who are you? Little girl, what are you going to do?" The old man in the wheelchair was very frightened. The bodyguard didn't even have time to react before he was knocked to the ground by the girl. He no longer dared to pretend to be cool. His attitude changed 180 degrees, and his voice trembled with fear. Liu King glanced at the old man with a disdainful look. I heard that your life is more valuable, and why don't you give it a try and see if your life is strong enough? Hello? The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. Jin Ao, a member of the Jin family, had a very dark face. Several Jin family bodyguards in the room stepped forward and surrounded Liu King. If you dare to mess around, the Jin family will not forgive you. Jin Ao gritted his teeth and squeezed out a sentence. Liu King did not comment. Her cold eyes fell on Jin Ao. Kneel down and talk. Chapter 30, Go away. Kneel down and talk. After Liu King came out, the situation was reversed almost instantly. In fact, Zhu Hui had originally planned to take action. After all, people live by their breath and trees live by their skin. At worst, you can kill me, and we can trade one for one 18 years later. I will be a hero again. But he probably never dreamed that he would do it before he could do it. Liu King unexpectedly jumped out and reversed the situation. Jin Ao swallowed his saliva with a gulp. Don't mess around, my grandfather is the head of the Jin family, he is in a high position, and has great power. Half of the celebrities in Zhongcheng have to be respectful to him. If you don't want to die, let go of my grandfather immediately. He gritted his teeth and made harsh threats. But Liu King only glanced at it calmly. I asked you to kneel down and talk. But it seems you didn't hear me. The next moment, the old man's screams echoed throughout the ward. Liu King gently pinched the other person's shoulder with her jade hand. And there was a crisp sound of bone cracking. Wow, when had Jin Ao and his bodyguards ever seen such a situation? It has always been the Jin family's children who bully others when they go out. I never thought that one day would be struggling to make ends meet with a girl who looked to be only in her early 20s. Kneel down. The next moment, Liu King's jade hand fell on the old man's neck again. Several members of the Jin family gasped in unison. This crazy woman. Does this look like he's going to crush the old man's neck? Why don't you just do what she says? The head of the Jin family, who was sitting in a wheelchair, already had cold sweat on his forehead. The girl can crush her own shoulder with just a slight pinch. Is this the strength required of a human? If the other party really wanted to kill him, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes? At this moment, he was extremely scared. He scolded without caring about the pain. Thump. Jin Ao didn't dare to go against the old man's wishes, and immediately knelt on the ground. Don't mess around, our patriarch is a delicate person. Your actions just now have offended the Jin family. If you don't want to face endless revenge from the Jin family in the future, let him go now. So much nonsense. Liu King snorted coldly and glanced at Zhu Hui. Are you okay? No. Although Zhu Hui had experienced Liu King's terrifying power, but now it seems that what Liu King did to clean herself up was just the tip of the iceberg. Zhu Hui suddenly felt a little fortunate. Did he hit you just now? Liu King glanced at the nurses again. The young nurses looked at each other, some nodded. Some shook their heads. Those who nodded were naturally filled with grief and dissatisfaction, and those who shook their heads were naturally still afraid of the remaining power of the Jin family. Zhu Hui, go and help them get justice. There are 4 girls here, each of them slapped the guide twice. Hearing this, Zhu Hui was stunned for a moment, then he grinned wickedly and walked towards Jin Ao, who was kneeling on the ground, rubbing his hands. Boy, what do you want to do? You dare to touch me? Do you think you have the qualifications to challenge me, just because you have a crazy woman backing you up? You are finished. Young fools, you have no idea what kind of existence you have provoked. Jin Ao was still chattering. Shut him up. Liu King patted the head of the Jin family on the back of his head. This action frightened the old man so much that he shivered. His life was in Liu King's hands, and he immediately roared. Shut up, Jin Ao, it's all your fault, you idiot. Why do you bother these low-level working people? Aren't their lives worth living? Hey, the change of tone was quite fast. Zhu Hui on the side raised his eyebrows with interest. Are you ready? After being scolded, Jin Ao immediately stopped talking. But he still glared at Zhu Hui fiercely. You wait. Snap. Snap. First he slapped him twice with all his strength. Then Zhu Hui shook his left hand. You are so shameless, you hit me so hard that my hand hurts. Why are you looking at me? Your old man has bowed his head. Why are you still so stubborn? I really want to be a gardener and plant some seeds in your heart. The next moment, Zhu Hui slapped Jin Ao twice on the face. The bodyguards nearby were all stunned. Who was being beaten? Who is kneeling on the ground? He is a famous figure in Zhongcheng, the eldest son of the top family, the Jin family, arrogant and domineering. Andy is his title. It all happened in a flash, just like a dream. Young Master Jin was actually beaten. You're done, kid. Wait, today's matter is not over yet. And you, jerk, I will definitely find someone to kill you if I can't kill you. I will lose. Just then, a loud voice came from not far outside the door. Who is causing trouble in Zhongcheng Hongdu Hospital? Several people in the room looked at each other. Liu King looked at the old man in the wheelchair and said with a smile, "You should know how to talk, right?" Hearing this, the old man was stunned at first. He immediately noticed that Liu King's palm moved upwards imperceptibly, and then she nodded busily like a chick eating rice. Soon, Liu Zhen led the people from the hospital security department and appeared at the door of the ward. I saw Zhu Hu and Liu King standing side by side beside the bed in the room. Lying on the bed is Grandpa Zhu Hua, and several nurses are conducting a physical examination on the old man. On the other side, Jin Ao, the head of the Jin family, and the bodyguards stood in a row. The head of the security department of Hongdu Hospital was stunned when he came in. Didn't they say someone was causing trouble? What happened? Liu Zhen was also stunned. The scene in the room was completely different from the chaotic scene she had imagined. Isn't this too peaceful? But she also noticed that the leading young man had a face that was swollen like a pig's head. His son Zhu Hu kept moving his wrists. And this posture. Why does it feel like my son Zhu Hu and daughter-in-law Liu King together took care of the other group of people? Is this what it means to say the harshest words and receive the most severe beating? The corners of Liu Zhen's mouth twitched. At this moment, the head of the Jin family turned his head and forced a smile. "Leader, I think you are most likely mistaken. The patient and I are from the same hometown. And I came to visit my grandson was a little anxious, and I accidentally said the wrong thing, which scared you. But this is a misunderstanding, a mistake." Liu King nodded slightly, seeming quite satisfied with this statement. Grandpa Zhu Hui and several nurses had their mouths twitching wildly. It's hard to tell that the man who always says, "My life is more valuable than your grandfather's life," is the head of the Jin family with a hypocritical smile in front of him. What's with the woe on his face? The leader of the security department is no pushover either. He clearly heard from Liu Zhen that someone was trying to seize the ward, so he rushed over as soon as possible. He pointed at Jin Ao. "Did you guys just have a fight? If it's a violent incident, we have to call the police and all those involved in the fight will be taken to the police station to cooperate with the investigation. However, I don't think the two elderly people in the room are capable of taking action." As soon as these words came out, Zhu Hu's heart trembled. "You can't enter the police station. Liu King doesn't have an ID card at all. If she was taken to the police station because of a violent conflict, it would be a big deal. We didn't fight. I didn't ask you." Zhu Hui hadn't finished speaking yet. The security department leader interrupted calmly and immediately looked at Jin Ao. "Did they hit you? Regardless of who was at fault, hitting someone is a crime. Your mother. You didn't come when you should have. I had almost solved the problem, and now you're here." It seemed that the leader had to find Jin Ao to question him. Zhu Hui was also a little nervous for a moment. "You may be mistaken, this is not a wound on my face. This is caused by my allergy to seafood." Allergic to seafood? Jin Ao originally wanted to tell the secret. But the grandfather next to him hinted at him by banging his calves wildly with his wheelchair. The Jin family's patriarch certainly didn't get to where he is today by talking. He has met countless people in his life. Liu King was not like those street girls who were reckless and violent. The moment she pinched her neck with her hands, the head of the Jin family was very sure that this woman showed a kind of contempt for life. It was a kind of indifference that completely ignored everyone. It's not worth it to provoke such a ruthless guy just for a ward. Okay, let's forget about today also. Don't you see what time it is? No one would come to visit the patient at this time. No wonder the family members were scared. Come earlier next time. After saying this, the security department leader lectured Liu Zhen again. "Auntie, we are also very busy. Please find out the specific situation before looking for someone. You talk too much nonsense. Get out of here." The security department leader scolded others, but Liu King ignored it. However, when scolding Liu Zhen, Liu King glared at her coldly. "Will you go away or not? Damn, how can a patient's family have such an attitude?" The leader of the security department muttered a few words, then left angrily with a few of his men. A depression in the room disappeared instantly. Young Master Jin glanced in the direction of Liu King and Zhu Hua, as if he wanted to remember the appearance of these two people clearly. "Just you wait. It's not over yet." As soon as she finished speaking, Liu King suddenly kicked Jin Ao to the ground. "Then don't leave I here today. Everything happens in a flash." "What? Kill me? Does this woman really dare to kill me?" A big question mark emerged in Jin Ao's mind. Zhu Hua didn't expect that Liu King's temper would come so suddenly. "I'll give you 3 seconds to apologize to Aunt Li and Zhu Hua's grandfather." The next moment, Liu King stretched out 3 fingers. Liu Zhen and her son Zhu Hua looked at each other. "Why do I feel so good? I also." Zhu Hua wanted so much that he wanted to raise his hands high and cheer for Liu King. "My wife is mighty and domineering. Jin Ao's backbone is not as tough as his words." Liu King only retracted 1 finger. He immediately started to cry out in fear and trepidation. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Oh, Liu King glanced at Jin Ao with a disdainful look. Go away. Chapter 31, Farewell. Seeing several members of the Jin family leave one after another, Li Zhen looked at her father-in-law Zhu, who his grandfather was just frightened, but the old man had a good mental quality. At this time, blood pressure, heart rate and breathing have become stable, so there is nothing to worry about. So Li Zhen started talking again. In fact, at that time, you can still ask for some compensation, Xiao Yu. But your performance just now was really awesome. With you at home in the future, I definitely won't have to worry about being bullied. Forehead. Liu King was stunned and cast a suspicious look towards Zhu Hui. That gaze seemed to be asking, is this your reaction to your warning to me not to mention the word murder in front of my aunt? Originally, Liu King was worried about scaring Li Zhen. At seeing her mother-in-law's reaction, she felt relieved. By the way, they are offending the Zhang Chengjin family today. Are you really not worried at all? At this moment, the grandfather lying on the hospital bed looked at his grandson and granddaughter-in-law with concern. The Jin family is a famous and prestigious family in Zhangcheng. I heard that their total assets are more than 1 billion. What if such a person really wants to make trouble with us? Hearing this, Liu King sneered. I hope they won't do anything rash. The Ice Lotus Empress said coldly in her heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't mind killing people in this plane as well. Liu Zhen didn't want to put pressure on the children, so she changed the subject. You two went to the mountains to worship your ancestors during the day, and came to the hospital with me at night. You also dealt with such a terrible matter. You should be tired now, right? And Xiao Yu. The next moment, Liu Zhen finally reacted and slapped the back of her head. Xiao Yu, you are pregnant. Zhu Hui, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and take Xiao Yu back to rest. It's all my fault. I lost my composure today and lost my mind. How could I bring a pregnant woman like Xiao Yu to a place like this? What if she gets hurt accidentally? How am I going to explain to the child? Liu Zhen was very upset and pinched Liu King's soft face. Silly boy, don't mess around like this next time. Liu King's delicate face was instantly pinched into a bun. She originally wanted to struggle and dodge, but when she met Liu Zhen's gentle gaze, she stood still again. The thought of resistance disappeared, and all her thousands of words finally turned into one word. Good. The Ice Lotus Empress Liu King is from the Snow Lotus clan. The Snow Lotus plant system naturally has no father, no mother, no brothers, and no sisters. So it can be said that she has never experienced the feeling of having family since she was a child. For the first time, she felt a sense of attachment and warmth towards Liu Zhen. Nothing unusual happened on their way home that night. However, when they reached the snack street, Liu King suddenly stopped where she was, staring blankly at a food stall on the side of the road. Are you hungry? Liu King nodded. There were actually a few bodyguards outside the ward door just now, but when Liu Zhen went upstairs, Liu King chose to act separately in order to avoid scaring her aunt. Liu Zhen went to ask the hospital security department for help, but Liu King came in alone. The spiritual energy on Earth is thin, probably less than 20 or 30 of that on profound sky continent. The fastest way to replenish energy after a fight is naturally to eat. The two entered the food stall and a wave of heat instantly hit them. It is still summer now, and the nightlife atmosphere in the whole Zhangcheng is very good. Especially today is the weekend. Office workers gather with a few friends at food stalls to study the combination of spicy seasonings with various meats, as well as wheat-fermented drinks. It is absolutely happiness on earth. 2. After raising two fingers to the proprietors, Zhu Hua found a seat and sat down. Were you worried about me just now? After 20 skewers of barbecue were served, I felt the noisy atmosphere around me. It seemed that Liu King could no longer maintain her aloof image, and she raised her smooth chin towards Zhu Hui. Hearing this, Zhu Hui pursed his lips. Well, you don't have an identity in this world. If you go to the police station, you'll be in trouble. So this is why you kissed me last time? Zhu Hui shook his head. I didn't know last time, but I was afraid that you would provoke the police again and get arrested, so in a hurry. I understand. Liu King nodded. He grabbed the skewers of meat from the grill and started eating them in small bites. The atmosphere between the two became a little awkward again. In fact, they both knew something. Today when we were waiting for the traffic light, Zhu Hua said, "Don't you have traffic lights in your world?" And Liu King admitted, "So, are you going to hand me over to the police?" For both of them. It's basically a done deal for both of them. Although it sounds a bit unbelievable, this is the only way to explain why Zhu Hui, who was clearly in love with the girl in his dream, would travel through time and space to reality a week after waking up from the dream. If my presence brings trouble to your life, please help me leave. Liu King ate another skewer of barbecue, then suddenly lowered her head and spoke slowly. Hearing this, Zhu Hua was stunned. You're leaving? Without any proof of identity, I am like a time bomb to you sooner or later, and Li will find out. Your family, friends, life, work, Everything will become a mess because of my appearance. It is mentioned in the book Rule of Law that mainland citizens without ID cards are either spies or illegal immigrants. Once discovered, they must be immediately transferred to the public security authorities for handling. Zhu Hu's heart trembled, and he spoke subconsciously impatiently. And you can stay at home all the time. But as soon as he said this, he instantly regretted it. Even if this world is not much better than where Liu Zuking lives, I have no right to restrict her personal freedom. It would be better to let a living person die than to let her be placed under house arrest like a bird with broken wings. Is Mulberry Village your home? A picture suddenly appeared in Zhu Hu's mind. The bright moon, which is not yet full, rises to the middle of the sky. Surrounded by wisps of fine clouds under the moonlight, the wind blows, the pear blossoms tremble slightly. There is a peaceful village. If Liu Zuking were to go back there, would they never have the chance to meet again? Because there is a high possibility that there is another parallel universe. No. Liu Zuking glanced at Zhu Hu and saw that Zhu Hu breathed a sigh of relief. A trace of loneliness flashed across Liu Zuking's beautiful eyes again. Actually, I am very scared. I am afraid that if I have any attachment to this world, I won't be able to leave. She has always been a loner even in the profound Tian continent. As the powerful Ice Lotus Empress, she has few friends around her. After just 3 or 4 days in Zhangcheng, she already had a sense of belonging. This feeling might be brought to her by Liu Zhen, a middle-aged woman who is carefree, rough but protective of her children, but she would rather believe that the source comes from the man in front of her who made her fall in love with him to death during her experience in the... Actually what? Zhu Hui asked again. Liu Zuking chuckled, and the beautiful dimples on both sides of her cheeks were charming. Nothing. Do you know why you woke up from your dream? The atmosphere was somewhat depressing and dull. Liu Zuking did not dwell on the previous topic and quickly changed the subject. Zhu Hui was stunned again, then shook his head. Because I, whose memory was sealed in the dream, gave up some things for you. As time goes by, you will experience the trials of life. Your own memories will gradually revive. At that time, in Mulberry Village, in Liu Zuking and Zhu Hu's dream, she was the ignorant girl, Liu Zuking, who had never seen the world and was tricked into giving up everything by Zhu Hu with knowledge of astronomy and geography. And she was also the Ice Lotus Empress Liu Zuking, who was cold and arrogant and unparalleled in the Tianjuan continent. Zhu Hu suddenly felt his throat go dry. It was you who saved me. Liu Zuking turned out to be his savior. At this moment, Zhu Hu suddenly felt a tightness in his chest. It seemed like he had never done anything for the woman in front of him. A woman of unknown identity. No place would be willing to receive her even if she gave birth to a child. Right? I am very grateful for your care during this time together, but it is better to cure the pain quickly than to let An Li know the truth in the future, which would be too cruel. Just at this moment, the sky was originally clear in the evening, but it was suddenly covered with dark clouds and thunder rumbled. Damn, why is it raining all of a sudden? Damn it, the weather forecast didn't say it would rain today. Oh my god. He's just like a woman, he changes his mind every moment. Let us go back quickly, otherwise, it will be too late and you won't even be able to get a taxi. As soon as the thunder sounded, guests at the nearby table stood up and walked outside. This is probably the world of emo people. When people are sad, they always feel that the whole world is laughing at them, so everything will be applied to them according to the situation, including the unintentional words said by passers-by during conversation. And the song 7 Li Xian suddenly played in the food stalls. The rain fell all night long, and my love overflowed like the rain. The fallen leaves in the yard are piled up with my thoughts. A few words of gossip can't cool my enthusiasm. You appear on every page of my poetry. Zhu Hu's eyes started to turn red unconsciously. Are you going to leave me? This time, Liu Zuking did not answer, but just stood up silently. Can we still meet? Liu Zuking paused as she was leaving. The next moment, she smiled. Here, this is my snow lotus root. It is useless after it transforms. It contains some words that I want to tell you but am too embarrassed to say it this time. You can only read it after you go back. Zhu Hu now had a nice blue umbrella handle-shaped gadget in his hand. Liu Zuking glared again. Did you hear that? Good. Zhu Hu felt an indescribable sadness in his heart. It's like someone stuffing a handful of sand into your hand. Even though it's inexplicable, you're reluctant to watch the sand slip away. But when you realize that you want to grab it, most of the sand has slipped through your fingers. It would be great if I were really a human girl. Let's go, don't look back. I feel a little sorry for your phone, but it seems your baby is leaving too. The next moment, Liu Zuking rushed out of the door. When Zhu Hu came to his senses and turned around, the woman's cold figure was no longer visible outside the door. Liu Zuking. Zhu Hu rushed over quickly. But outside there was nothing but the gray weather and drizzling rain, and no trace of the woman could be seen. At this moment, the food stall owner hurriedly shouted. Young man. Even if we're breaking up, you still have to pay for the meal. Wow, after these words came out, Zhu Hui completely collapsed. Izu King, you bad woman, you cheated on my feelings. Why can't you cheat on my body as well? You promised me to be responsible for you, so come back, or you can come back and pay for this meal. Not far away, the cold and delicate figure standing under the eaves of a second-floor building trembled. Rogue. The next moment, she adjusted her mood and turned her head slowly with melancholy. The only man I have ever loved in my 100 years of practice, and Aunt Lee, please take care of yourself. Chapter 32, you sent me a text message? Registering for ZHIU on adult college entrance examination is an important step towards your dream. We also provide adult self-study examinations for students and workers aged 18 to 35. You can get a higher education degree without leaving home or spending time, so that your life will be smooth sailing in the future. ZHIU on adult college entrance examination will escort your future. Zhu Hui returned to Kangwu Street in the rain. The only sound on the road besides the sound of raindrops hitting the street was an advertisement for adult education that kept being pushed. It seemed that all the T-verses along the way were pushing this advertisement. However, Zhu Hui was in a low mood and didn't care about these things. The moment he went upstairs and took out the key, his best friend Lin Hao suddenly jumped out from behind him. Hello. What are you thinking about? Why are you so absent-minded? Why did you come down? Damn, on a rainy day it would be more fun to have hotpot with my best friends. Zhu Hui was stunned and suddenly felt like crying. Just then, on the billboards around, suddenly, the slogan of ZHIU on adult education was repeated again. ZHIU on adult college entrance examination, escort your future. What the hell is going on with this adult education ad today? Oh, I remember it's graduation season recently. I guess most young people in technical secondary schools or colleges are probably thinking about whether to improve their academic qualifications or prioritize employment. So this kind of advertisement is out again. The next moment, Lin Hao smiled and put his arm around Zhu Hui's shoulders. Didn't we have the same situation when we graduated? There were people handing out flyers all around the school if you said you were a junior college student. They would give you flyers for upgrading from junior college to undergraduate if you said you were an undergraduate. They would give you information about postgraduate entrance exams or civil service exams in any case. They would give you the right medicine for your condition. I was almost tricked into signing up. Only then did Zhu Hui nod with relief. No wonder. But he was in a bad mood at the moment and was too lazy to say more to Lin Hao. He just nodded sullenly. Lin Hao noticed that his best friend was in a bad mood and patted him on the shoulder. I suddenly remembered an interesting piece of news. I heard that there was a spy who took the college entrance examination twice in order to forge his identity. And he eventually passed the exam and got the top score in a certain province. With this status, the teachers in the school all protected him. Was it very common for us to have such students as borrowers in middle school. Spy, top scorer in the college entrance examination. This guy took the college entrance examination as a borrowed student and claimed that his student status was kept in his hometown, but guess what? Because his grades were so good, all the universities were vying for him. He was enrolled without even having his student status updated. Lin Hao smacked his lips in amazement. Just like that, this spy had been lurking in the motherland for 11 years and was only caught last year. That's true with the identity of a top scorer in the mainland. No one would have guessed that this guy would be a spy, right? What's more, there are hundreds of thousands of college entrance examination students every year. There are many people who are borrowing books or whose files are incomplete. It is extremely difficult to find a spy among them. The workload of screening is too heavy. Do you know how this guy got exposed? Zhu Hui was stunned for a moment and shook his head. Seeing that his best friend's interest had been aroused, Lin Hao gave a mischievous grin. Because this guy was so excited during his graduate thesis defense that he started speaking in his hometown dialect. You know, there's no record of him ever being there. It is true that even the wisest man can make mistakes. Zhu Hui suddenly laughed. Most of the time, this kind of ending that is exposed because of accent or dialect is a version that has been spread through folk rumors. If the authorities really want to catch a spy, they won't just use the local dialect to catch him. But suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed through Zhu Hui's mind and could not be shaken off. Etc. If a spy can have a legal and legitimate mainland identity, after living in Country Z for so many years, doesn't it mean that if Liu King can replicate the achievements of this spy, she will also have the opportunity to obtain a legitimate identity? By then, getting married, having children, and raising kids won't be a problem at all. Zhu Hui slapped his thigh and spoke out in excitement. Lin Hao, who was standing next to him, was shocked when he saw this and thought Zhu Hui was having a seizure. What's wrong with you? Lin Hao, I have something else to do. Why don't you go back today? Lin Hao was stunned. What could happen to you on a rainy day? However, Zhu Hui did not give him a chance to ask. He pushed Lin Hao away, took out the key, opened the door, and went straight into the house. Lin Hao touched the tip of his nose angrily. So now that you have a girlfriend, your brother, am redundant, right? Zhu Hua put all his attention on Li Zuking. Although the story Lin Hao just told was exaggerated, it gave Zhu Hui a good idea. Beep, beep. Zhu Hua was overjoyed and called Li Zuking. After returning from the city library that day, Zhu Hua got Li Zuking a pager so that they could keep in touch. However, I made 3 consecutive calls but no one answered. She must have deliberately ignored my calls, texts, and texts. Even if she wanted to leave, she wouldn't leave so quickly, right? When Zhu Hua saw that Li Zuking didn't answer the phone, he became really nervous. But then he let out a long sigh of relief. I adjusted my mood and started editing the text content. There are some things that I really can't say when we meet. But to be honest, there was a crisp sound of a cell phone keyboard in response. Zhu Hui began his first nervous and excited confession in his life, and he wrote a long and rambling speech. Before I knew it, the drizzle outside the window was getting heavier and heavier, gradually turning into a downpour. Zhu Hui couldn't help but feel even more worried, as he didn't know where Liu Zuking would spend the night. She had no money, didn't understand the world, and was pregnant. What if something unexpected happens? After sending a long string of messages, Zhu Hua stared at the ceiling anxiously. But I would open my phone from time to time to take a look, and soon lie down again in disappointment. No reply. About half an hour later, Zhu Hui opened his phone again and looked at the text message. Still no reply. Gurgle. This night was definitely the most difficult day in Zhu Hua's life. After all, he deleted and revised. Why are you ignoring me? In the end, Zhu Hui couldn't help it and sent a few more messages. Did you sleep? Where are you? How about I go find you, baby? If a female boxer saw the text messages on his phone, she would definitely sneer and say, mad, another bootlicker. However, the situation between Zhu Hui and Li Zuking is very complicated and far from being an ordinary couple. Even after meeting in the real world this time, the two hadn't confirmed their relationship. If I really lose Liu Zuking, this separation might be forever. Zhu Hui was so anxious that he couldn't sleep all night. He glanced at his phone, dazed lie in the morning. In fact, he was still looking forward to receiving a message from Liu Zuking in real life. Most of the dogs are like this. If the other person didn't reply the night before, he would comfort himself by thinking that the other person might have fallen asleep, or was playing games, or was busy with something else. Of course, there are some ideas that are quite fanciful. Could it be that the other party lost his phone? Otherwise, how could he not reply to my message? Most of these people have to take their mobile phones with them when they get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and check their text messages from time to time. Even if they receive a notice of overdue payment from 10,000 ITXs, they will be so excited that they will immediately open their phones. However, most people would be disappointed if they found out in the end that their loved one didn't seem to pay any attention to them. In order to deceive themselves, they might even deliberately turn off their phones or not charge them. I thought that this way she wouldn't be able to find me, and then I would let her experience the anxiety I was going through today. I look forward to seeing the other person's message when I wake up the next day. The result page is still empty, with only the text messages I sent. At that moment, disappointment will fill your heart, and then you will continue to send messages involuntarily. Often at times like this, any reply from the other party can make the lickers excited. I even forgot to blame others, asking them why they ignored me last night, or why they didn't read my message when I woke up in the morning. After that, the content posted was completely different from what I expected. Gradually, as time goes by, you will lower your posture more and more and become a well-deserved bootlicker. Zhu Hui has never been in a relationship, so it is normal for him to have such a reaction. Why? Why hasn't she replied to me yet? Zhu Hui's heart trembled, and his heart was gradually filled with disappointment. Bang! At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open. The dawn light outside dimly shone on the carpet at the door, and the air was filled with tiny dust particles that were normally invisible. Strangely enough, it seems that people only noticed the dust floating in the air in the early morning. Mother? Full of disappointment, Zhu Hua lay on the floor without raising his head. The visitor did not respond, but walked silently in front of Zhu Hua with lotus steps. A pair of bright eyes stared blankly at the man lying on the ground, 3 parts curiosity and 7 parts suspicion in their eyes. What are you doing? The next moment, a clear female voice came slowly. Zhu Hua was stunned at first, and then he jumped up from the floor. A pretty figure standing in front of him was exactly the beautiful figure that had made him toss and turn all night long and unable to sleep. Liu Zuking? I am not dreaming. Zhu Hua didn't even think twice and excitedly hugged the woman into his arms. Did you come back because you saw my text message? Do you know how worried I am about you? Baby, be scared. Stick with me. Why didn't you text me back? A black line passed across Liu Zuking's forehead. Staring at the young man's messy hair and red eyes, Her hand, which was originally intended to push Zhu Hui away, just hung in the air. Liu King softened her heart. But she still moved her red lips and said in confusion, "Did you send me a text message?" Chapter 33, Sister-in-law. Aren't you insulting me? Did you send me a text message? As soon as these words came out, Zhu Hui was stunned. What the hell? Didn't you read my text message and were moved by my sincere attitude, so you decided to come back? Liu King's pretty face turned red and she coughed. I can't bear to leave the soup your mother made, and I've already told you that I need your help before I can leave. Can I just leave whenever I want? Hearing this, Zhu Hui was stunned again. So you didn't want to leave yesterday? What else? It's your fault for not listening carefully to what I said. Snort. Zhu Hui was stunned for a moment. So, could it be that Liu King really didn't receive the text message? He didn't believe it and asked for Liu King's pager and read it carefully. Yes. Damn, there really is no text message then. Who the hell did I send the text message to? Zhu Hui's eyes widened. And he quickly picked up his cell phone and made a call. Beep. Soon. An angry male voice came from the other end. Are you fucking done yet? I've had enough. Are you crazy? Not only did you text me and call me baby, but you also asked me if I could bear to part with you. I can't bear to part with your sister. I don't even know you. Can you stop it? Forehead. And there was a busy tone on the other end of the phone. The corners of Zhu Hui's mouth twitched violently. And he finally realized what was going on. No wonder Liu King didn't reply to my text message all night. It turned out that I sent the text message to the wrong person. I looked at the mobile phone number carefully and found that the middle digit was wrong. This misunderstanding. Liu King next to her couldn't help but started laughing. She was also staring at Zhu Hui's mobile phone screen when she saw words like baby on it. Liu King's pretty face turned red. However, thinking that Zhu Hui had sent the wrong text message to a middle-aged man's phone, her red lips curled up charmingly again. But what do you need me to do for you? This is not important for now. Liu King glanced coquettously at Zhu Hui. This idiot. I just took a look at your phone. You said you thought of a way to live a normal life in your world. What method did you think of? After these words were spoken, the awkward atmosphere between the two of them caused by the erroneous text message slowly dissipated. Zhu Hui coughed. Have you ever heard of adult education? What? Liu King didn't know why, but her pretty face suddenly turned red as if blood was about to drip out. Zhu Hui was a little puzzled. Adult education is about upgrading from a junior college to a university or upgrading your academic qualifications. What is there to be shy about? Could it be that Liu King was a poor student in the world she used to live in? Zhu Hui naturally didn't know what the Ice Lotus Queen was thinking. Liu King was strolling alone on the street last night. There weren't many people on the street anyway, so she wasn't worried that she would attract attention by looking around curiously. Most of the shops were closed due to the rain, but there was a flashing neon sign that caught Liu King's attention. The prefix was also the word adult. When entering the store, Liu King was calm and composed. When she came out, Liu King's pretty face was flushed, and almost wanted to burn the place down out of shame. What do you want to do? The next moment, Liu King looked at Zhu Hui warily again. Zhu Hui laughed bitterly. I want you to participate in adult education as long as you can come out on top. You will have the opportunity to enter the sight of the school's top management. As a top student with good grades, if you say that your hometown is in a remote area and your student records were lost during transportation, perhaps the school will not have too many doubts and will be able to help you reestablish your file. Then I can use your student record to apply for a temporary residence permit. At this moment, Liu King suddenly frowned, etc. Does your world still have schools that teach this? Yes, I have. Liu King opened her mouth in astonishment. As this kind of thing also requires special training and teaching? What's that? Zhu Hui scratched the back of his head. Adult education, academic improvement. Isn't this normal? Even if you are a fresh graduate from a 985 university, you cannot guarantee that your knowledge and expertise will still be at the forefront 10 or 20 years later. The times are progressing and technology is developing. At that time, you will also need to improve your academic qualifications and acquire new knowledge. Isn't this a very normal thing? I won't go. The next moment, Liu King blushed and glared at Zhu Hui with gritted teeth. Why? This is your only chance to stay if you don't go. I really can't think of anything else for the time being. Are you human? How can the human race in your world be so shameless? How could someone let his wife do such a thing? That kind of thing? What kind of thing? Isn't it just to let you go to school and study? Is this unethical? Zhu Hui was stunned. It seems normal for a wife to do this, right? Besides, there's nothing inappropriate about it, right? Go to hell. Snap. The next moment, Liu King slapped Zhu Hui in the face in anger. You beast, bastard, you actually want others to do something inappropriate to me. You are simply not a human being no matter what you say. I will not go if you want to go. Go by yourself. Doing something illegal? Zhu Hua covered his cheek and the corner of his mouth twitched. I just asked you to go to school and study. So why did I become an animal? The joy of getting Liu Zuking back was instantly filled with astonishment. Did you misunderstand something? No, I don't want to see you again. Is there any need for misunderstanding in this matter? You are a beast with wolfish ambitions and a ruthless heart. I really misjudged you. After saying this, Liu Zuking pushed Zhu Hui away. However, just as he reached the door, there was a sudden crisp sound from the door latch. Both of them were stunned. Is someone coming? Logically speaking, Mother Liu Zhen knew that her daughter-in-law lived at home. You shouldn't just use the key to open the door without even saying hello, right? Besides, what happened last night? Liu Zhen should spend more time with the old man now. Of course, what Zhu Hui can think of, Liu Zuking can also think of. The next moment, the door was pushed open. Brother, you didn't expect that, did you? I'm on summer vacation now. I saw a girl about 17 or 18 years old standing outside the door, shouting into the room with a smile. A strange look flashed across Liu Zuking's pretty face. Then he turned his head and looked at Zhu Hui with a complicated expression. That expression seemed to be saying, "Are you human? How could you have the heart to lay your hands on such a young girl?" This time, Zhu Hui ignored Liu Zuking and stared at her with wide eyes. Zukian